I have very fond memories of Batman the Animated Series. I remember seeing episodes of this show when I was very young, as they were on DVDs that came in the Cocoa Pop cereal boxes down in here in Australia. Since seeing the show for the first time on those DVDs with episodes like The Last Laugh on them, I was hooked, and now I've decided to watch every single episode of Batman the Animated Series and rank them all. A hefty task, since this series has 109 episodes and it started off in 1992 and ended in 1999 with the new Batman Adventures. I'll talk about those episodes as well, since it's still technically the same show, but the main difference is just the massive redesigns. I'm going to be going through the episodes in order of their airing date, not by the production date. But to make it a bit easier, I will cover two-parter episodes together, as some two-parters have a gap in between airing of the second parts. I haven't watched some of these episodes in a very long time, so it'll be interesting to see how the show holds up, even with my nostalgia goggles off. Let's not waste any more time and just get into it. This is every Batman the Animated Series episode ranked. I forgot how fucking good the intro is to this show. Such a banger, and it's our first look at the style of the show, and I absolutely love it. The dark gothic atmosphere with the red sky is amazing, and it really feels like the perfect atmosphere for Batman. But as the episode goes, it follows Catwoman as she successfully steals a necklace from someone as she meets Batman for the first time. We also see Selina Kyle as she wins a date with Bruce Wayne, so this episode shows the two sides of their relationship, which is pretty neat. But with all that, we see the terrorist that calls themselves the Red Claw is going to target a train on the military escort as Batman tries to find out more about the Red Claw. Selina finds files about an abandoned military base at the end of the episode as someone's listening to their conversation. I don't know, but this episode doesn't do too much for me. The most interesting part about the episode is seeing Bruce and Selina's relationship form, as this is the first time they've ever met, as themselves and their alter egos. Obviously, the whole episode is just setting up the second part, as Batman and Catwoman will probably join forces to take down the Red Claw. But how about we find out how this two-parter ends? The second part of The Cat and the Claw starts off with Batman finding out about the train heist that the Red Claw is planning by interrogating a mobster. Batman interrupts the heist, but the Red Claw gets away with the virus she was after, and I love this clip.
Red Claw, watch out! Red Claw? A woman?
Do you have a problem with that?
Not at all. I'm an equal opportunity crime fighter.
Red Claw holds up Gotham for $1 billion ransom, or she will release a virus, so both Batman and Catwoman go to put a stop to Red Claw. It's basically the same vibes as the first part, and it's just alright. I don't find Red Claw that interesting, or their plan to spread the virus in Gotham. To be fair though, they weren't actually going to use the virus in Gotham, as her plan was to use it on Batman and Catwoman in the military base because she doesn't want to hurt the environment. I like how Selina and Bruce's relationship develops more in this episode, but this two-part is nothing special. It definitely isn't bad, but not amazing. Also surprised that Batman didn't end at least a few people here, as the whole military facility is ablaze. But I honestly don't think it's better than the first part. On Leather Wings is an episode all about the mystery of Man-Bat, where he's terrorizing Gotham and the police are investigating Batman for those crimes. It's pretty cool how this episode shows us our first look at not only Man-Bat, but also Harvey Dent, that ends up obviously becoming Two-Face. But throughout the episode, Batman tries to clear his name by finding out who is terrorizing Gotham, whilst the police are trying to chase Batman down. I love how Gordon knows that Bullock is wrong with his assumption that Batman's terrorizing Gotham. But this is the first example of seeing Batman doing detective work to solve an issue, and it's great. It's funny that the only live-action Batman movie that has detective work like this is in The Batman. He is the world's greatest detective after all, so it's good to actually see him be a detective. Also, the transformation of Man-Bat is awesome and really well animated. It's impressive even to this day, and honestly, this is the best episode so far in the series. It's a very solid episode, and I hope it only keeps getting better for me. So definitely at the top for the meantime. Holy shit, talk about the show getting better. Well, this episode's all about Mr. Freeze as he's committing crimes throughout Gotham to get parts to make a massive ice gun. Throughout the episode, we find out that Mr. Freeze is trying to get revenge on GothCorp's CEO Ferris Boyle because he shut down Victor's project to save his dying wife when working for GothCorp. Ferris Boyle ends up kicking Victor Freeze into a bunch of chemicals where it makes it impossible for him to survive without being in sub-zero temperatures. The backstory for Mr. Freeze is so good that everything since this episode has used this backstory for the character, as it really fleshed out a one-dimensional villain and made them into a three-dimensional character with a well-thought-out motivation. Batman manages to stop Mr. Freeze as he's about to completely freeze Ferris Boyle, and the final speech that Mr. Freeze says at the end of this episode is iconic for how well written and emotional it is.
I failed you. I wish there were another way for me to say it, but I cannot. I can only beg your forgiveness. and pray you'll hear me somehow. Someplace where a warm hand waits for mine.
Such a fantastic episode, and it's easily the best so far. Just the fact that they were able to make Mr. Freeze such an amazing character with one episode is really impressive. I really wonder if any episode will top this one. Interesting. We get our first look at Clayface, and in this episode, this first part is a lot like Heart of Ice, where they dive into the character's backstory. The episode starts off with Clayface, which is actually played by Ron Perlman, disguising himself as Bruce Wayne to get files off of Lucius Fox, and Lucius believed that it was Bruce, so now he's scared of Bruce Wayne. We find out that Clayface is an actor named Matthew Hagen that uses a chemical that can alter his appearance. Matthew uses the chemical to disguise himself as other people so he can get access to more of the chemicals. Whilst this is going on, Ronald Daggett is trying to take over Wayne Enterprises through insider trading, and also ends up dealing with Matthew. They end up turning Matthew into Clayface by pouring lots of the chemical all over his face. The episode ends with Bruce Wayne in custody as we get a look at Clayface in a car. I like this setup for the second part. It's definitely much better than The Cat and the Claw as so far as like a two-parter, since this has an interesting idea of having someone that's impersonating Bruce Wayne, and the real Bruce Wayne is facing the consequences. It's a really good episode, and it's just below Heart of Ice. So this continues the story right as Bruce Wayne gets out of custody, as we see Clayface packing everything to get out of the acting business. We see that Roland convinced Matt to use the chemical because he was in an accident, and Matt still wanted to be an actor. But we find out that Matt can now change his body completely just by thinking of them. Whilst talking about Roland, he's still going full force with trying to take over Wayne Enterprises, and Matt has his plans to try and take out Roland. Batman ends up finding one of Roland's henchmen and finds out that it's Matthew Hagen that impersonated Bruce to frame him. Batman finds out that Roland's the one that caused Matthew's condition, and as Clayface is trying to take out Roland, Batman faces off against him. The way Batman defeats Clayface is really well done, and the animation's amazing. Just look at this, and this was back in 1992 for a TV show. This episode's really good, and I really like the ending where they show that Clayface faked his death as if it was like an act to make people believe that he died. I think this is better than the first part. It's Never Too Late follows a story where Arnold Strongwell's son is kidnapped and he believes it to be Rupert Thorne that kidnapped him. Batman finds out that Rupert Thorne's planning on assassinating Arnold after disguising himself as a hobo. But Arnold then arrives at the restaurant to meet Rupert as he thinks he took his son. Rupert says to Arnold that he didn't do it, and as he walks out of the building, it's fully rigged to explode as Batman comes in to save Arnold. But word gets around to Rupert that Arnold survived pretty quickly as Batman takes Arnold around to his old neighborhood and even through a drug rehabilitation center. In the center, Arnold is shocked to see his wife in there with his son, Joey, as one of Arnold's dealers got Joey addicted. Arnold then agrees to hand over all the files incriminating himself and Thorne, but when doing so, he hands over fake files and pulls a gun on Batman. Rupert Thorne shows up trying to end them both, and they have to escape. The episode ends with Arnold's brother Michael confronting Arnold to do the right thing as Batman deals with Rupert Thorne, and the police arrive. It's a good episode. It isn't anything amazing, but I really do like the moments where Batman's showing Arnold how his empire is affecting his family, and if he keeps this up, it's only going to get worse. So far, this is above both parts of The Cat and the Claw, but just below on Leather Wings. Our first look at Mark Hamill's absolutely iconic Joker.
Well, I'm the Joker, baby!
And what is there to say about his performance that no one else has said yet? It's fantastic, and I don't think it'll ever be topped, as Mark Hamill is the Joker. Also, we get to see Harley Quinn voiced by Arlene Sorkin, which obviously she was made for the show, and she definitely gets her room to shine later on. But in the episode, it follows a man named Charlie Collins as he's driving home and gets shitty that people are cutting him off on the road, so after it happens with the cops and Batman speeding past, a different car speeds up to give them a bit of road rage. But as he catches up to the other car, he starts to get angry and realizes that it's the Joker that he's getting angry with, so he panics and tries to get away. The Joker catches up and lets Charlie off if he promises to do a favor for the Joker. We skip 2 years as the Joker rings Charlie for a favor that he promised, and the favor's opening a door so Harley can take a cake filled with bombs into a testimonial dinner with the police force in attendance. Harley put glue in the door handle so Charlie can't escape the explosion, but Batman comes in perfect time to get rid of the bomb and help Charlie. But as the Joker's trying to run away from Batman, Charlie corners the Joker with a bomb, and this moment is great because he actually scares the Joker because Charlie actually gets to him by saying he will die in the most unceremonious way by a nobody, and it's great. Joker's Favor is a pretty good episode, and it's pretty interesting to have an episode of the show that barely even has Batman in it, and instead it just centers around a random character that gets used by the Joker. and ends up on top at the end, and actually beats the Joker. It's obviously a less serious episode, and I think it really works because of that, and this goes just below Feeder Clay. Our first look at Poison Ivy. And in this episode, it starts off with Harvey Dent having a meal with his fiancée Pamela Isley and Bruce Wayne. Obviously, if you recognize that name, you know that Pamela is Poison Ivy. Duh. But Bruce arrives late as he is busy dealing with thugs, and after Pamela kisses Harvey, he seems to be not feeling well as he passes out and gets taken into hospital. At the hospital, we find out that he got poisoned at the restaurant, and I wonder who did that. After some detective work, Bruce finds out that the poison in Harvey is a lethal poison from a plant called Rosaic Valaris? I butchered that. I absolutely butchered that, but it's known as the wild thorny rose, and it's an extinct flower. Bruce starts to get suspicious of Pamela, so he does some digging to find out that she was the one responsible for poisoning Harvey. Who would have thought? But her whole motivation for poisoning Harvey is because he approved the construction of a penitentiary that would have made the flower extinct. Batman and Poison Ivy fight, and the whole place lights up in fire as he uses the flower as a way to get Poison Ivy to give him the antidote for the poison. And after that, Harvey gets better and Pamela ends up going to prison. It's an average episode. I don't have too much to say about this one, but it's just alright. It's probably better than both parts of The Cat and the Claw still. Nothing to Fear is an episode all about Scarecrow, which, let me get this out of the way, the original design of Scarecrow is goofy as hell, but the voice is pretty good. Talking about the Scarecrow, the episode starts with Scarecrow flying a helicopter onto the university's bank, as Bruce is at the university across the road. Also, I just noticed now, but when the characters are reading something in the show, they're usually reading a Tiny Toons book, which is a pretty cute little Easter egg since Bruce Timm worked on Tiny Toons. But they break in and give this security guard a nice taste of fear toxin, and then break into the vault. Batman comes in to stop them, and then as Batman's trying to take them down, the Scarecrow shoots him with a bit of fear toxin as the bank goes on fire. Bruce sees visions of his father saying that he's disgraced his family name, which is interesting since Dr. Long said the same thing to Bruce as he was in the university. Scarecrow basically says his backstory, which, long story short, he was a teacher at the university but wanted to learn more about fear and got let go because Dr. Long thought he went too far with it. I love this moment though after Bruce gets back to the Batcave after his run-in with Scarecrow and seeing visions of his father.
He says I'm shaming the family name.
That's rubbish. I know your father will be proud of you, because I'm so proud of you.
After that, Scarecrow attacks the museum as Dr. Long's there and Batman goes after him. Scarecrow gets Dr. Long and takes him on the blimp. Batman catches up to the blimp, and after finding a goon on the top of the blimp, he's hanging at the end of the blimp and sees visions of his father again, saying he's a disgrace. And here comes an iconic moment of the show.
No, you are not my father. I am not a disgrace. I am vengeance. I am the knight. I am Batman!
Yeah, this moment absolutely kicks ass. But after Batman gets into the blimp to stop Scarecrow, he escapes as Batman saves Dr. Long from the blimp that's about to explode. As Batman's in the Batmobile, the Batcomputer then finishes the analysis of the clothing Batman got from the heist at the start of the episode and reveals that Scarecrow is Jonathan Crane as Batman uses fear toxin on him.
I never thought I would say so many bat words in one sentence.
The vision Scarecrow has of Batman with fear gas literally gives me Gargoyles vibes. The Disney show Gargoyles, and it's awesome. This is a simple episode, but I quite like it as it really delves into Bruce's mind and how he wants to be doing his father proud, and that he fears that he isn't doing him proud. Overall, it's a good episode. Not much else to say. Another Joker episode.
Well, I'm the Joker, baby!
And in this episode, Mayor Hill's giving a speech at a construction site, and as that's happening, thugs crash their getaway car right near the stage as a bit of construction falls into the stage. Batman then comes in and stops the thugs, and the mayor talks to the press as the Joker hears what the mayor's saying, and he says that Batman is a rotten apple like the rest of them, so the Joker decides to come up with a plan to blow everyone up at Mayor Hill's son, named Jordan's birthday party. We see that Jordan's upset that his father's using his birthday as a political media event instead of an actual birthday party, and runs away with the Joker disguised as Jekko the Clown. After Jordan ran away, we see that he snuck into Jekko's truck as he convinces Jordan to do what he wants, and obviously Jordan doesn't know that he's the Joker, even when he's wearing his usual attire. Batman soon arrives and the Joker knocks him out with a bit of sleeping gas and puts Batman into a trap the same as the trick Houdini pulled off where he's in a straitjacket upside down in a tank full of water. Batman gets out, but the roof of the tank is locked and the Joker reveals himself to Jordan after he tries to free Batman.
Why does Jordan have the same hairstyle as the Joker? Like, I know it's a little bit different, but they basically look the same.
Jordan runs away from the Joker. As the Joker's chasing Jordan, we hear Tim Curry's Joker laugh.
No joke, Tim Curry was actually meant to be the Joker in this series. They even recorded a few episodes with Tim Curry as the Joker, but they obviously ended up replacing him with Mark Hamill, which I honestly think is for the better. Tim Curry is a great actor, but Mark Hamill can really show how disturbing the character can be, as well as how funny and comedic the character can be since he's literally a clown.
Batman gets out and chases the Joker on a roller coaster, and eventually the Joker gets knocked off the roller coaster, and Batman saves Jordan and takes him back home. This episode is good. By the way, yes, that came from this episode. It's a simple episode where the Joker's up to his usual antics, but it's interesting how the Joker keeps putting on his act, and then eventually uses it to his advantage to convince Jordan to help him take down Batman. Another episode with Roland Daggett.
You remember that guy that basically made Clayface?
But in this episode, Roland Daggett wants to blow up Crime Alley so he can use the land for a business venture. He hires an arsonist named Nitro, and hold on, I've heard that voice before.
Daggett, on account of explosives on my business. Okay, wise guy. Where's the rabbit?
I knew it! I knew it was the same actor, and the actor's name is David L. Lander.
We see that the whole of Crime Alley is going to blow up at 9 PM on the dot whilst Roland's giving a speech, and as Batman's out for his night of crime fighting, he finds out that Leslie, a friend of his, is gone. As Batman's in Leslie's apartment, we see that she's one of the people that confronted Bruce after his parents were shot, which is honestly quite sweet, and I like this inclusion quite a lot. Batman finds out where Leslie is, and that bombs are going to go off in Crime Alley after finding a bomb with the hobo he got the information from. So Batman interrogates Nitro to find out exactly what's going on, and finds out that it was Roland's plan to destroy Crime Alley, and he succeeds by blowing up all the abandoned buildings, but Batman managed to stop one bomb in time that actually had people still living in the building. The episode ends with Roland avoiding jail, but Leslie and Batman walk down Crime Alley as he puts 2 flowers down on the sidewalk. I find it interesting how someone else knows that Bruce is Batman, and I wish I saw more of this relationship since you only see it for about a minute total. I like this episode quite a bit actually. It's another simple episode, but I would probably say it's pretty equal with Be a Clown, but maybe I'd put this episode just below it. POV starts off with a criminal sting that Detective Bullock was running, and it goes wrong as officers Montoya and Wilkes arrive to see the building up in flames as Bullock is hurt outside of the building. The 3 of them are in Gordon's office with the lieutenant interrogating the 3 as they all explain their sides of the story, and it starts off with Bullock's story. He says that he saw Batman and went to investigate and couldn't wait any longer for backup. He then saw people break into a vault for cash and he accidentally made a loud noise but said it was Batman that must have done it as the criminals see him as Bullock tries to get away and the whole place lights up on fire as Batman saves Bullock. Then Welks' story is that he wasn't late and Bullock was down, but he assumed that Montoya went into the warehouse and he couldn't find the suspects until they tried to run him down in a car. Batman shows up, stops the car and interrogates one of the criminals, but Welks only hears him say Doc. Montoya then explains her side of the story, saying that she entered the burning warehouse to hear the words Hathcock. As she sees 2 of the criminals, as one of them throws a pile of cash at her, Batman comes in to stop the criminals. The whole place is going down and Batman saves Montoya by pushing her out of the way as some of the buildings are about to fall down on her. The lieutenant can't come up with a decision on the outcome yet, but suspends all the officers in the meantime. Whilst they're all suspended, Montoya decides to find a way to clear her name, and she does that by finding out what was being said is a building called Hathcock that's near the dock. Get it? Hathcock and dock? Hathcock's on the dock. She sees that Batman's tied up in the building as the criminals are waiting for their boss. Batman then escapes and takes down the thugs with Montoya's help as officers earn their badges back. It's interesting to have an episode mostly focusing on police officers in this show, but I don't think it works too well when 2 of them are cops we don't know at all. I do like the interrogation between the officers and the lieutenant, and it does have familiar faces like Commissioner Gordon and Detective Bullock, but it's not a bad episode. Stuff like this where certain characters tell their stories on events is an episode format that's definitely done better in the future of the show. It goes above Pretty Poison. Tick-tock says the clock. But in this episode it's all about a character named Temple Fugit as he's on the train with the councillor Hamilton Hill. And he tells him to relax a bit and change his schedule, such as take his coffee break at 3:15 instead of 3 o'clock. So the next day, Fugit changes his schedule by getting out of the office for once and loses his job after losing papers for a court case and being late to the court case. Then goes 7 years into the future and Hamilton's become mayor, and a bunch of cars are getting into accidents as we find out that Fugit was messing with the traffic lights and puts up a massive poster of Hill's mayor campaign with a drawing all over it. So now that Fugit's causing havoc, We see that he's now trying to go after Hill as he's hungry for revenge after Hill told him to change his schedule that ruined his job. I love that Batman quickly finds out that it's Temple Fugit causing all of this, just by finding one of the explosive watches and finding out who paid for the watch by using the serial number on the watch. But Fugit gets his revenge on Hill by kidnapping him and strapping him onto one of the arms on a giant clock, where he's going to be crushed by the hands at 3:15 on the dot, the same time that Hill told Fugit to take his coffee break. Obviously, Batman stops Fugit's plans by saving Hill as Fugit manages to escape. This is a good episode. I do like that the Clock King is actually pretty smart and almost 2 steps ahead of Batman most of the episode. It's a silly premise for a villain character, but I think this episode just rolls with it and embraces the silliness of the character and doesn't take it too seriously, which works well in this regard. This one goes just below It's Never Too Late, but above Be a Clown. This episode's way too nostalgic for me. It's literally the episode that got me into the show, and as I mentioned at the start of this video, it was on those Cocoa Pops DVDs, but let's try and look at the episode for what it is. So in this episode, the Joker's spreading laughing gas across Gotham on April Fool's Day, and Batman finds out that it's a submarine that's spreading the gas across Gotham and has to stop the Joker. I love how the Joker and his thugs act like they're shopping when everyone's laughing from the laughing gas, as they're just stealing everything they want. It's such a simple premise of an episode, but I think what really works with this episode is the interactions between the Joker and Batman. Also, it's funny to see Alfred play an April Fool's joke on Bruce within the first few minutes of the episode by saying he drew up his bath when he literally drew it on a piece of paper. Bruce does end up getting Alfred back as he says that he'll take money out of his salary for the damage he did to the house whilst he was affected by the laughing gas. There's no point really getting into too much details into exactly what happens in this episode because the whole episode is just the Joker infects Gotham and Batman has to stop him. But me and the homies love Captain Clown. May he rest in peace. Also, the main theme throughout this episode absolutely slaps. This episode goes above Nothing to Fear but below On Leather Wings. Damn, another Poison Ivy episode already? Well, this episode sees Poison Ivy targeting Bruce Wayne after someone a part of Wayne Enterprises approved the destruction of a rainforest without Bruce's knowledge. Ivy does this by sending a tape for a spa salon called Eternal Youth, but it's bait for Bruce Wayne to go so Poison Ivy can get revenge on Bruce, but instead Alfred and his spouse Maggie go to the salon after Bruce says that they should enjoy a weekend off. We see that Poison Ivy changed her name to Dr. Demeter and that she runs the whole facility, but surprisingly they both really enjoy themselves. It's actually pretty neat to see Alfred happy and enjoying himself for a change, but obviously Bruce is suspicious about this, especially when he gets back and ends up passing out after having a drink of the Eternal Youth chemicals. Bruce finds out that the chemicals combined with the human DNA can cause trees to grow, and that Poison Ivy has been baiting rich people to go to the spa salon to turn them into trees for the damage that they've caused to nature. So Batman comes in to stop Poison Ivy and manages to reverse the effects of the chemicals Poison Ivy was using to turn people into trees. It's a lot like Pretty Poison, but instead of targeting one person, she just goes after a bunch of different rich people that have destroyed different areas of nature for their projects. Not a bad episode, but this one goes above Pretty Poison. Here comes the best two-parter in the whole series. There's no argument. I fucking love these episodes so much. They're fantastic. But in the first part, we mostly follow Harvey Dent as he's trying to get elected as mayor of Gotham, but with that we get to delve into his mind where we see that he has multiple personality disorder. The show makes this evident even in the first scene of the episode where Harvey's having a nightmare of his other personality possibly taken over. We see it happen after he attacks one of Rupert Thorne's goons after taking them down in a raid Harvey was running, as after one of the goons kicked a bit of mud on his suit, the other personality takes over and he almost punches the goon. It only gets worse throughout the episode as he even loses it at his assistant after hearing that they were dropping a case about prosecuting Rupert Thorne. But Thorne sees all this going on and knows that there's something more to this, so he gets his assistant to dig up anything on Harvey. One detail I always love in this episode is when Harvey's seeing his therapist, and the therapist is just trying to get his other personality out, where we see Harvey as Two-Face as the lightning strikes. Just such a small detail that's absolutely amazing, and it really hints towards what he will end up becoming. And even things like his facial expression when he is his other personality is such an amazing touch. Eventually, Rupert Thorne gets access to Harvey's therapist's files to use against him, so he has to meet with Rupert to discuss what Harvey has to do for him to not release the files to the press. Harvey then changes to Big Bad Harv as Batman arrives to stop Harvey from punching one of his thugs and obviously stopping Rupert and his goons. Rupert gets the file and runs away, and Harvey chases after him. As Harvey's running after Rupert, one of Rupert's goons tries to shoot him but shoots an electrical box instead as the wires land in some flammable liquid that explodes and Harvey gets hit by the explosion. I love how this episode waits a few minutes to show you what Harvey looks like after the accident, as it lets you see a few reactions to how he looks before we get to see how he actually looks. This first episode is fantastic, so let's see if the second part is worse, just as good, or even better than the first part. This goes at the top of the list, above Heart of Ice. The second part takes place 6 months after the first part, where Harvey's now in his iconic white and black suit, and we see that his other personality is almost completely taken over. Two-Face then starts off by robbing one of Rupert Thorne's businesses. This nightmare sequence Bruce is having about the whole situation with Harvey Dent is near perfect. It shows the guilt Bruce feels for not being able to save someone important in his life so damn well. Thorne's trying to stop Two-Face, and he does this by using Grace as a way to bait Two-Face to where Rupert wants him. Rupert makes his assistant disguise herself as a detective to give Grace a device that tracks her location, so when she sees Harvey, Rupert will know exactly where he is without her knowing that Rupert's gonna know. Two-Face ends up ringing Grace to see her again, so she takes the device with her, and eventually Rupert Thorne and his goons catch up to Grace and Two-Face. Did they really have to make the two names rhyme? Like, it's literally so hard to say it over and over again. When they arrive, it's revealed to Two-Face that she was tricked into alerting them, as she thought she was alerting the authorities. After that, Batman shows up to deal with all the goons and everyone there, but the way he deals with Two-Face is by throwing a bunch of coins at him as he's tossing his iconic coin. The episode ends with Batman tossing his coin into a fountain, hoping for Harvey to recover. I think this episode's really good, and I'm glad that the second episode of the two-parter is a very strong episode as well. It's not as good as the first part, but not by much at all, as I really enjoy how the first episode dives into Harvey's psyche and makes you understand how he is, and to see his downfall is tragic. Also, both of these episodes really show Harvey and Grace's relationship really well, and after how Harvey's changed, that she still loves him and wants to help him. This goes just below the first part. Scarecrow's back, and this time Batman has Robin to help take down Scarecrow, and thank God they changed the design of Scarecrow. It does look a lot better here, but this isn't the best Scarecrow design in the series, which I'll talk about later. So in this episode, Scarecrow's been using fear toxin against athletes to get the outcome he wants in sports games so he can bet on those games and win money out of them. He first does this by using fear toxin against Dick Grayson's roommate, Brian Rogers, as he's playing a college football game and has the likelihood of getting drafted by a professional team. Later that night, Batman and Robin are out to stop criminals, and Robin ends up getting scared shitless when trying to go up a building to stop criminals. They find out that Scarecrow's using a powder on letters that he's delivering to athletes, and as they touch the letter, they get a type of fear toxin that only works as your adrenaline kicks in. Throughout the episode, Batman and Robin need to find Scarecrow and stop him before this affects any more people. Batman and Robin end up facing Scarecrow at another football game, and the episode ends with Brian getting drafted into a professional team. It's a very simple villain scheme that Scarecrow's up to in this episode, but it's not a bad one. It's not an amazing episode or anything, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit. This goes just below Be a Clown and above Appointment at Crime Alley. I've got Batman in my basement. It's something. But this episode starts with Batman trying to stop some thugs as a vulture attacks Batman. After that, two young kids see the vulture and find out that it's Penguin's pet, obviously using it to help them with their heist of stealing a priceless egg. Funny that this is the first appearance of the Penguin in the series. Batman then comes in to stop the Penguin, and eventually the Penguin sprays Batman with nerve gas, and the two kids end up saving Batman by managing to drive the Batmobile to safety. The young boy, Sherman Grant, ends up keeping Batman in his basement until Batman's feeling better as the Penguin's trying to find out where the two kids are so he can get the egg back. The episode ends up just becoming Home Alone as the kids set up traps for the Penguin and his goons in his house, and as they're about to get caught, Batman wakes up and deals with the Penguin. I find it weird because this episode is the lowest rated by quite a bit, but it isn't that bad. To be completely honest, this episode's pretty equal with The Cat and the Claw. It's definitely one of the weakest episodes so far in the series, but I still did enjoy it a bit, even though it focuses on Sherman and Roberta quite a lot. Just above Cat and the Claw Part 2. Killer Croc. Hell yeah, let's see what the show does with this character. This episode starts with a police boat with a bomb on it as the officers get off in time before the boat explodes. We then see Bullock talking to Gordon in his office as they're taking Bullock off the case, as some ancient history about Bullock is bound to come up if he stays in this case. Batman sneaks into GCPD to find Bullock's file, and as he's doing that, Bullock walks in to look at his file. He sees nothing and seems to be happy, but Batman actually got the file as Bruce and Alfred are looking at it back in Wayne Manor. They find out that Bullock had connections to Rupert Thorne in the past, but now they're trying to find out who planted the bomb on the boat. This scene of Killer Croc emerging to kidnap this person is very cool though. Honestly, would have been better if the show let him end people, but obviously that's too edgy for the show. Throughout the episode, Batman's trying to get answers on who planted the bomb by going to different people to find out, such as Rupert Thorne and Commissioner Gordon. But we find out that Killer Croc is disguising himself as Bullock so we can frame him for what he's doing, and eventually Bullock gets arrested for the crimes Croc is committing. Batman ends up finding out that it was Killer Croc behind all this as he goes to put an end to his reign, but only gets to save the victims the first time trying to apprehend him. Throughout the episode, we find out that Killer Croc has a vendetta against Bullock. Yes, I had to name drop the title of this episode, as he's the one that managed to put Killer Croc behind bars. Batman and Killer Croc face off as Killer Croc tries to get Bullock, and obviously this time Batman ends up defeating Killer Croc and putting him behind bars after Batman hands Croc to Bullock as they have a pretty good heart-to-heart. Yeah, seeing Batman tell Bullock that he respects him as an officer, even with their differences, is pretty good and probably the highlight of the episode after Batman even thought Bullock was guilty. Vendetta goes above being a clown but below the Clock King. This episode starts with a boat as a bomb blows up on a boat. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but this episode starts with a bomb exploding on a boat as well. Not a good sign for this one. But this boat is a cruise, and after the bomb goes off, everyone's panicking to get off as the ship's sinking into the water. We then see that Bruce is talking to a woman named Lisa and her father, Ethan, that was on the boat that sank, as he hands Bruce a pamphlet about Nostromos. And eventually we see that Nostromos is meant to be a prophet that's meant to help people with their lives. Bruce ends up going as Nostromos says that Bruce is marked for death and his glass shatters, and now Bruce is trying to find out what's really going on with Nostromos. Batman quickly finds out who Nostromos is and that he has a second-hand man that helps him, and the next day at Wayne Tower, Bruce almost dies as someone working for Nostromos tries to mess with the elevator to end Bruce. Bruce ends up tricking Nostromos into believing that Bruce wants to join the Brotherhood after his near-death experience so he can find out more about what's going on. Lisa sneaks into the Brotherhood without anyone knowing, but Lucas kidnaps her, and now after all this, Batman has to come and put a stop to Nostromos' plans. Ethan goes in to see Nostromos, and he finally reveals that he was scamming the mole as Ethan sees her daughter strapped up to one of the model planets. Batman soon comes in to put a stop to Lucas and Nostromos and save Ethan and Lisa. The episode ends with Bruce, Ethan, and Lisa enjoying some tea, and to be honest, this episode is probably the worst so far. It isn't a bad episode, but it's just pretty bland, and there's nothing much else to the episode, unfortunately. I'm really just scraping for anything to say about this episode because it's just so forgettable. Bottom of the list. The Forgotten starts with Bruce helping out a homeless shelter as someone else mentions to him that homeless people are disappearing in the neighborhood. Bruce then puts on a disguise to find out what's really going on with how homeless people are disappearing, and as he's investigating, two people try to knock him out, and one of them ends up knocking him out by a surprise. Bruce wakes up in a barn with other homeless people sleeping around him as he's chained by his ankle to his bed and seems to have amnesia, not remembering his own name. We see this massive hunk of a man running the whole facility where he's using homeless people to force them to mine gold for him. So this whole episode's basically a prison escape episode where we see conditions that they're stuck in until they manage to escape. Whilst this is going on, Alfred's beginning to worry about Bruce and does a bit of digging to find out what's going on. Bruce eventually gets his memory back halfway through the episode, and we get this amazing nightmare sequence that starts to get his memory back, and the visuals in nightmare sequences in this show are always amazing. But honestly, Alfred's so fly about how he found out where Bruce is by putting a tracking device on a truck that's driving away, and eventually finds Bruce with the Batwing. Batman ends up putting an end to the whole thing at the end of this episode, and it's a solid little side adventure. It obviously doesn't take itself too seriously, but it definitely is a charming episode with Bruce even offering the other people in the prison a job at Wayne Enterprises at the end. Goes above Appointment in Crime Alley. The Mad Hatter. Let's see how this show handles this character, and let's be honest, he's a pretty goofy character. But at the start, we see that Jarvis Tech has tech that can mind control people to do what he wants them to do with a device that goes on your head, and that he works at Wayne Enterprises, and we see Bruce walk into the room and Tech says that his experiment isn't ready as Bruce allows him more time to finish his project. After this, we find out that Tech has a crush on a receptionist named Alice, and then finds out that she has a boyfriend and he's mad about it. Tech can't get over Alice, so he does contemplate using mind control to make him date her, but he overhears Alice crying as they broke up and gets happy about it. Jervis then decides to dress up as the Mad Hatter as he takes Alice out for a night out after looking at his poster of Alice in Wonderland. It seems to be going quite well until two thugs try to rob Tech, where he uses mind control devices to get rid of the thugs by using the 10/6 cards as a transmission receiver. Batman stumbles upon the two thugs that were told to jump into a river and saves them both. The cards fall off their heads. Batman sees it was some tech device being used to mind control them. So Jervis goes around town using the device to make the night as best as possible for Alice as Tech wants to impress her, and Batman finds out that it's Jervis pretty easily by connecting the dots and remembering that he saw the poster earlier that day. The Mad Hatter ends up mind controlling Alice. Obviously he's gone mad and he wants to be with her so badly. Batman is then on the chase to stop the Mad Hatter. Batman ends up confronting the Mad Hatter in a maze full of cars as he's pinned down by a massive Jabberwocky statue. I like this backstory for the character quite a lot. Just a man that likes Alice in Wonderland a lot and decides to dress up as the Mad Hatter to try and impress his crush that coincidentally has the name Alice, and ends up mind controlling people to get what he wants. By the way, this isn't even the best episode featuring the Mad Hatter, but I enjoy it. Goes above Nothing to Fear but below The Last Laugh. This episode starts with a man named McWhirter walking through a mini golf course as he's following instructions on a piece of paper to find a certain person. The man ends up getting trapped in the quicksand after following a person's instructions and is told to cough up about the location of bearer bonds. We then see Gordon and Batman talking about the situation as they quickly come to the conclusion that it was Wormwood, known as the interrogator, behind all of this, and he uses death traps to get information out of people. Batman ends up confronting one of Wormwood's associates named Baron at a speech, and he's trying to give the information about where Wormwood is, but he gets absolutely nothing. Baron's pissed about how Batman made him look at the speech he was giving, so he comes up with a plan to get Wormwood to get Batman's cape and cowl. Wormwood then sends a letter to Batman telling him where he is, and obviously Wormwood gets Batman into a trap as he gets stuck in a train as that same train's going to run over a woman in a minute's time. Batman gets out in time and tries to save the woman, but finds out it's a hologram as Wormwood drives away. Wormwood then sets up another trap at the Wax Museum as Batman arrives and falls victim to a trap where he's stuck in a room with a 20,000 watt light bulb that will end up melting Batman. Batman gets rid of the bulb by using a skeleton from a wax sculpture to destroy the light, but toxic gas comes into the room and Wormwood actually wins. Batman gives up his cape and cowl but has a second mask on to protect his identity, and catches up to Wormwood by disguising himself as Baron, and it's revealed that Batman was disguising himself as Baron every time he spoke to Wormwood. They end up fighting for a bit, and obviously Batman ends up winning and puts Wormwood behind bars. It's cool to have a new villain in this show that's a lot like Jigsaw in the Saw movies with his traps and all that, but honestly he's a bit lackluster because he's quite bland. This episode's alright, but to be honest it's probably one of the weakest episodes yet. Goes above Eternal Youth. We have another amazing episode on our hands, oh boy. But funny enough, the title to this episode shares a title of an episode from the Twilight Zone. I don't know if that was intentional, but it is interesting. The episode follows Batman as he's taking down some thugs and ends up getting knocked out by something above falling on him. Bruce then wakes up the next day as the moments seem to be a nightmare, but something seems a bit off. Bruce talks to Alfred about the night before, but Alfred has no idea what he's talking about, and Bruce even tries to get into the Batcave, but can't as Alfred still doesn't know what he's talking about, and as Bruce tries to explain it to Alfred, his father walks in to ask if everything's alright. Obviously, Bruce is extremely confused and can't believe it's real, so he decides to ask Alfred if he can tell him about his life to humour him. Bruce is still finding it hard to accept all of this as he seems to have ended up in reality where everything he ever wanted is real, and gets very shocked after finding out that Batman still exists in this reality as well, but it isn't Bruce. Bruce accepts this reality for a moment, but finds out that it isn't reality after trying to read a newspaper. He sees random letters all over the page. He then thinks that Batman's responsible for this, so he decides to climb up a church building into a graveyard to get Batman's attention, calling out for him, as this building's a part of his nightly patrol. Batman then arrives as they fight it out for a little bit. It's then revealed to be the Mad Hatter behind all this as we see the Mad Hatter behind the cowl. So now the Mad Hatter explains everything and that this is just a fantasy world made for Batman, and Bruce begs for the Mad Hatter to take him back. Obviously this Mad Hatter is only a figment of Bruce's imagination, so he can't do anything. Mad Hatter explains that it's impossible to escape the dream world, so to find a way out, Bruce decides to jump off the building and manages to come back to reality. After that, he takes down the Mad Hatter as he's surprised that he got out, and explains that he's willing to give Batman anything he wanted just to keep him out of his life, as he believes Batman ruined his. This is excellent. I love how we get to see how Bruce's life could have been if everything went the way he wanted it to, and not how it really went. Also, let me say that this episode really shows how talented Kevin Conroy was, because in this episode he doesn't only just voice Bruce and Batman, he also voices Thomas Wayne and has to differentiate Bruce's voice to Batman's in the climax of this episode, and it's amazing. It's so hard to place these amazing episodes as they're all really good, and I think it mainly comes to a personal opinion. This episode goes just below Heart of Ice but above Feet of Clay Part 2. I just think Heart of Ice is a bit better as it completely reinvents a character and does it so well. The Underdwellers starts off with Batman coming in to save a kid that's stuck on top of a moving train when playing chicken. He saves the kid, and it's a great line that he says to the kids.
You play chicken long enough, you fry.
Later that night, Batman's out to stop a thief right after they stole a woman's purse, and he hears that it was apparently a leprechaun after he can't catch up to the thief. We then see that it's a bunch of homeless kids living in the sewers that they were stealing purses and jewelry from people of Gotham, but we see that they have a leader called the Sewer King. He claims to be the king over all these kids. He obviously doesn't treat them well because after one of the kids spoke, the Sewer King puts him in a room with bright lights as punishment because they're always in the dark. The kids go out again to steal more things for the Sewer King as Batman eventually finds one of the kids that was stealing goods. Batman uses the boy named Frog as he takes him back to Wayne Manor and eventually gets information from him to find the Sewer King's whereabouts. Not too long after that, the Sewer King finds out that Frog is missing as Frog leads Batman to the sewers where all the other kids are and eventually confronts the Sewer King and his crocodiles. Or alligators, they look similar. The Sewer King almost loses Batman, but of course he catches up and lets the law deal with the Sewer King as the kids are set free. It's an alright episode. It really should have leaned more into the fact that Batman has a massive issue with the Sewer King taking advantage of children, as we see a little bit of it with Batman saying this.
But this time, I am sorely tempted to do the job myself.
It really should have shown that more, as there's quite a bit you could do with Batman's character when he's seeing children being put in harm's way, and potentially get more aggressive because the Sewer King's taking advantage of children. It's a strange idea for an episode that could have been done well, but it's done decently at least. I surprisingly did enjoy it, but I think it goes above POV but below Appointment in Crime Alley. So this episode starts off with the ninja sneaking into Wayne Enterprises and stealing a big sum of cash from a safe, and even fucks with one of the officers by getting rid of his gun with a ninja star and even cutting his torch in half, which is pretty funny for him just to mess with one officer. Bruce then finds out about the ninja that stole the money from Wayne Enterprises as he gets a flashback about a person named Kyorai Ken that beat him in karate, so obviously Bruce has a good idea as to who could have done this. As Batman's going out at night, he runs into the ninja and ends up fighting him. They fight it out and the ninja uses sleeping gas on him. The ninja's about to end Batman as Robin comes in to stop the ninja, and as he's getting away, Robin throws a batarang at him and reveals the same tattoo of Kyorai Ken. We get another flashback seeing that Kyorai was going to steal the sensei's sword, and as Bruce confronts him, Sensei kicks Kyorai out of the dojo, but the flashback does reveal that Kyorai is out for revenge on Bruce Wayne, as he blames him for getting kicked out of the dojo. But after the flashback, we see Bruce at the museum as a reporter's following him around, and eventually Bruce gets in his car as the reporter tries to confront him about his time in Japan. As that happens, we find out that Bruce's servant was actually Kyorai as he knocks him out with sleeping gas. Bruce and the reporter eventually wake up, and Kyorai explains that he became a thief because of how Bruce caused him to get kicked out of the dojo, and as that's going on, Robin is coming in to save Bruce. Robin and Kyorai fight, and eventually Kyorai thinks he's dealt with Robin after making a water tower fall on him. But Bruce gets out of his restraints, acting like he's going to try and fight him, but lets Kyorai kick his ass for a little bit because the reporter can see what's going on. Eventually Robin covers the reporter with a rug, and now because she can't see what's going on, Batman kicks Kyorai's ass, and he manages to escape. Honestly, in my opinion, Kyorai is a pretty bland character, and it seems pretty dumb that he didn't figure out that Bruce is now Batman, especially since they were in the same dojo. There isn't much else to say, this one goes above the Forgotten but below Fear of Victory. Finally, an episode with more than one villain character. Took long enough. But the episode starts with Batman watching over a deal where an ex-judge named Maria is paying for a tape, and obviously Batman interrupts as the tape ends in the river as the thugs get away. So now Batman has to find out what's in the tape, as it obviously seems like something serious if Maria was willing to spend that much money for it. Batman finds out through Commissioner Gordon that she stayed at a certain stress relief resort, so Bruce decides to stay there to find out what's going on. Bruce finds out that Dr. Hugo Strange is the one behind the stress relief resort, and that he's invented a machine that allows him to see people's thoughts, as he's been using it on Bruce to find out that he's Batman. Hugo gets all of his memories on a tape, so Hugo has a tape that shows that Bruce is Batman, and is even going to bid off the tape to which villain pays the most for it out of the Joker, Two-Face, and the Penguin. Bruce finds out about this after snooping around when Hugo leaves a resort for a moment, where he finds a bunch of tapes of different people's memories. The three villains arrive at the resort to bid for the tape as Bruce is sneaking around, and eventually Bruce destroys the machine so it can't cause any more harm, and Hugo ends up tying Alfred and Bruce up. This is such a goofy idea, just seeing villains bid on a tape, that I actually love it, but the Joker ends up winning the bid as Bruce gets out of his restraints. Eventually we see that the tape Hugo Strange has is actually a tape showing him saying that he's trying to scam them, and obviously the villains try to get to Hugo as he's running away. Hugo gets to the airport where the villains catch up to him and take him on a flight when Batman manages to get on board, and we see Hugo is scared of flights. Hugo tries to tell them that Bruce Wayne's Batman, but they all don't believe him, thinking he's absolutely insane. So the villains are about to throw Hugo out of the plane as Batman cuts the fuel line in the plane and eventually the plane crashes. Batman then confronts them all as the police arrive and they're all taken to Arkham. Yeah, the best part of this episode is seeing all the villains together, and honestly, the ending is pretty clever as well. The ending has Dick disguised as Bruce Wayne show up as Hugo tries to tell Commissioner Gordon that Bruce Wayne is Batman. After the start of this episode, it doesn't take itself seriously much at all, and I really like that as it gets goofy, especially when the other villains show up. This goes above It's Never Too Late, but below Nothing to Fear. Tiger starts off with Selena Kyle snooping around a zoo as she gets knocked out by an anthropomorphic gorilla that shot her with a tranquilizer. Bruce was meant to have dinner with Selena that night, but obviously she doesn't show up now, so Bruce is trying to figure out what happened. He knows that someone had taken Selena after seeing a tranquilizer dart on the ground at the zoo, so he now has to find out where she is. Whilst that's going on, we see Selena being held captive by a man named Dorian, and that this man has turned two different people into anthropomorphic animals, such as the person that knocked out Selena named Garth, and a man-tiger hybrid named Tigress. Yeah, you can't say that the animal-human hybrids didn't awaken something in some people. Whilst in captivity, Selena gets turned into a cat-human hybrid because Dorian makes her the perfect mate for Tigress, and Bruce finds out pretty quickly that it's Dorian behind all of this after showing someone the dart. Batman then arrives at Dorian's lair as Garth fights Batman, and then Dorian shows Batman what he's done to Selena. Dorian then tells Batman if he beats Tigress in a fight, he will give the antidote for Selena. Dorian's also trying to complete the process of making sure Selena stays a cat-human hybrid, but she runs away, and as that's going on, Batman gets answers for exactly what's going on by Tigress after he's restrained. Tigress soon gets out and chases after Batman, and Selena ends up seeing Batman as Tigress catches up. Selena tries to tell Batman that Tigress isn't the enemy, as Tigress then goes back to Dorian, and eventually Batman and Selena catch up as Dorian pulls a gun on Batman. Tigress stops him, and eventually the whole place explodes as Tigress and Dorian are stuck in the explosion. As it may seem, but we see Tigress walking out with Dorian in his arms as the episode ends with Tigress giving Selena the antidote after Selena says that she has to be human again. Batman then says a rhyme at the end about a tiger as we see Tigress walking away. This episode's alright. It's nothing amazing, but it's just a decent episode. There's not too much to say, besides from it being a really weird premise for an episode where they're just changing people into anthropomorphic animals. A third Scarecrow episode. God damn, but this episode starts off with Batman in captivity at Arkham as he's trying to tell the guards that you need to tell Commissioner Gordon and Dr. Wu about something. After Dr. Bartholomew told Batman that there's always time to heal, Batman says this.
There's always time to heal, the doctor told me. But he was wrong. There was no time left. Not for me, not for him, and not for Gotham City. And as long as I remained trapped in Arkham, there was nothing I could do, except wait for the end and remember the beginning.
Which I think is really well done to set up the flashback sequence that Batman narrates. Batman tells us a story about how people were messing with the water supply, and Batman tries to put a stop to all of this as a 20-second timer starts. Batman then finds a machine attached to the drinking water supply and ends up destroying the machine after he uses the thug he was taken down to destroy it. Batman takes the machine back to the Batcave as he sees Joker walking up to him. But as he looks to see who it is, it's just Alfred, and it's obvious already that there was some kind of gas that they were going to pump into the water supply. Batman tries to find out what's going on after the thug wakes up, but a doctor walks in to ask what's going on. Batman then says whatever happened to him is happening to him as well, as they find out Batman has a toxin in his bloodstream. The doctor says that they can use an antidote that will knock him out for 2 days, and Batman ends up taking the antidote and leaves, but obviously he doesn't use it as he can't take the risk of being out of action for 2 days. As Batman's in the Batmobile, he crashes it after seeing a vision of Robin pop up in front of him, and that's how he ended up in Arkham. Obviously the people in Arkham think that he's mad and he's just making the whole thing up, and in this scene they confirm that the Joker's Jack Napier in this universe. But Batman's trying to tell him that Scarecrow's up to something no good, and they still don't believe him as Scarecrow's still in his cell apparently. We then see that Scarecrow intentionally set up Batman to get him put in Arkham, and that everything that's unfolded was meant to happen. But hey, here's another cool nightmare sequence. Literally, the visuals in this scene are really well done. Now we see that Scarecrow's at Gotham's water supply as he intends to poison the water supply so the whole city will be infected by fear toxin, and as that's going on, Batman's trying to escape Arkham and get to the water supply. He gets to the basement of Arkham as he's seeing visions of Batman's villains as well as Alfred and Robin, as the visions seem to have stopped. Batman then catches up to Scarecrow as he manages to take him down and stop his plans to poison the water supply and overcome his visions. The episode ends with Scarecrow engulfed by the fear toxin as he's scared for his life, and Bruce finally getting some rest to get rid of the fear toxin. Yeah, this is the best episode with Scarecrow so far. The whole idea of Batman being in Arkham is quite interesting as all the people working there don't believe a thing is saying about Scarecrow's plan. I think it's a really interesting idea for an episode, and it's well done, so I think this goes above The Last Laugh but below On Leatherwings. Fuck yes. I've been looking forward to watching one of my favorite episodes of the series again. But this episode starts off with a scene from the show The Grey Ghost, where we see a title card for The Grey Ghost, as well as the episode title. We then see a young Bruce Wayne watching the TV show with his Grey Ghost doll and outfit on, as in the show an explosion erupts at a plastics factory. This mirrors what's currently happening in Gotham as a bomb goes off at a plastics factory in Gotham, as Batman has to find out what's going on. It goes back to a flashback again where we see the Grey Ghost voiced by the one and only Adam West. Yes, the 1966 Batman himself, as he receives a note from the Mad Bomber saying to pay up or pay the consequences. The exact same happens in Gotham with the note and everything, so Batman later that night as he's sleeping remembers the Grey Ghost. The next day, Bruce tries to get the episodes but has to find the actor that played the Grey Ghost named Simon Trent. We see Trent's currently living in Gotham as a struggling actor and even struggling to pay his rent. He receives a call from his manager telling him that he didn't get a certain part, and after this he gets angry and fed up that he's remembered as the Grey Ghost as he trashes his apartment. The next day, Trent takes in all of his memorabilia to sell it to a toy store to pay for the rent, and he wakes up the next day to see it all back on his shelves as a note's left on the costume. The note says for him to meet near the Gotham Art School at night, so Trent goes there and sees Batman. He'd be shitting his pants, so he tries to run away as Batman says he needs his help. Batman catches up and tells Trent what's going on, and basically says that he needs to help find out what's going on as it's the same as what happened in an episode of The Grey Ghost. Trent recognizes a noise, but after that he runs away to his apartment as an explosion goes off near them. Trent gets to his apartment as Batman's waiting for him. Trent helps him by giving Batman the film roll of the episode The Mad Bomber, and damn, this is good writing.
I used to admire what the Grey Ghost stood for.
I'm not the Grey Ghost.
I can see that now.
Bruce ends up watching the film, and as he's watching it, we get another flashback to Bruce enjoying the show as a child. I really love seeing this stuff. Seeing Bruce remember times in his childhood where he's happy is great, as most of the time with the flashbacks you usually just see his parents dying and stuff like that. Bruce ends up finding out that the noise that they heard that night was remote-controlled toy cars with explosives on them. The next time the Mad Bomber attacks, all of GCPD knows exactly what to expect as they manage to stop all the toy cars, and Batman ends up having two cars trying to chase him as the Grey Ghost saves him with a rope. We see Trent in his Grey Ghost outfit as Batman refers to him as Grey Ghost. They both end up going into the Batmobile as more toy cars are chasing after them. They get away, but they have one of the toy cars, so Batman does a scan on it in the Batmobile, and it's wild to see Batman fanboying over something. But it's also kind of wholesome as it's a good memory from his childhood. The fingerprints on the toy car come up as Simon Trent's, but Trent tells him that it wasn't him, but he remembers that he sold his toys to the toy store as Batman and the Grey Ghost confront the toy collector. They confront the toy collector as the whole store ends up blowing up from the toy cars. But as the whole place blows up, the toy collector sulks about his toys and gets arrested. The episode ends with a video release of The Grey Ghost as Simon Trent is signing posters, and Bruce goes up to get his copy of the video release signed, and it ends with this.
Here you go, Bruce.
Thanks, Mr. Trent. You know, as a kid, I used to watch it with my father. The Grey Ghost was my hero.
Really?
And he still is.
Yeah, this episode is as good as I remember it. It's so different to see Bruce remembering something positive from his childhood and him eventually partnering up with his idol is perfect. Also, the fact that it's Adam West voicing the Grey Ghost just adds so much more to it all, basically just saying that without the original 1966 show, they wouldn't have this series. It's just fantastic. It's a light-hearted episode that I think is done so well, and it's still definitely one of my personal favourites. It goes above Perchance the Dream, but below Heart of Ice. Jokes aside, the episode starts off taking place after The Cat and the Claw, where Selena gets 5 years probation, and she obviously isn't allowed to be Catwoman again. The episode mostly follows Selena as she gets back into her apartment and finds out that her cat Isis is missing. Selena decides to go look for a cat, asking people around Gotham if they've seen a cat, and unfortunately no one has. She finds 2 strays in an alleyway as people come in to take the strays away by bagging them up. Selena intervenes as they're not from an animal shelter, and Batman intervenes by taking out the 2 thugs Selena was trying to stop. The authorities arrive as Selena's taken in for questioning. Whilst that's going on, we see Roland Daggett again. Really? Roland Daggett sucks. But apparently he's behind a scheme where people are injecting strays with something that makes them more aggressive, as they inject Isis with the same thing. Selena leaves the police office as Bruce picks her up and talks about how Roland Daggett is up to something, but we see that Selena has suited up in her Catwoman costume to see what's going on. She finds Isis in one of the cages, and as she takes the cat out, Isis bites her, infecting her with a toxin. Catwoman gets away, but starts to feel ill from the toxin, and as she's getting away, Batman comes in and takes her to the hideaway. Selena gets some rest as Batman goes to find out what's really going on by confronting Daggett, and one of Daggett's goons releases an infected dog on Batman. Batman runs back to near Selena's hideout as the dog and Batman are on thin ice, and he stops the dog by spraying it with the antitoxin. The thugs catch up and make Batman fall underwater by shooting a thin layer of ice. He ends up getting to the thugs by attacking them from underneath. Batman gets to Selina and gives her the antitoxin as they go and stop Daggett's plan. The episode ends with Selina's cat Isis showing up in her apartment as Batman used the antitoxin on Isis and delivered the cat back to her. This is just another episode that develops Selina and Bruce's relationship, and yeah, it's alright. It's better than the other episodes that try to do this so far in the series, but it goes above the Underdwellers. I Am the Night starts off at the Batcave as Batman's sitting down and he's feeling tired, and God, another good line coming through.
A weary body can be dealt with, but a weary spirit, that's something else. Sometimes, old friend, I wonder if I'm really doing any good out there. I've put out a few fires, yes, won a few battles, but the war goes on, Alfred. On and on.
So yeah, Batman's feeling a bit down the dumps at the moment, and after that we see Commissioner Gordon and Bullock waiting for Batman as he's meant to come help stop the Jazzman. We see that Batman's seeing Leslie at the moment instead, as he feels like he's wasting his time. Doing what he does is he puts a set of flowers down where his parents were murdered. As that's happening, Batman sees someone getting jumped in the alleyway as he comes in to stop them and successfully does. We then go back to Commissioner Gordon and Detective Bullock, and they decide to move in on the Jazzmaster, and Gordon realizes that it was a setup. Batman takes out some thugs, but the Jazzmaster's getting away in a truck, and of course Batman catches up to the truck and manages to stop it. They get the Jazzmaster, but they realize that Commissioner Gordon's on the ground after being shot. They then rush Gordon into the hospital. Gordon's in intensive care as Batman arrives, and damn, this shit's so good.
I don't know if you can hear me, Jim. I'm sorry. If I hadn't stopped in Crime Alley.
Both Barbara and Detective Bullock come in as Barbara defends Batman whilst Bullock blames Batman for what happened. We then see Bruce back at the Batcave get angry and destroy half of the Batcave, and after that we see the Jazzmen's being taken into Stonegate Penitentiary. Yes, the same one from the episode Pretty Poison. Jazzman's trying to get out of Stonegate as he wants to get revenge on Gordon as he busted him in the past. But we see Dick trying to comfort Bruce because he's taken the news about Gordon really hard as he feels guilty for not being there. Also, Bruce basically says that Gordon's a father figure to him since he's about the same age his father would have been, and once again, this is good. Dick's trying really hard to get Bruce to stop Jazzmaster, but Bruce finally suits up after Dick was about to go and put a stop to Jazzmaster himself, and says that Bruce has to do it, not him. Jazzmaster makes his way through the hospital and eventually gets outside Gordon's window as he's about to shoot Gordon. Batman then comes in to stop Jazzmaster as he's about to pull the trigger, and they fight it out. Jazzmaster then gets a gun and is about to shoot Gordon as Batman gets rid of the gun by using a batarang. Cops come in and arrest Jazzmaster as Gordon wakes up. But God, why is this so emotional? God damn. This episode was so much better than I remember it being. I really enjoyed this episode and seeing how much guilt Bruce feels for Gordon getting shot and blames himself for all happening. You really see that he doesn't want to lose anyone else important to him in his life, as he's already had to go through all of that with his parents, and it's amazing stuff. I really think the best stuff in this show is when they delve into the characters' minds to see how they react to certain events and scenarios, as the character stuff is so engaging and a lot of the time emotional as well. This episode's a sleeper hit for me, and I would put this up pretty damn high. It goes above Fear Declare Part 1 but below Part 2. The only thing pulling it back is interrupting those amazing moments with Jazzman's prison escape. Another banger in a row. God damn. I feel like a lot of people talk about this episode a lot, so let's see if it's as good as everyone says it is. So this episode follows the Joker, Penguin, Two-Face, Poison Ivy, and Killer Croc playing a game of poker as they're talking about Batman, theorizing about why Batman became who he is. I love the interaction between Two-Face and Poison Ivy, as the last time we saw the two together, they were dating, and Poison Ivy poisoned Harvey Dent in the episode Pretty Poison. But after that, they start to get into an argument about who's been the closest to ending Batman, and the Joker interrupts to say everyone has their almost gotten Batman story, and that his is the best. So the Joker tells Poison Ivy to tell her story first as he's saving his for last. Poison Ivy almost got him by having pumpkins that release poisonous gas, and he almost passes out from the gas until he manages to call a Batmobile in and get a gas mask on. Then Two-Face explains his story where he had Batman strapped to a giant penny without his utility belt. Two-Face then makes the giant coin flip so there's a 50-50 chance that he'll get squashed, but Batman gets the coin and uses it to cut the rope so he gets off the coin. Batman then gets out and takes out Two-Face, and Killer Croc explains that,
"There I was, holed up in this quarry. When Batman came nosing around, he was getting closer, closer.
And?
I threw a rock at him."
This shit's hilarious, and this episode works so damn well because the interactions between these villain characters is great. But then the Penguin explains his story where he was up to a scheme at the zoo as Batman comes to confront him. The Penguin runs into a room and locks Batman in as poisonous hummingbirds are pecking at him. Batman stops the birds by hitting a water sprinkler with his batarang, and as he's about to use an antidote for the poison, a cassowary attacks Batman. Batman then uses one of the hummingbirds to poison the cassowary, and the bird walks away, so Batman gets to use the antidote on himself. Batman then escapes before the place explodes as the Penguin gets away with his umbrella. The Joker then finally explains his story, how he almost got him, and he did it by strapping Batman to an electric chair that goes up in intensity the more the crowd laughs. The crowd's forced to laugh because the Joker infects the crowd with laughing gas, and as Batman's about to be electrocuted to death, Catwoman comes in and saves Batman. But Catwoman then gets knocked out, and after that, the Joker admits exactly where Catwoman's being held, and then it's revealed that Killer Croc is Batman in disguise, and the GCPD have surrounded them. Batman then comes in to save Catwoman and stops Harley Quinn. But after that, Catwoman and Batman talk on the roof about settling down, as Catman wants to settle down with Batman, but he then says maybe and leaves. Catwoman ends the episode by saying almost got him. Yeah, this episode's awesome. It's an extremely simple premise of an episode, just having villains playing poker and tell their stories about how they almost off Batman, and it's done so well. The episode really shines because of the interactions between each of the villains, and I also forgot to mention, but I love the little details such as seeing Batman when the light isn't on Killer Croc. This episode goes above Beware the Grey Ghost, but below Heart of Ice. Moon of the Wolf starts with a man in his work clothes for the zoo as he's walking his dog at night and the dog starts barking. They see nothing, but then a werewolf comes out of the bushes and throws the dog away. The werewolf chases after the man until he gets knocked out, and Batman shows up to fight the werewolf. The werewolf then throws the unconscious man in the river. As Batman saves him, the werewolf disappears. But after that fiasco, it's now up to Batman to find out who this werewolf is, if it actually is a werewolf, or just a person in a costume. Throughout the episode, we see someone called Milo using Mr. Romulus for their own needs, as we find out that the werewolf is an actual werewolf, because we see the Wolfman turn back into a man named Mr. Romulus. We know it's him after Batman meets up with him and Mr. Romulus knocks him out with some type of gas. After that, we know that Milo's using the cure for Mr. Romulus as a tool to make him to do what Milo wants him to do. We also find out that Milo gave Mr. Romulus a drug that enhanced his strength so he could win gold in athletics, and in the end, that same drug is what caused him to turn into a werewolf. Milo makes Mr. Romulus turn into a werewolf again as he tries to get the antidote from him, as Milo decides to throw it on the ground, destroying it. The werewolf then sees Batman chained up, and as he's walking up to him, Batman manages to get out of his restraints. They both fight it out, and eventually the werewolf's defeated after lightning strikes a crane that he got hit by. The episode ends with the werewolf howling to the moon, and let me say, this is the weakest episode so far. I'm just not interested in what's going on in this episode. I could care less about Anthony, Romulus, and Milo, but they're the focus for half of the episode, and that kinda sucks. They could have just done more with the fact that Romulus turns into a werewolf, but they just didn't. They just use him as a character for Batman to fight, which is unfortunate. Bottom of the list. Man-Bat's back at it again. Alright, I'm keen for this. So we start on the docks where men are unloading boxes from a truck as Man-Bat attacks, but when Man-Bat attacks, he just goes straight for the fruits and the boxes that the men were unloading. The men do the smart thing and just run away. But then we see Man-Bat then target someone's room as Kirk wakes up from a nightmare, and then Kirk gets up to see the fruits Man-Bat ate earlier on the floor. So Kirk thinks that he's turning back into Man-Bat again, and he starts to realize that he's turning into Man-Bat again. After that, Batman's investigating the docks as he hears one of the men saying that it was a giant bat that attacked, and Batman obviously knows that Man-Bat's back at it again. Kirk's wife finds out very quickly that he turned back into Man-Bat again as she goes back to the lab to try and find Kirk, and as she does, Batman then shows up. Kirk tells Batman that he's not trying the formula, and now Batman's trying to find out if he's telling the truth by going to test Kirk's DNA. But as he's going back to the Batcave, a different Man-Bat attacks. The different Man-Bat gets away as Batman gets a bit of the bat's hair and tells Langstrom that it isn't him and that the antidote did actually work. But we find out that March was the one testing the Man-Bat serum until we find out that March's daughter was the one that turned into a Man-Bat. I honestly thought it was pretty obvious after the clothes that the Bat had on were the clothes that Francine was wearing. Kirk then finds Francine on a plane and tells her to come home, but after that she turns into Man-Bat again. So Francine, being a Man-Bat again, manages to open the door on the plane and gets out and starts flying. But because the doors open on the plane, people are almost flying off the plane because the doors open until Kirk gets knocked out and ends up going out of the plane, as Man-Bat saves him. Eventually, Batman faces off the Francine Man-Bat on the top of the bridge as he then manages to cure her from the Man-Bat serum. The episode ends with the couple in each other's arms on top of the bridge, and yeah, this is a solid episode. Not better than the first Man-Bat episode, but it's interesting to see other people turning into Man-Bats, but they could have made it a big thing where more than just 2 people are turning into Man-Bat. They should have shown at least a few people turning into Man-Bats. Either way, it's still enjoyable, goes above The Forgotten but below Night of the Ninja. Oh boy, this is an episode I've watched a lot. We start in Arkham as the inmates are singing Jingle Bells, and Joker's singing his own version of the song. You know which version. But the Joker gets away with a rocket ship tree as he goes through the roof. Batman and Robin find out that the Joker got out of Arkham as they're going to patrol the night, and see that everyone's enjoying the holidays, and even one person who Batman believes is a mugger gives a lady a present back as she dropped it not too long ago. Batman and Robin end up going back to Wayne Manor as they didn't see anything suspicious in their patrol, but as they turn on their TV to watch It's a Wonderful Life, they see the Joker on TV. We see that the Joker has taken over TV channels with his own show for the holiday season, where he does such things as kidnapping Gordon, Bullock and someone else to go on his show as his new family. The Joker even blows up the President's Bridge and says that the 11:30 train will be there soon, as Batman and Robin have to stop the train. Batman and Robin manage to pull it off, and they go where the Joker apparently is to find out it's a setup. It's a setup at the observatory where it's a giant cannon that ends up going haywire as Robin ends up stopping the cannon. So now they have to find out where he really is, and after that the Joker shows a toy that isn't made anymore, so they figure that he's in the old factory where they made those dolls. They see the Joker as he runs away. 3 giant toy soldiers start to attack Batman and Robin, but they deal with them pretty quickly. They end up fighting a few other toys as well, and they make quick work of them too, and eventually Batman and Robin get to the Joker as he has the officers hanging over a vat of acid. The Joker gives Batman a gift, and as Batman opens it, it gets a pie to the face, and Batman manages to save the officers and catches the Joker in time. The episode ends with Bruce and Dick watching It's a Wonderful Life, and we see the Joker back in Arkham. I really like the simplicity of this episode. It's such a simple premise of just having the Joker cause havoc on Christmas Eve, as Batman and Robin have to stop him, and it works really well. I really enjoyed watching this episode again, and hey, it definitely isn't the show's best, but it's still overall a good episode that doesn't lose my interest. Goes above the Clock King, but below it's never too late. Shit, another two-parter. Took them a while since the last one finished 20 episodes ago. But let's just see how this two-parter goes. Starts off at Wayne Enterprises as people are walking out of the building, and one person drops a suitcase in front of one of the guards as they're walking out. The guards talk about the case and it manages to open easily, and they can't identify whose suitcase it is. But we then see that the suitcase is a robot and that it manages to move on its own. The robot then sneaks into a research and development room where it proceeds to get into a vault containing storage cards. The alarm goes off, so security guards go up to chase after the suitcase. They get knocked out by some gas, but then Batman comes in to get the suitcase, but as Batman's trying to get it, a missile launches from it and it ends up landing on some beach where the same lady from earlier collects the storage cards. Batman isn't far behind as the woman's trying to get away in a car, but the car manages to shoot Batman down as he falls into the ocean. Lucius Fox mentions that the storage cards the woman stole are protein silicon wetware, which is basically an AI software that can process things and think of things on their own and much faster than humans can. So now Bruce has to find out who stole the tech from Wayne Enterprises and even goes around to Carl Rossum to find out if he knew anything about it, and Bruce finds out that he created a new prototype AI called HARDAC, which stands for Holographic Analytical Reciprocating Digital Computer. Bruce tries to ask what HARDAC does, but he brushes it off by saying that it's a secret, and as that's happening, we see a robot body being built. Throughout the smoke, we can tell that it's meant to be a robotic copy of Commissioner Gordon, as we see that the assistant is the person that stole the protein silicon wetware. The next day, Gordon gets replaced by his robotic clone as Barbara sees that he's acting weirdly. Bruce takes the assistant out on a date as he's trying to get information about all this out through her, and as that's happening, she left a robotic device and steals the rest of the info HARDAC needs for them to make a fully working AI. But the file that the robotic device gets from the computer is a decoy file, so they need the actual file from the Wayne mansion. Dwayne finds out that Bruce Wayne is Batman by scanning the house to find out where the actual file is located and manages to get the file off the Batcomputer. Bruce gets back to find Alfred on the couch as he doesn't remember anything, so Bruce goes down to the Batcave to find that the Batcomputer's been hacked as he's taken by the robotic arms for the Batglider. Honestly, this episode is just a lot of setup for the second part, which, yeah, isn't that obvious, but I'm not that interested so far. Hopefully the second part will be better, but as this part goes, it's going to be above Appointment in Crime Alley, but below The Forgotten. Part 2 picks up right where we left off as Batman's still stuck in the robotic arms as Alfred comes down and sees this, but Batman manages to get out and turns the machine off. Batman gets on the Batcomputer to find out who's trying to use the computer, but gets nothing. HARDAC then knocks out Rossum as he was trying to change HARDAC's programming as he isn't approving all the duplicating going on, but gets knocked out and replaced, and right after that the mayor gets replaced as well. Barbara then calls for Batman as Batman comes to the bat signal where she tells him that she believes that the new Gordon isn't her actual father. We see Bullock on the roof as he ends up tackling Batman and throws him a good distance away. They keep fighting until we see that this Bullock is a robot after he fell into the bat signal as the robot's skin melts off. Bruce then goes to see Gordon as Gordon called Bruce earlier, where he finds a few men with robotic eyes as Bruce then makes a run for it and tries to get away. Bruce suits up in his bat suit and lets the elevator fall all the way down to the bottom as a few robots are crushed by it. We then see Barbara as she goes to try and find out what's really going on by herself by sneaking into Rossum's facilities as she manages to get in and ends up getting kidnapped by one of the robots. Batman arrives after this situation as the Gordon robot has Barbara as a hostage, and Hardak explains his plan about getting rid of human error and showing that the humans are still alive for Hardak to study until he doesn't need them. The rest of the episode is just a bunch of fighting, with Batman fighting all the robots, and eventually the whole place is about to explode as Barbara comes back to save Batman and get him out of the building. The episode ends with Barbara getting Batman out of the building as the whole place is ablaze. Yeah, this two-parter just does a lot of setting up in the first part, but just mainly has all the fighting and the action set pieces in the second part. I did enjoy this part more, to be honest, but it's really nothing to rave about. There are alright episodes, but definitely nothing amazing, so this goes above Heart of Steel Part 1. Time for the Riddler, baby! And hey, he's played by John Glover.
Remember the actor in Batman and Robin where he plays the scientist that turns Pamela into Poison Ivy?
Jokes aside, he's fantastic, and I'm excited for this since I really do think the Riddler is extremely underrated. So let's look at this episode. It starts off with people talking to each other about if Edward Nigma has come into work yet, and they say no he hasn't. Then we see Nigma as he's trying to walk into his office, but we see that they got rid of his office as they've fired him. He's getting fired because he's trying to sue the company, but apparently he made the game. But after Nigma gets let go, we skip 2 years into the future with the CEO named Mockridge as he's giving a speech about business related stuff to Bruce and Lucius. As that's going on, Mockridge sees a riddle showing up on a billboard for Mockridge, so he has to leave. But then we see Bruce and Dick in the Batcave as Bruce is trying to think of what the riddle means. Dick's playing a game on the Batcomputer which literally has Super Mario Bros. Sound effects in it, but Bruce finds out that the riddle means a nightclub called the Wasteland, so then we see Mockridge as he walks into the club, and this is where we get our first look at the Riddler.
Let me say that I love John Glover's voice as the Riddler, it's so good.
The Riddler makes Mockridge solve a puzzle of rings as he gets tied up in the rings as thugs come in to grab him, but after that Batman and Robin come in to see the Riddler. But Batman and Robin fight the Riddler's thugs as the Riddler gets away with Mockridge because the Riddler puts Robin in a massive Chinese finger trap. Batman and Robin figure out who the Riddler is really quickly, and that his name basically is Enigma. But as they figure that out in the Batmobile, they see all the lights in Gotham flashing of Morse code. Batman figures out that the Morse code's actually a riddle, and they find out that the answer to the riddle is corn, and figure out that he actually means the maze at the Gotham City Fair, so Riddler has them take off their utility belts before they enter, and they have to play the game Dick was playing before called Riddle the Minotaur. They run through the maze as they have to dodge certain traps that are told to them by riddles, and honestly, these riddles are pretty smart, especially the riddle where they have to use the right key to open the door, and the keys are labelled A, C, and D. The right answer is C because it has no sharps, but when they use the A key, 2 sharp blades come for them, as A has 2 sharps. But eventually they get to the Minotaur because they chip into the Hand of Fate by making it go to the end for them, and they solve the final riddle. But after Mockridge is freed, the Riddler makes the Minotaur go after them as Batman uses the Hand of Fate to crash into the Minotaur. The episode ends with Bruce and Dick saying that they've been trying to find the Riddler for months, and then we see Mockridge locking every door in his house and walking around with a shotgun panically. A good episode, hell yeah. I enjoy this episode because the Riddler's shown to be a very smart villain that can compete with Batman with smarts, and the actual riddles the Riddler sets up are smart. Especially how the Riddler gets away by just being on a plane that's leaving town is really damn smart, and it shows that the Riddler's always 2 steps ahead. This goes above Nothing to Fear, but below is Mad as Ever. The Joker's back already. And we see that the Joker's in Arkham as he decides to change the TV station with Poison Ivy being pissing about it. The guard changes the channel to the news, and the news shows a massive new casino opening called Joker's Wild. The Joker's watching and he ends up destroying the TV as he's shitty that Cameron Kaiser is using his likeness for a casino. The Joker ends up escaping Arkham after tricking a guard to think that he's sick, so he uses that time to escape. Bruce Wayne's staying at the hotel as he knows that making it a Joker-themed hotel probably wasn't Kaiser's idea, so he decides to get into his batsuit and figure out why. He sneaks into Kaiser's office to see the files about the Joker and files showing that he didn't have much money left. Kaiser sees Batman and tries to fight him, but Batman gets away with a smoke bomb. We then see the Joker walk into the hotel as a worker thinks he works for the hotel, as he's told to be a dealer for a table of blackjack, and ends up playing with the guests on the table and beating them. Until Bruce Wayne plays against him and beats the Joker by getting a blackjack. Bruce suits up in his batsuit to then stop the Joker as Batman chases after the Joker, after the Joker tries to get away in the Joker car. The Joker gets away but goes back to the casino to blow it all up by rigging the hotel up with the explosives, and Kaiser's going to get away in a helicopter as he's going to use the insurance money to get himself out of bankruptcy. Kaiser stops Batman by electrocuting him and decides to send Batman down to the Joker, where the Joker straps Batman to a giant roulette wheel. Batman tells the Joker exactly what's going on, telling him that Kaiser's using the Joker for insurance money. The Joker goes up to deal with Kaiser and then he spins a roulette wheel and throws a grenade in it, but Batman manages to get out. As he has Kaiser right next to him and is about to shoot him until Batman shows up to stop the Joker. The helicopter crashes into the hotel and the episode ends with the Joker back in Arkham as he changes the channel to Looney Tunes where Poison Ivy, Mad Hatter and Scarecrow tell him that they were watching that. Just a fun little episode that doesn't take itself too seriously, and hey, I do like that a lot. I think the show can still be good when it isn't taking itself that seriously. To be fair, the best episodes are more serious episodes, but I still enjoy this one. Goes above Vendetta but below The Clock King. Bro, what the actual hell? We literally had a two-parter about Hardak finish only about 2 episodes ago, but now we're getting another episode about Hardak. Alright, well I just hope it's better than the two-parter. So this starts with a few thugs walking through a factory that has the tech from Rossum's house that went up in flames in the two-parter. They see one big box that has a red eye from Hardak on it. As they go to open it, Batman breaks out of it and defeats the thugs. But one of them shoots Batman to reveal that it's a robot. Oh shit. So now we know that a bit of Hardak is still left, as Hardak's still in the robot trying to tell the robot to reform Hardak. But this version of Batman even goes back to Wayne Manor, where Alfred knows that he isn't Batman. We then see the real Batman at the scene of the crime, but the real Batman says that he didn't catch him. Hardak Batman gets into the Batcomputer and tries to find Carl Rossum to find out what's really going on. But the real Batman gets to Carl before he does and asks him about the stuff that's going on. Carl has no idea what's going on at all because he's living on a farm now, but after Batman leaves, we see Hardak Batman catch up to Carl. Hardak Batman believes that he really is Batman and begs for Carl's help, but after that Carl tells him that he's a robot. Batman comes in to stop him. Batman beats the robot by spraying water on it and ends up turning back on to fight again, but now with red eyes. But the glass house is falling down and the Hardak Batman throws Carl out of the glass house to save him as it all falls down on Hardak Batman. So now the real Batman's on the hunt for the remains of Hardak as Hardak Batman is doing the same. After Hardak Batman finds a part of Hardak, it gets inserted into the robot where Hardak explains exactly how Hardak Batman was created, and Hardak explains that they're going to replace humanity with duplicates. Batman then soon shows up as the two end up getting into a fight, and Hardak wins by tackling Batman through a wall and he then falls down into a river. Hardak Batman arrives at the Batcave and says that he'll take over the Batcomputer and will have the power to take over every computer on the planet as Batman arrives to stop Hardak. The interesting part about this fight is Batman tries to mentally fuck with Hardak by explaining that Batman won't take a life and that he saved Carl's before. Eventually Batman defeats Hardak Batman by thinking he made Batman fall down a cliff and die, but in reality he didn't, and Hardak Batman destroys the Batcomputer, completely destroying Hardak's plans. The episode ends with Bruce and Alfred looking at Hardak Batman as it had shut down from the water sprinklers activated in the Batcave. This is a much better Hardak episode, thank God. I really didn't think much about the two-parter, but this episode is much more enjoyable. The climax is the best part, where Batman mentally messes with Hardak Batman to win, since he's no match for the robot. This goes above It's Never Too Late, but below The Strange Secret of Bruce Wayne. Off Balance starts with Batman meeting up with a man named Twitch, where Batman is asking about the Society of Shadows, as apparently they're starting operations in Gotham. As Batman's talking to Twitch, 2 men attack as Twitch gets thrown off the statue into the river. The 2 men actually off themselves as they don't want to give any information about the shadows to Batman. Well no, apparently all they did is wipe their memory, but I know that they wanted it to be that they ended themselves. But we then see that a woman's watching this all unfold. I wonder who that woman is. Look, I already know, but I'm going to leave it as a surprise for you all. Batman then talks to Gordon about all this that unfolded on the statue as Batman thinks that the shadows are targeting Wayne Enterprises for a sonic drill. We then see Lucius with Bullock and a few cops as men are unloading the drill, but as that's happening, a sonic wave happens where everyone starts to hallucinate that the whole world's going into a spiral. We see that it's this strange looking bastard named Vertigo who has his men steal the sonic drill until Batman shows up and the woman from earlier tries to shoot Batman, but then Vertigo gets away. Batman goes back to the Batcave to try and find out where Vertigo's gone, but Alfred asks him to take a break where Batman gets an idea of thinking Vertigo actually went east instead of west, and they find out where his hideout is. Batman then tries to sneak in, but sees that the woman's actually being hunted by Vertigo's goons, where Batman comes in to help. The 2 goons come in with a sonic drill and use it against the woman and Batman, where the 2 fall underground. The woman wakes up as Batman's still out cold, where she tries to tend to his wounds, where she finally introduces herself as Talia, when Batman wakes up. They end up going through some rooms, and Talia reveals that Vertigo worked for her father, but her father let him go after he realized the evil Vertigo was up to. You'll find out later on who her father is, but if you know about Batman and stuff, I assume that you know who her father is. But Batman and Talia walk into one of Vertigo's traps where Batman and Talia have to get out of the room full of traps with the disorienting effect still going on. They end up getting through the room as Batman shuts his eyes to rely on his other senses to get through the room. Batman and Talia catch up to Vertigo as Vertigo's trying to get on a plane to escape. Vertigo drops the gun after Talia and Batman make the bells ring, and then Vertigo falls off the bell tower into a river. Talia then pulls a gun on Batman as he's going to take the drill back to Gotham, and then she escapes with the same plane as it's revealed that she's a part of the Society of Shadows, as we see Talia talking to her father, Ra's al Ghul. But Batman makes the gun not work as Talia tries to use the sonic drill on a mountain, as Ra's says that it isn't over. I'm mainly just hyped for the setup of Ra's al Ghul, as he is the big player in the Batman universe, so I really wonder what the show does with him. But as the episode goes, it's alright. They build up a bit of a relationship with Batman and Talia, but there isn't much else this episode. Personally, I prefer Selina and Batman as a thing compared to Talia and Batman, but we'll have to wait and see where this all goes. This goes above the Forgotten but below Terror in the Sky. This episode starts with the man on a jog out at night as he then goes to an ATM as it asks him a riddle. He thinks this is a joke as he puts in the wrong answer as all of his money's gone. We then see a similar situation happen with the stock market and even at a DMV that Alfred and Dick are waiting at, where the computer asks the worker a riddle. At GCPD, the press are trying to ask Gordon what's going on as he brushes them off and goes back into his office. Batman meets Gordon in his office as they mention that Edward Nygma's back again, and hell yeah, another Riddler episode, let's go. As Gordon and Batman are talking, Gordon gets a call about a box with question marks all over it at the entrance of GCPD. They set up a bomb squad in case it explodes as Batman and Robin open the box, as Robin realizes that it's a Chinese puzzle box and he manages to open it. We see that the ticking stops as Batman makes the clock stop by pressing a button, but we see Nygma watching them as two of his henchmen disguised as cops can get his file as Nygma shreds the file. Robin is then trying to figure out what the head device is that was attached to the machine Nygma sent to the GCPD as Batman's out to solve all the riddles that were sent to the victims. They realize that all the riddles involve animals and numbers, and they change the numbers to Roman numerals to find out that it means DMV. So Batman then finds two of Nygma's thugs at the Gotham DMV. Batman tries to fight the thugs, but eventually they get away, as Batman then has to deal with a car driven by a robot that ends up crashing into a wall. Robin then finds out that the headset's a virtual reality game that literally looks like a better graphics version of a Virtual Boy game, and as Gordon puts the headset on, he ends up getting stuck in the virtual reality world after Riddler manages to get access to the device. Batman then gets another riddle with 4 quarters and a penny when Batman figures out that something is happening at the police headquarters where he finds Robin trying to get Gordon out of the virtual reality. The Riddler shows up on the virtual reality screen to explain that Batman has to get into the virtual reality world to free Gordon, so obviously Batman does that. Batman has to solve the Riddler's riddles in the virtual reality where the riddles are more elaborate and obviously break the boundaries of reality. The climax has Batman and the Riddler duplicating themselves, as apparently in virtual reality you can duplicate yourself? But the day saved as Batman manages to get Gordon out of the spinning machine and turns the device off. Batman and Robin find out where the Riddler is as he's stuck in the virtual reality as they literally leave him in there. Damn, that's cold as fuck since they said they might not be able to solve this riddle. The episode is fun though. It's a silly episode where Batman has to face the Riddler in a virtual reality, and I think it's cool. Goes above the Clock King but below Christmas with the Joker. God, we're getting a lot of Joker episodes at the moment, aren't we? I'm not complaining, and hey, this one's written by Paul Dini and directed by Bruce Timm, so I hope it's good. It starts with men loading fish onto a dock as they're all disgusted by all of the fish as they all seem to have the Joker's smile. Batman's there and sees all this, and as he goes back to the Batcave, he dissects one of the fish that were on the docks. Whilst that's going on, we see Harley Quinn and the Joker break into a Gotham City division of copyright, and I love this line.
Great Scott. Actually, I'm Irish.
But the Joker wants arrangements for the fish, so basically he wants copyright for his fish, but they can't copyright it as fish are a natural resource. After Francis says no, the Joker gives him 24 hours to change his decision, otherwise he'll be the poorest fish of all. After Batman dissects the fish, he sees an advertisement for the Joker's fish on TV as he threatens Francis again to make him change his mind. We see that Francis has his officers all around his house making sure he's safe, as we see that Batman sneaked in saying that Francis won't be safe since Batman managed to sneak in, the Joker will too. As they're all at Francis, we see one of Joker's trucks shoot a fish with gas shooting out of it into his house as Francis then starts to laugh like a maniac as Batman gives him an anti-venom to counter the chemicals the Joker used on Francis. Now the Joker's targeting Mr. Jackson as the cops set him up as well, but we see Mr. Jackson's cat bring in a Joker fish as the cat scratches Batman and makes him laugh. But we realise that Mr. Jackson was actually dressed up as Batman, so Mr. Jackson got infected by the laughing gas. Batman finds out that the fish isn't a native fish that's seen in Gotham, so they figure out that the Joker might be at the aquarium. Bullock goes in alone and gets caught by Harley Quinn as the Joker uses a giant fish hook to reel Bullock into a tank of sharks, as the Joker decides to not let him in as he figures that the Batman won't be far behind so he could just use Batman instead. Batman arrives and as he goes into the aquarium he sees the Joker and he sees that he has Bullock on the fish hook as Harley Quinn starts to reel Bullock into the shark water. Batman tells the Joker to let Bullock go as Batman then gets handcuffed and kicked into the shark tank and also punches Bullock into the water. The Joker closes the roof of the tank, and Batman then manages to fight off the shark by making it crash into the wall and making the water go everywhere. The shark ends up going into the ocean as Batman goes after the Joker, and the Joker ends up jumping off the roof, but realizes as he's jumped off that he jumped straight into the shark. So the Joker died? I doubt that. But the episode ends with Harley crying as Batman talks to Gordon about how he doubts that the Joker's really gone. This is a spicy meatball. It's a really good and enjoyable episode. Surprisingly serious at times for an episode about the Joker trying to copyright his product of fish and targeting people that won't let him do so. Goes above on leather wings but below Joker's favour. An episode all about Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy? Damn, alright, and this is the first time they ever developed their relationship, so let's see how well done this is. The episode starts off with a chase where the Joker's getting away with Harley taking the wheel as Batman's chasing after them. Harley and the Joker get away, but back at their hideout, the Joker gets angry and fires Harley Quinn from the gang. Harley then goes on a heist to sell $3 million diamond called a Harley Quinn diamond. Ah, I see what you did there. But as she's still in the diamond, an alarm goes off as Poison Ivy was stealing from the same place. The cops arrive and Harley Quinn decides to help her escape and they pull it off by driving away in Poison Ivy's car. I honestly already like this dynamic and I want to see more of it. Luckily, we see a ton of it in this episode, as even Poison Ivy knows that the Joker uses her, and they even go out and commit more crimes by trapping men at a club with plants as Ivy and Harley steal from their trophy room. We then get to see a newspaper montage of all their crimes they're committing, as they really seem to be doing well for themselves. But Harley's still thinking about the Joker and still doesn't feel like herself, as we see the Joker's in shambles as Harley hasn't came back to organize everything for them. Then the Joker sees that Harley's doing so much better than him as he screams about it, and even when Ivy and Harley are driving away from the cops, Harley's thinking about the Joker. But now Batman's on Ivy and Harley's tail as they get a sample of the tire tracks, and as that's going on, Harley rings the Joker as he tracks where they are. But Batman breaks in and gets tangled up in one of Ivy's plants, and then Ivy and Harley tie Batman up and throw him into a river. And as they go back inside, they find the Joker in their house. The Joker tries to act sweet to Harley so he can only get what Harley and Ivy stole from all those places. After that, Ivy and Harley get out of the house as the Joker's men chase after them, and Batman even comes back to take them all down. Harley and Ivy drive away as Batman's dealing with the Joker, and the whole place lights up on fire as the Joker shoots an oil drum. Batman takes the Joker and ends up getting out of the wreckage with the Batmobile, and after that we see Officer Montoya, remember, from POV, take down Ivy and Harley. The episode ends with Joker, Ivy and Harley all in Arkham, and I like this episode. Harley and Ivy's relationship is cute, and no wonder why both of them end up getting together in different forms of media, such as the Harley Quinn animated show and other things. The best part of this episode is their relationship, and you do see that they're really good friends, and that stuff is cute, but this episode goes above the Clock King but below what is reality. The Penguin's back? I'm definitely keen about this since we haven't seen his face since Almost Got Him, and this episode starts with the Penguin's car driving away from the Batmobile. But the Penguin isn't in the car, and eventually the thugs get away by landing the car on a passing boat and the Batmobile's front end gets crushed. Batman and Robin manage to take the car to a mechanic as they use the bikes at the moment, and the mechanic said it will take a week for them to fix the Batmobile. Then we finally see the Penguin as he's talking to the thugs that got away about how he wants a certain artifact, but then one of the thugs has an old friend that tells him that certain parts are being ordered for a Batmobile. The Penguin seems happy with that as he has the info for the Batmobile now, and he sends the guy into a drain that takes him to the ocean. Now the Penguin has info on who runs the mechanic shop, so Penguin busts into the facility and decides to mess with the Batmobile. But they need to find out exactly how to bypass the security, so they try to get the info out of Earl. But Earl explains his backstory about how he worked for a car company and he let the higher-ups know about a brake issue, but the higher-ups released a new model anyways. So after that, some higher-ups from that company ordered some muscle to snuff at Earl, but Batman came in to save him, and from that point on, he managed to get lucky by working for Batman when he needed it most. This is pretty wholesome to be honest, but the Penguin's setting him up to give the Penguin controls to the Batmobile, so Earl has to play along or the Penguin will off his daughter. Batman arrives and takes the Batmobile, but he does seem a little suspicious as Earl was acting a bit strange, and they find out that there are issues after Batman and Robin are chasing down the Penguin after he drives by them and blows smoke on the Batmobile. They go to Gotham Airport and the Penguin sends the car driving as fast as possible around the airstrip and even through a car park. They're about to drive down the roof of the car park and Batman figures out that the aircon switch is the eject button after Earl said he fixed the aircon switch. Batman and Robin catch up to the Penguin and the Penguin has Earl's daughter as a hostage. As she's about to get it, Robin comes in and kicks the Penguin as the day is saved. The episode ends with the Penguin in prison as he's cleaning license plates, and yeah, this episode's solid. I enjoy this episode quite a lot. It's interesting to think that Batman has his own mechanic and that he gave Earl the job when he needed it the most, as he was broke when Batman came to him for his help. Above Joker's Wild but below the Clock King. One of my favourite episodes, I'm so excited. And of course Paul Dini and Bruce Timm worked on this episode. It starts with a man named Sidney Debris running away in the rain from something as he seems scared for his life. He ends up at Rupert Thorne's building, begging to see him as he ends up taking him in, and he tells Rupert that he's in big trouble. Sidney explains the whole situation where he ends up accidentally ending Batman after Batman interrupted a heist he was involved in. We see that he's a clumsy type and the other mobsters are using him as bait for Batman so they can finish their heist without Batman interrupting them. But as Sid's on the roof, Batman interrupts him and Sid almost falls off the roof when Batman tries to save him. Sid pulls his way up and accidentally pulls Batman down into a tank of explosives. So everyone thinks that Sid off the Batman, and with that new fame, people are trying to off him because they think that they'll be the strongest if they off the man that off Batman. The Joker manages to get Sid after Harley bails Sid out of jail, and the Joker's obviously annoyed that Batman's died. The Joker wants to really test if Batman's gone by committing a heist in a jewelry store to see if Batman shows up, but only the cops show up and the Joker isn't happy about this. After the heist, they set up a memorial for Batman at Ace Chemicals, and as the Joker's giving his speech about Batman's death, and then he decides to put Sid in the coffin after making fun of him as the coffin's headed towards a vat of acid. Sid gets sent down in the coffin as Harley plays a kazoo, and the coffin lands in the vat of chemicals with Sid still inside it. With the acid slowly getting into the coffin, he managed to get out alive as the coffin went into the drain and he got out near a river. Rupert doesn't believe the story about how he got lucky to off the Batman, and when Rupert's about to shoot Sid, Batman shows up and deals with Rupert. Sid asks Batman what actually happened, and Batman said he used his death to see who really calls the shots and ends up taking Sid into Arkham, where he's respected for making a fool out of the Joker. This still slaps so hard. Such a good episode that just shows how someone got lucky and that how a lot of fame can really get to someone when they're not ready for it. It's also interesting to see that Joker's nearly lost all motivation to do what he does when he finds out that the Batman's gone, and the only thing that he was motivated to do was off Sid. This goes above Fear to Clay Part 2, but below perchance the dream. Zatanna starts with the magician Zatanna. She's doing a magic show to a packed audience. Bruce Wayne's watching as apparently the two have some history with one another, and as that's going on, we see that Bruce was actually studying magic with Zatanna's father, Zatara. We see Bruce pulling off the famous Houdini trick and even beats his previous time, which actually isn't the first time we've seen this trick happen as it happened in the episode Be a Clown. Zatara says that it's interesting how he wanted to be an escape artist but not a stage magician, as Bruce used the name John to cover his identity. But Bruce says that he's going to Japan and he's hinting towards Bruce learning karate, which would be a reference to the episode Night of the Ninja. It then goes back to the show as Zatanna pulls a trick off where money disappears, and as she's trying to bring back the money, it doesn't appear again. So now Zatanna's being framed for a robbery where someone stole money as Bruce knows that she's been set up. Batman gets Zatara out of police custody because he knows that she's innocent as Batman goes to investigate the mint with Zatanna and finds scraping on the floor with shards of glass as well. Apparently the man that tries to explain illusions, named Kane, may be behind stealing the 10 million mint, and Batman then gets into Kane's house as he hears them coming. He invites them into a room as we see it's a trap for Batman and Zatanna as they fall through the floor into a room with spikes. Batman gets out by jamming onto the walls as they both climb out of the trap. But they hear Kane again as Batman finds out that Kane is on a plane. Batman catches up to him on the plane as the goons manage to catch Batman and Kane holds Zatanna hostage. They end up getting tied up together as they're gonna fall out of the plane, and they end up escaping the trap, and Batman ends up taking out his goons by making them fall off the plane into the water below. Zatanna and Batman catch up to Kane as he's put into police custody, as Zatanna knows that Batman is the person she remembers in the past. The episode ends with Zatanna leaving Batman, or John in this instance, leaving a note saying that they also hate goodbyes and not to forget to write to her. This is alright. Zatanna and Bruce's relationship is cute, but there isn't much else this episode. The villain's extremely forgettable, which honestly weighs down the episode quite a bit, but it goes above Terror in the Sky but below Night of the Ninja. Another two-parter. I'm absolutely keen for this, and it's all about Robin, obviously because the title is literally Robin's Reckoning. The episode starts with Batman and Robin as they're looking at a building waiting for something to happen, as Robin wants to leave because they've been waiting there for 4 hours for something to happen. The people Batman's waiting for show up as Batman and Robin come in to stop their activities, and they take out most of the people as 2 of them get away. Batman and Robin end up interrogating one of them. After a bit of persuading, they give Batman and Robin the name Billy Murren. Robin then tries to get more info out of the guy as Batman tells Robin to stop and go back to the Batmobile. And after Robin does, Batman interrogates the guy instead. Batman drops Robin off back to the Batcave as he says he has to do the rest of the night by himself, and Robin seems fed up with Batman. Dick, after being shitty, decides to look up the name Billy Murren on the Batcomputer and finds out that he has many different aliases such as Simon Dirks, Sid the Squid, Killer Coburn, which are cheeky callbacks to other episodes. But Dick does find out that this man's actually Tony Zuko, and after that we see the Flying Grayson circus as we see that it's a flashback to Dick's childhood at the circus. Dick, after performing with his parents, sees a man getting told off to get out of his property, and the man being told to get off his property is who else but Tony Zuko. But then we see the tragedy that caused Dick's parents to die as Bruce Wayne's in the audience watching this all happen as Zuko was the one responsible for their deaths. We then see that Bruce takes in Dick for a while as Gordon drops young Dick off to Wayne Manor. It cuts back to Batman in the current time as he figures out that the man's Zuko, and then Bruce disguises himself as a homeless person to try and get information about where Tony Zuko is. But the other people get suspicious, so they try to jump him, but Bruce suits up as Batman and beats them all as he interrogates one of the thugs and finds out exactly where he is. Batman manages to sneak his way into Stormwell as he knows that Zuko's staying with him and interrogates Stormwell as he says that he'll be grumpy if he finds out that he's with Zuko. Right after, we see Stormwell talk to Zuko and Batman can hear their conversation because he planted a device in the room and Zuko gets away in his car. We then go into another flashback where Bruce talks to Dick, where Bruce says that he has some free time tomorrow, and here comes some amazing dialogue.
I know. You keep thinking, if only I'd done something differently. If only I could have warned them. But there isn't anything you could have done. There isn't anything either of us could have done.
Your mom and dad? Does the hurt ever go away?
I wish I could say yes, but it will get better in time. For you. That I promise.
Bruce tells Dick that he's gone after Zuko, and Dick gets pissed about this, and the whole episode ends with Dick going out on his own to get Zuko. Yeah, this is a really good episode. It's a lot of build-up, but the build-up that's going on is engaging as we see Dick wants to go out and catch criminals, but then it becomes more of a revenge thing as Dick finds out that it's Zuko that Bruce is after. These are the kind of episodes that show me how good this show can really be, so this goes above Fear Declare Part 2, but below The Man Who Killed Batman. The second part of the two-parter. Let's hope that this episode's an absolute banger as well. This episode continues right from where the first part ends with Dick going out to get Zuko, as Batman knows that Robin's out to get Zuko. We flash back to Bruce and Dick sword fighting where it shows that Dick is using a lot of energy, where Bruce shows Dick that fencing's more about finesse compared to strength. And they talk where Gordon says that he might not have to have the kid for much longer, as he might find a new home soon, and talks about how they're close to catching Zuko. Dick hears this at night, so he decides to sneak out and find Zuko by asking people all around Gotham if they've seen him. Zuko manages to walk past Dick after searching for hours, and Zuko runs away after we see Batman's patrolling the streets with the Batwing. Dick then sees a woman being mugged by some people she knows in an alleyway, and Dick tries to stop the man from mugging her. He kicks the man into a dumpster after the man tries to chase after him. The woman takes him to a diner where they talk, and a waiter there knows where Zuko is. Dick shows up and sees Zuko, and as Dick tries to ring the authorities, Zuko grabs him. Batman then shows up to stop Zuko, and after Dick punches Zuko out of rage, he ends up accidentally falling into the river as Batman goes to save him. Zuko gets away as Batman saves Dick from the river because it's headed towards a dam, and Batman takes Dick into the Batcave. Batman then asks how badly do you want Tony Zuko as he reveals himself as Bruce to Dick. It cuts back to current time where Robin's trying to find Zuko and manages to find where he is after tracking him through a phone call. Zuko's panicking that Batman will be after him and he wants to make sure that Batman's not on his tail. Zuko's panicking and shoots the roof after hearing a little bit of racket, but Batman actually falls through the roof. Zuko runs out of ammo as Batman uses gas on all of them and Batman walks away in pain. We see that Bruce stuffed his leg as he uses a bit of his cape with a bit of wood to help him walk. Batman starts to fight the thugs as we see Robin zooming in on his bike to get Zuko after tracking him down. Zuko's about to shoot Batman and Robin comes in with his motorbike and grabs Zuko, and here's an Akira reference. We see that Robin really isn't fucking around and he throws Zuko around, and Robin realizes that he let his emotions get to him as Batman comes in to stop him. The episode ends with Robin admitting to Batman that he was right to not bring him along, as Batman admits that he couldn't let Robin go after him as he was worried that Zuko might take Dick too. Thank God this episode's really good as well. Honestly, not as good as the first part, but it really has its moments. Seeing Robin get so aggressive towards Zuko is honestly really effective, and this episode really hits the right emotional beats that the episode needed to hit. This goes just below the first part, but honestly, it's almost as good as the first part. They're really close together. The Penguin is back. I'm absolutely keen for this. The episode starts with Penguin looking at an art piece as his thugs are stealing from a man's house as Batman interrupts. The Penguin tries to stop Batman but ends up getting caught by him anyway, as he goes back to prison. The Penguin gets released from prison as he sees that no one's waiting for his arrival, but all of a sudden a bus comes in as the Penguin gets in and is taken into the city. We then follow a woman named Veronica as a friend of hers lets her know that the Penguin's out of prison as she intends to take the Penguin on a date as a plan to get more attention from the media. The Penguin goes back to his house as Batman's there waiting for him as the Penguin tells him that he's reformed and that Batman will be watching him everywhere he goes. The Penguin's phone rings as Veronica rings to ask him out on a dinner date, and obviously he says yes. So they go out on a date and sees that the Penguin's grosser than what she thought. But the Penguin really falls for her and even defends her from thugs that try to mug them as Batman comes in and thinks that the Penguin was causing havoc. Batman's surprised to find out that all the Penguin was doing was defending Veronica from the thugs, and after that Veronica starts to see a bit of good in the Penguin. Bruce sees Veronica talking to a friend in an art museum as they tell Bruce that she's seeing the Penguin for the entertainment and publicity. So the big party Veronica's holding comes around, where the Penguin comes around and she starts to feel bad about doing all this as we see that the Penguin's gonna give Veronica a gift. As he's gonna give her a gift, he overhears Veronica and a friend talking shit about him, so he decides to use a gas on them as he takes Veronica hostage. Veronica's been gone for over 24 hours as we see the Penguin give the GCPD a ransom note where Veronica's friend has to give the Penguin $1 million to let Veronica go. He decides to go where the Penguin told him with the money as GCPD and Batman aren't far behind. A phone rings where the man answers and the Penguin gives him more directions, but then he falls through the floor into a giant rubber duck that takes him to the Penguin. They end up at a theater where they see Veronica strapped onto a chandelier as Batman comes in to stop the Penguin. After a big fight with stage props, Batman manages to save Veronica and her friend and put an end to the Penguin's scheme as he's taken back to prison. The episode ends with the Penguin talking to Veronica as the Penguin says society is to blame. I feel like this episode was really damn good until the climax. Such a clever idea having the Penguin reform and try to change his life, but obviously it doesn't end up working out. Just the whole fight is pretty average, but the rest of the episode is so good and honestly up there with some of the best stuff the show has to offer. This goes above the Joker's favour but below Fear to Clay Part 1. Another Penguin episode. Really? We literally just got one, but hey, let's see how this goes. The episode starts with Wayne Tech showing off a plane to the military that can't be detected by radars and has a bunch of other things. As they're showing off the plane, it goes haywire and starts shooting at the military men as the helicopter crew were taken over by the Penguin and his men. The Penguin takes the plane as he asks for a ransom for Wayne Tech to get it back as the Penguin shoots a car that Bruce Wayne was hiding behind. After that, Alfred picks him up and takes him back to Wayne Manor, telling Alfred to have Leslie meet him there when Bruce says that he can't see. Leslie tells Bruce that he's temporarily blind, so he needs to rest his eyes for 36 hours to recover his eyesight. Of course, Bruce being Bruce, he still wants to go out and fight crime, but Alfred persuades him to rest as Gordon needs Batman's help, but he doesn't show up. The Penguin then manages to talk to Mayor Hill as Gordon and Bullock are in the room, saying that they need to pay a $100 million ransom. They can't pay it, so the Penguin shoots a bridge down as a warning for what he'll do tomorrow night. Bruce is listening to this as he says that he needs to deal with the Penguin with sight or no sight. Bruce then makes a headset that will make him see by tapping into his brain with Leslie's help, as it seems to work decently well. So Batman goes out to put a stop to the Penguin schemes, and to be honest, I feel like they could have done more with Bruce being blind. Batman shows up to Mayor Hill's office as he says that Mayor Hill should do what he's saying, so Mayor Hill broadcasts a message saying that the Penguin won. Batman baited the Penguin with Mayor Hill, and as Batman sees him going for the bait, Batman chases after the Penguin in a plane chase until the Wayne Tech plane crashes. The Penguin then manages to shoot the Batwing down as they use the lasers on the plane to shoot him down. As Batman's getting out of the Batwing, the auxiliary cord he was using for his eyesight breaks and the battery in the headset's turning on and off as the power's almost out. The Penguin's chasing after him as they think that Batman's injured and they end up fighting in a factory. Batman gets rid of one of his goons and the headset goes completely flat as the Penguin's chasing after Batman. Batman eventually defeats the Penguin by beating him in the smoke, and the episode ends with Bruce getting his eyesight back as he sees the Penguin arrested in the newspaper. Not a bad episode. They really could have done more with Bruce being blind, as I said before, because they could really dive into how hard Bruce finds it to rest instead of going out and being Batman as usual. The episode's still alright though, but not as good as Birds of a Feather. It goes above Night at the Ninja but below Fear of Victory. I really didn't expect Kyodai Ken to be back anytime soon. Remember the ninja from Night of the Ninja? But this episode starts with the woman practicing karate in a dojo as Kyodai comes in to fight the woman. Kyodai wins as he knocks her out and then leaves a note at the dojo. Turns out that he kidnapped a girl from his old dojo as his old sensei reads the note. We then see Bruce in the Batcave as he gets a call from Yoru Sensei, where he tells him what's happened. After that, we see the woman tied up as Kyodai is training by cutting fruit and he reveals himself to her. Bruce then flies out to Japan where we see Bruce talk to his sensei about how he thought ringing Bruce was the best idea. Then Bruce is meditating in his room as Alfred walks in with tea, and a bit after that Bruce tells the story of a man that managed to manipulate the key lines 500 years ago. Key lines are life force and the art is called the Way of the Fang, and this hasn't been taught to anyone as it's way too dangerous. The master of this art hid the instruction scroll in a cave on Mount Kajiki, and Yoru Sensei is an ancestor of the master and is the only one that knows what the scroll is. Kyodai's plans are to use the girl kidnapped as a ransom to get the scroll from Yoru, and apparently Kyodai knows that Bruce is Batman. Yoru gives Bruce the map as Bruce is going to deliver the scroll to Kyodai, and Batman shows up as Kyodai has the girl on the rooftop. The girl manages to get free of her restraints, but Kyodai kicks her off the roof as Batman manages to save her, but Kyodai gets the scroll. It's wild seeing Batman in a Japanese setting, but I wish I could see more of the art design of this Japanese town. It looks awesome. After Batman saves the woman, he manages to catch up to Kyodai as they fight on a rooftop, and eventually Kyodai gets away after knocking a billboard down in front of Batman. Kyodai manages to find the scroll, but it turns out when he touched it, the paper went to bits. But he has one bit of the page that he manages to use. Yoru tells Batman that there's a large part of this piece of paper missing, as it tells you how to perform the Onemuri touch, which literally means eternal sleep touch. Kyodai then figures out how to do it as he ends up kidnapping Alfred as he wants him to come fight Kyodai. Batman then shows up to fight Kyodai after investigating his house, and Kyodai fights Batman near a volcano. The volcano starts to erupt as they're fighting, and Kyodai manages to land the fatal blow. Or does he? Nah, Bruce was faking it because he actually protected that area of his body, and he gets a surprise attack on Kyodai, but they keep on fighting as Bruce makes an absolute mockery out of Kyodai. The fight ends when they're split apart from each other as Kyodai lets himself die instead of going with Bruce. After that, Bruce reveals to Alfred that he found the weak spot in the dummy, so he knew exactly where to protect his body, and that's obviously the thing that made him survive the fatal touch. The episode ends with Bruce talking to Yoru to say that Batman is a true samurai and that he thanks him. This is cool as fuck, to be honest. I really wish we saw more of this city, as the new setting is really damn cool. If this was the inspiration for making Neo Gotham City in Batman Beyond, I can really see it, as it feels like that but not as futuristic. This is the better episode with Kyodai though, so it goes above the mechanic but below the Clock King. See No Evil starts with a girl named Kimmy as an invisible man sneaks into her room and talks to her. The invisible man gives her a gift as he uses a doll to act like the doll's talking to them. Okay, alright, so we got some invisible man shit going on, I'm interested. We then see a man named Lloyd Ventress in a jeweller's convention as he walks into the bathroom. He puts on the invisible suit as an officer's trying to get into the bathroom, probably because the man needs to piss. But Lloyd puts on the suit and starts stealing all the jewelry at the convention as people are wondering what the hell's going on. After Bruce gets a watch stolen, he suits up as Batman to figure out what's going on. He manages to chase after Lloyd as he walks through some wet cement and uses paint so he can see the invisible man. But Lloyd manages to get rid of the paint with the power of the invisibility suit and kicks Batman's ass. Lloyd in the suit manages to get home to see a photo of the girl on the bench as he says that he won't let her take his daughter away. The next day, Lloyd goes after the girl's mother as she's working a day job, but instead of suiting up in the invisible suit, Lloyd talks to her and she seems angry at him as he used to be a bum. Lloyd tells her that he wants to see Kimmy, but she's angry and obviously says that she won't let him, and it ends with her saying that she wishes Lloyd could disappear. Bit of foreshadowing to what will happen. We then go to Wayne Tech as Bruce wants to check what happened about the invisibility cloak project they were working on, but they do talk about someone that is still working on that kind of tech. Batman then sneaks into that person's office as he's working on something and finds files about a light refraction project. The man working there knocks a shelf on Batman as he thought it was an intruder, and Batman interrogates him to get more information about this invisibility plastic. The project was going to be scrapped as it's too dangerous, but some of the material's missing as the man tells Batman that it might be Lloyd Ventress. It then cuts to Batman talking to Miss Ventress. As Batman trying to get more info about this, Lloyd comes in and takes Kimmy. We then see that Lloyd takes Kimmy into his car to show his face to her, and Kimmy explains that her mum says that he's a bad man. Batman catches up to them as Kimmy runs away to her mother. Batman tries to beat Lloyd as he's in his invisible car, and Batman manages to hold onto the car as it drives through Gotham. Eventually, Batman defeats Lloyd after they fight on a rooftop as he makes a water tower leak water onto him so Batman can see him. The episode ends with Kimmy talking to Batman as the mother walks in and Batman walks away. I like this episode quite a bit. I just feel like they could have made this episode a bit more of a thriller as it's an invisible man that's basically capable of doing whatever he wants. Besides that, it's a well done episode with a decent villain, goes above the mechanic but below the Day of the Samurai. The last two-parter of the season. Alright, how about we just see how this two-parter goes? We start at Gotham University as Robin sneaks back into his dorm room and a few people are waiting for him. They knock Robin out with a tranquilizer dart and take him away. The next scene shows Bruce talking to Alfred in the Batcave as he says that he hasn't seen Dick anywhere for the past 2 days. Alfred gives Bruce a letter for him as Bruce opens the letter to see a picture of Robin tied up as a note says, "Dear Batman, save him if you can." Bruce is in shock and is angry as Raish introduces himself, and Bruce is surprised that he's real as he's apparently a legend. Raish explains to Bruce that his daughter Talia has also been abducted by these people, and now Raish and Batman have to work together as Bruce sees that one of the blades is a blade from India. Bruce is still confused about how Raish knows who he is, but he explains that he runs a global organization and figure that Bruce is Batman, and we see more signs of Raish's age as he's coughing from a drink. They arrive in Calcutta, a city in India, as people try to attack them and Batman defeats them all. Batman interrogates one of them and he tells them that they fled to Malaysia. So now they go to Malaysia to find them, and Raish goes on about rainforests and he says that force needs to be done to stop people from cutting them down. They then go to where the man said as they find a map at the location, and as Batman walks into the map, the walkway behind him closes. A jaguar comes out to attack Batman as he manages to defeat it by getting it caught in his cape and using knockout gas on the jaguar. Batman sees out the maps of the Himalayas as they now have to go there, and I really hope this whole episode isn't just go to this place, oh shit they aren't there, now it's time to go to another place, and so on and so forth. But as they're about to jump off the plane, Raish mentions a Lazarus pit, which piques Batman's interest, and after hearing about the pits you connect the dots, as Raish said that he met Napoleon, as he says something important to him. As Batman's diving off the plane, they're attacked by people with guns and missiles as they shoot down the plane, and Batman takes out the men with guns. Batman walks to the mountain and sees Robin strapped to a chair as people come out to fight him. Batman beats them and frees Robin, but fires light and a man with a mask walks out. Batman takes the mask off to see that it was Raish. Batman connects all the dots and explains Raish's plan, and after that, Raish's servant Ubu tries to fight Batman as they're leaving. But then Raish reveals that all of this was a test to see if Batman's worthy of taking Raish's place, as Batman tells him no. Raish passes out and almost dies, where Talia says to take him to a Lazarus pit, where Talia explains that the pit kept him alive for 600 years. They lower Raish into the pit, and as he awakens, he has an evil laugh as he picks up Talia ready to throw her. That's how the episode ends, and I don't know if it's just me, but Raish is as bland as cardboard in this episode. I guess I think of Batman Begins and the Arkham games as great adaptations of the character, so they're amazing compared to this. I honestly got a bit sick of how most of the episodes just Batman needing to go to this place, then another place, and another, as finally the third location is where Dick actually is. I think this episode is pretty weak compared to the rest so far, to be honest, so it goes above POV but below the Underdwellers. I really hope this part's much better, as I didn't think much of the first part. We get straight back into where the first part ended, with Raish holding Talia over his head as he's laughing, and Batman's telling her to put it down. Even Ubu says that Batman needs to stop him as the chemicals of the pit make him react like this, but Batman manages to free Talia from Raish. He walks aggressively up to them as Talia slaps some sense into Raish, and Raish explains that the pit has terrible side effects but physically rejuvenates him. Raish asks Batman again to take over him, but of course Batman says no as Raish gets his men to hold Batman and Robin at gunpoint as they escape. The whole building's going down as Batman and Robin manage to escape by climbing a bit of rope that takes them out at the top of the mountain. Now as Raish is escaping, Batman and Robin have to find out where his stronghold is, as Robin says one important thing he heard is Orpheus. They research to find out that it's from Greek mythology and that it's a satellite that hovers over the Sahara Desert. They find the exact coordinates as they go to the location, and Batman finds the stronghold as he disguises himself as one of the men on camels riding into the stronghold. Batman sneaks around and runs into Ubu as he kicks his ass. But a few other men come in to fight as they manage to hold Batman captive. Raish comes in to see what's going on and finds out that it's Batman, and they take away his belt and shirt. Why the fuck would they get rid of his shirt? I don't see the purpose of that. But Raish explains his plan to bomb all the Lazarus pits across the planet as they'll end up flooding the whole planet. He even says that over 2 billion lives will be lost because of this plan and the planet will be restored to its former glory. They then chain up Batman as he manages to sneak a lockpick through and get himself out of the chains. Batman then manages to set off a bunch of explosives that go everywhere, and bullshit, this didn't end anyone. But as Batman's gonna go stop the machine, Ubu fights him and Batman still kicks his ass. And then Raish and Batman face off. They have a big sword fight, and Batman stops the machine by throwing his sword at the satellite, sending the signal to Orpheus. Batman then beats Raish after he falls into a Lazarus pit, and Talia explains to Bruce that she shares the same visions as her father but won't go as far as he did as they share a kiss. The episode ends with Raish getting out of the pit as we hear him laughing. Yeah, this part's better. The issue with Raish is still evident, and his plan wasn't that interesting as he wants to flood the world, but this episode's more enjoyable. It didn't feel nearly as repetitive as the first part, and I get that the first part had to set up this part, but at least this part wasn't so repetitive. This goes above Off Balance but below Terror in the Sky. The ventriloquist and Scarface are in this? Hell yeah, I'm keen. The episode starts with a boxing match, as after that some man's money is being moved by guards. Some men turn the lights off, knock them out and steal the money as they manage to escape by landing on the back of a mattress truck. They get back to the lair where we see Scarface says that soon enough they will own this town. Batman then meets Gordon in his office as Gordon tells him about this new gang as they don't know anyone in the gang or the leader, but Gordon gives Batman a tape of the men as they were leaving their last heist. The only clue they get is someone's tattoo as their shirt rips to reveal a tattoo on their arm, and they find out that the man is a man named Rhino. Batman's about to interrogate Rhino as the police show up and Batman leaves, but we follow Rhino as Batman's still following him from a distance. Batman finds their hideout as we see ventriloquist wake up Scarface as he takes Scarface out to Rhino, and Batman's shocked that it's a ventriloquist. Rhino tells Scarface about Batman, and Scarface says that one of them must have ratted him out, but obviously we know that no one ratted him out. Batman then sneaks into Scarface's room as the dummy's lying in bed, supposedly asleep. Batman snoops around the bedroom until ventriloquist walks out, where Batman takes him and thinks that he's joking, but apparently he knows nothing. But we hear Scarface talking to him, which is really strange since we think he's controlling him, but apparently not. Batman then figures out that it's a multiple personality disorder where 2 personalities are in the same brain, but neither know what the other's thinking. Batman still thinks that he controls the dummies, they talk at separate times, and he's that good that he makes voices sound like it's coming from another room. Batman knows their exact plans as he planted a device that lets him hear their conversations on the ventriloquist's suit, and tries to stop their plans. Batman gets knocked out after Rhino knocks a stack of gold onto Batman, and they tie him to the roof as sharp objects are laying below him. Scarface then explains that this is all a trap for Batman, as they found the device Batman planted on Ventriloquist. Batman then explains that the Ventriloquist is the one that ratted Scarface out to give Batman time to get out of his restraints. They all fight, and eventually one of the thugs accidentally lights up Scarface as they were trying to hit Batman, but he dodged the bullets. The episode ends with the Ventriloquist in Arkham as he's making a new Scarface dummy. This is a really good episode. I enjoy it, and they really make the Ventriloquist and Scarface a good character. The character was only around for a few years at the time this episode aired, and I think it's really well done in this episode, and the whole multiple personality disorder really sells the fact that neither know what the other's thinking. This goes above The Last Laugh, but below Dreams in Darkness. The last episode of the season. God damn. We start with Gordon waiting for Batman to show up as he's walking around Gotham at night. A man's calling out to him as two other men come up to him. The other man runs away, but he runs into a dead end as a car stops right in front of him. A man gets out as he's angry about how he was going to snitch on him, and after a lightning sound effect, the man gets knocked out as Gordon sees this and rushes in. The man survived and is in critical condition as Gordon takes this info to Batman, and they think that the thing that happened in the alleyway might have to do with a stolen weapon called an EDC. We then see a man named Max as he's dressed in the clothing straight out of Greek mythology, and he believes that he's Zeus as a woman explains that he's delusional. She's wondering what the hell happened between them as they were probably together, but they get interrupted by the Batwing as Max says it's Lord Hades coming to get him as the woman explains that it's Batman. Batman sees that he really believes that he's Zeus as he tries to question him about the attack of the weapon. Max then explains that his lightning shoots out actual lightning as he tells Batman to leave by putting guns on him with the statues having guns in their eyes. After Batman leaves, he shows a small scale of the EDC as he has plans to use the weapon, and we find out that his full name is Maximilian Zeus.
Is that really why he acts like Zeus, is because his last name is Zeus?
We see her take Batman into the building as one of Max's thugs stops his partner from going to the roof to see him. Max then uses the EDC to shoot down a police blimp as his partner manages to sneak up onto the roof as she confronts him. She gets through to him for a moment as we see that this is a multiple personality situation where his Zeus persona has taken over. When Zeus takes over Max, he orders his men to strap her to the EDC as Batman's making his way up the building. Batman has to deal with a snake and a hog as he makes his way up, and eventually he just grapples onto the top of the building. Max is about to use the EDC again, but on the moon, and Batman comes in to stop him. The statues start to shoot at Batman as he then manages to get the woman off the EDC after stopping the machine. Max shoots Batman off the building as he then targets the EDC to shoot something else as Batman gets back up and throws the lightning bolt at the machine to stop it as Max jumps into it and falls. Apparently he didn't die from a fall that high as he ends up in Arkham and believes it to be Olympus as he says that all the criminals are different characters of Greek mythology. This episode's interesting, but I do feel like it's similar to the last episode, but instead of having two personalities going at the same time, it's more like the Two-Face treatment. But the man has to deal with his second personality being Zeus, the great god. I still enjoyed the episode though, so it goes above his Silicon Soul, but below the strange secret of Bruce Wayne. I am just surprised with how long this season is.
It's strange because this is the only season in the show to have so many episodes, with the other seasons having anywhere between like 5 to 15 episodes.
The amazing thing watching this season again is that there's no episodes that I think are bad. There are some that aren't that interesting, but to me they aren't particularly bad episodes.
Lowest this show's gotten to so far is about a 5 or a 6 out of 10, which really shows how much quality they're pushing out with this series so far.
But with the seasons changing how many episodes are in them, I'm interested to see if the variation of quality stays the same, or if we get more good episodes or more average episodes.
So how about we just go and check out season 2, starting with...
So the first episode of season 2 is a two-parter all about developing Barbara Gordon and her becoming Batgirl. It starts with two thugs stealing something for Rupert Thorne, and he approaches them as the cops arrive. The thugs try to hold off the police as Rupert makes a run for it, and he makes it to the roof as Batman approaches. Batman manages to catch Rupert as the GCPD arrive on the roof and arrest him as information from this man Gil Mason was given to some unidentified person. Bruce is watching this as he's wondering who this random person is, and after that we see Gordon answer the door as Mason tells him that he's under arrest for accepting bribes. Obviously, Gordon and Barbara think this is BS, as apparently Gordon had been taking tips from Rupert Thorne, so now both Bruce and Barbara have to get to the bottom of this and clear his name. As Barbara's trying to talk to her lawyer about what's going on, Bullock and Mason tell her that they're putting on a rally for Gordon as they believe he's innocent as well. Batman then finds out that all of the evidence is forgers, but now he needs to find out who made them to clear Gordon's name. After that, Gordon tells Batman to check on Barbara, and when he does, Barbara tries to convince him to go to the rally as well. Batman says no, as he thinks there's more to all of this, as Barbara says he'll be there one way or another after Batman leaves. After that, we see a thug walk up to Two-Face, as there's probably Two-Face behind all of this that's going on, as Bruce puts on a disguise to go to the rally, but we see Batman show up to the rally. We find out that it's actually Barbara in a Batman costume, making the public think that it was Batman that showed up, and right after that, some thugs drive into the rally with some machine guns shooting and an assassination attempt. Barbara, still in the Batman costume, manages to crash their car as Robin sees her and finds out that the person in the suit is a girl. Barbara catches up to one of the thugs as Robin goes for the other, and the thug manages to get away after they kick Barbara into some trash cans after Barbara sees their face. The next day, Dick and Alfred are watching the news report about what happened, and they see that Mason ducked from the guns before anyone even saw the guns like he expected the gunfire to come. Barbara goes to Mason's house to tell him who one of the thugs were, but the thug we saw is in Mason's house, so now she knows that Mason has something to do with this as well. We see the same thug as they ring Two-Face, telling them that they come in to see them now, as Bruce in disguise overhears all of this. Also, if you didn't get that the boss is Two-Face from the voice alone, there's some foreshadowing with how the building has two halves painted in different colours. Bruce then tries to sneak into the building as the window he sneaks into electrocutes him and knocks him out, but Bruce still plays the character of being a thug where he sees the boss behind all of this is Two-Face. Two-Face flips a coin on if he can stay and do jobs with him or if he can't, and it lands on the scratched up side as he gets knocked out again. The episode ends with Barbara in her Batgirl outfit as she says,
"So Batman can't help me? Fine. In that case, let's see what Batgirl can do."
This is an interesting episode with some build-up I quite enjoy. I like the foreshadowing of Two-Face being the main villain in this two-parter, but to be honest, the voice is so recognisable that I knew it was him straight away. But for an episode that mainly sets up Batgirl, I think it's a pretty good episode. Second part starts in the Batcave with Dick and Alfred looking at the Batcomputer. Dick's gonna go to Mason as he seems very suspicious as he was ducking before the gun showed up at the rally. Dick gets to Mason's apartment and also sees Batgirl on the rooftop. Dick tries to approach her because obviously she's the new costumed hero in town, and he thinks that she could easily get herself ended doing this. But Batgirl explains that she's there because she suspects Mason as well, and after they get the info of where Mason's meeting Two-Face, Robin tells her not to go as he goes to see what's going on. But of course, Batgirl goes as well as she sees one of the thugs already tied up. She makes her way through the building as Two-Face talks to Bruce in his disguise. All Two-Face needed from Mason is to identify the person that obviously Bruce is disguised as, and if he's to be trusted or not. Obviously, Robin and Batgirl are listening in the conversation as Batgirl instantly trips and trips Robin over as well, so they make a big noise. Two-Face knows that people are in the building as he manages to get out and gets one of his thugs to throw grenades down where they were. So Batman, Batgirl and Robin are all down at the bottom of the building as Batman tells her to stop what she's doing, as it takes more than an attitude and a costume to do what they do. As they're down at the bottom, Two-Face sets off another bomb that starts to flood the building because the bomb was located on a wall that was sitting behind an ocean. Batgirl manages to get out by using Robin's grappling gun and she tries to send it back down to let them out. More water comes in and Barbara thinks they're gone. But as this is going on, some of Two-Face's men get Gordon out of custody by blowing a hole in the wall. Batman and Robin get into a tram as they close the doors to stop the water from getting in, and Batman manages to turn off the brakes as the tram manages to go through the wall, freeing them from the water. We then see Gordon as Mason tells him exactly what he's been up to, and as he's about to shoot Gordon, we see Batgirl comes in to stop Mason from shooting him. Batman and Robin then arrive to stop the thugs as Batgirl seems pretty happy about this. I guess she thought that they were dead, so that's why? But Batman and Robin deal with them pretty easily, and as Batman and Robin are dealing with Two-Face, Batgirl goes after Mason as he's trying to get away on a boat. Batman and Robin get Two-Face caught underneath a giant coin, and Mason then manages to unmask Batgirl to reveal that it's Barbara as she knocks him out and saves him from a boat that's about to explode. The episode ends with Gordon back as Commissioner as Bruce says there's room for one more in the Bat family. This is a good episode too. Not as strong as the first episode, but it's just below it. I feel like all the really interesting stuff happened in the first episode, as the second episode just gets to the point where the main characters confront the villains in the two-parter. Still good, just below the first part. Clayface is back. I'm honestly surprised that there wasn't a Clayface episode sooner. But it starts with two security guards at a building where one of them's going to check the car park. They go out and then come back in to check the owner's office. The security guard sees that the other one's actually still in the car park, so the person that went into the elevator must be someone else. They get into the safe as the officer pulls a gun on them, but they change themselves to be the owner of the building. The guard isn't buying it, so Clayface knocks him out, then Batman arrives as Clayface attacks him and ends up just running away as Batman's on the ground. Batman catches up again as he offered to make him human again, but Clayface says no, but Batman notices that he's slow, tired, and looking strange. A woman picks Clayface up in a car as they manage to get away, and we see that the lady that picked up Clayface is a woman named Stella that's trying to help Matthew. She helps him by forming his body into a man shape, telling him to sleep as she kisses him on the head. Batman's on his Bat computer as he's trying to figure out exactly what's going on with Clayface, as it seems like he's completely falling apart, and he's also trying to find out what the woman has to do with this. We then see Matthew as he wakes up, and he says that he's sick of having this issue with all these chemicals to stay alive, but he's thankful for what Stella's doing for him. Stella finds an isotope called MP40 that could keep him from falling apart, but it's a rare isotope that's hard to find, and if they were to get enough of it, they have to steal it from Wayne Enterprises. So Clayface goes out to get the isotope by holding a woman hostage, and she ends up tripping the alarm. Bruce hears it and ends up following Clayface as they're disguised as the woman held hostage. Clayface gets on the train as his disguise starts to go away and everyone moves carriages as Batman confronts him. Clayface gets away by jumping out of the train window and landing on a truck as he has the MP40 in hand. Back at the Batcave, they're trying to find out if the woman's a spouse of Matthew's, but they find out that what they're doing is similar to one of Matthew's movies that he had a leading role in. Stella uses the MP40 on Matt, but Batman turns the machine off as Clayface confronts Batman and sucks him into his body. Stella tries to stop Clayface from ending Batman, and as he's about to lose breath, Batman ends up grappling his way out. They end up outside as it's raining, and Clayface is falling apart because of the rain, and he ends up falling into the ocean below. I find it really interesting how one of the leading roles Matthew had as an actor resembles his current situation with Stella trying to fix him, but obviously this episode doesn't have a happy ending for them. It's not as good as the Feet of Clay episodes, but it's still a really solid episode. Top of the list. The Warrior Men starts with Veronica in a rainforest outfit, as she says she's home because she's back in Gotham.
Remember that one person that tried to use the Penguin for publicity in Birds of a Feather?
But as Bruce is talking to a man named Hayden, Veronica comes up showing her Warrior Men dolls, saying that your worries will be gone if you put them under your pillow one night. As that's going on, some man in a tribal outfit's watching from above. Bruce sees this, so he decides to confront the man by suiting up as Batman. He fights the tribal man, but the tribal man ends up getting away. Bruce then talks to Alfred, wondering what a man in a tribal outfit's doing in Gotham, as Alfred puts one of the Warrior Men under Bruce's pillow. The next morning at Wayne Tower, Bruce sounds happy and ends up taking a suitcase full of money, and as a person dressed up as a tiger comes to steal it, the woman confronts Bruce about this, as he doesn't know what she's talking about. Bruce suits up and asks Veronica what's going on as she opens her bag to see all of her jewelry in it, and she doesn't remember how the hell that got in there. Some of the tribal men show up and end up leaving after Batman gives them a good fight. Veronica now figures that the dolls are responsible for what's going on as Batman questions her about who she got them from. Batman ties this all back to the Mad Hatter as he finds microchips in the little wooden dolls. We then see the Mad Hatter with a lot of money as his thugs arrive empty-handed, and he finds out that Batman's going to come in soon, so now the Mad Hatter will set up a trap for Batman. Batman then arrives to see statues of his Rogues Gallery as different robots dressed up as his Rogues Gallery attack. Eventually, Batman defeats the goons and ends up dealing with the Mad Hatter as the episode ends with the Mad Hatter in Arkham as he's tossing and turning in bed as we see a little Batman doll under his pillow. This episode's alright. Probably the weakest in this season so far. It's just the Mad Hatter mind controlling people to get money. That's really it. There isn't much else to it, but it's not a bad episode at all. I don't feel like there's much else to say besides it being interesting at first because it seems like a random tribal man's attacking Gotham.
And I reckon they should have kept it at that instead of roping the Mad Hatter into all of this to have like the mind controlling devices.
Bottom of the list. Paging the crime doctor starts with an emergency vehicle with its sirens on behind a truck, but people in the emergency vehicle attack the truck and end up making it flip over. The thugs in the emergency vehicle steal a box and leave as Batman approaches them, and eventually Batman makes the vehicle crash as one of the thugs grabs the box and pulls out the medical laser inside. They use it as a weapon to shoot Batman, and it seems to wear him down as one of the thugs pushes him off the bridge. The thugs really believe that they iced Batman, as Rupert Thorne doesn't believe this as he gives his brother Matt the medical laser. Matt gets mad because he wants to be a real doctor, and Rupert gets pissed at him back where he seems to have some serious medical issue because he just stops talking and falls to the ground. After that, we see Bruce going to see Leslie as she thinks it's just a mild concussion and that he needs to stay in bed for a whole day. We go back to Rupert as we find out that he has a tumor right next to his heart, which is stopping blood pressure from his heart, and Rupert begs Matt to help him where they're going to force Leslie to help him. Rupert's thugs break into Leslie's place as she grabs a bat to defend herself, but she realizes that one of the people is Matt as he explains what's going on. Leslie says no as one of the thugs grabs her and takes her to Rupert to do the surgery that may save his life. Whilst that's going on, Bruce is going back to see Leslie as he sees her place is completely trashed, and Bruce finds the photo Matt was holding in the moment that they kidnapped her. Bruce finds out that this Matt person is Rupert Thorne's brother, and we see that Matt and Leslie finish the surgery as Leslie's really pissed off. One of Rupert's men tells Matt that they're going to have to make her shut up as Matt's just going to take her home safely, but as that's going on, Batman breaks in and faces off against a few thugs. Matt then says he will deal with Leslie with an injection that will make it look like she had a heart attack, and then Matt injects the thug with the needle instead as it wasn't a fatal injection. Matt and Leslie try to escape the building as the thugs are after them, and Batman catches up to stop those thugs. Matt and Leslie get to the roof as Matt leaps for the other roof, and Leslie does too as he has to pull her up as a thug catches up and is about to shoot them. Batman takes out the thug and Matt accidentally drops Leslie, but Batman comes in time to save her. Matt's in custody as Bruce Wayne comes in to talk to him as Bruce asks him for a favor after saying he can cover his legal costs. Matt says no to this as he isn't for sale, but Bruce says he only wants him to tell him about Bruce's father Thomas. The episode ends with them talking about Thomas Wayne. Yeah, this is a good episode. Really simple, but that's what I enjoy about it. They could have made Rupert Thorne's tumor a bit more impactful, but I guess it does serve the story to get his brother to go kidnap Leslie so they can get rid of the tumor in his body. Above the Worry Men, but below Shadow of the Bat Part 2. Poison Ivy is back yet again. Oh damn, it's been a while. But it starts on a building as some random figures climbing it and eventually gets into the building to steal money from someone's safe. The man that lives in the building apprehends the figure with a gun, but gets clawed by the figure as the person got infected with the poison, and Batman thinks straight away that it's Poison Ivy. Apparently she got married and has her own home now, as Batman and Commissioner Gordon enter the building asking Ivy all about this, where she says that she didn't do it as she has a partner in her house as the kids walk in. They seem to be happy to see him, but the husband makes them leave so Ivy can talk to Batman, and she said that the kids are adopted because she can't reproduce. We then see Dick with some woman that goes to a university as Batman rings Dick asking him to check on a teacher called Stephen Carlisle, as he might be the one behind this. So as Dick gets off the phone, the figure attacks Dick, but then it fades to black, and when it cuts back we see police and Bruce in the building as it's destroyed. Bruce, as he's driving home, has the figure in the back of his car as the figure says $5 million at the docks tomorrow. The boy gets it. Bruce decides to pack the $5 million in the suitcase as he then goes to inspect what Ivy's up to, and it seems like she's living a normal life. We then see Bruce show up to the docks with the money as the figure asks for the $5 million, and he does so. We then see that he's a giant plant figure as he starts to attack Bruce Wayne, and eventually Bruce falls into the water. Bruce hides under the docks with his bat jet ski, and as the plant man's about to throw Dick in the water, he uses the jet ski to get onto the docks as he suit up as Batman. We then see Batman and Robin in the Batmobile as luckily Dick didn't get poisoned where he wasn't scratched, he only got punched. But Robin mentions how Carlisle once had her ex bring in the two girls in class. So then Batman and Robin sneak into Ivy's house to see if they can find anything. What they do find is a secret base under a set of plants. In the secret room they find a bunch of different experiments with plants as Carlisle's stuck under some kind of liquid. Batman then sees that she's using plants to create kids as Ivy comes in and ties them up in branches. Ivy explains the whole plan and we see that in the final form they become a giant plant person similar to the plant man Bruce had to fight against. Batman and Robin then fight against a couple of those bastards as they manage to take them out using sprinklers with weed killer on the water supply to make them melt. Batman catches up to Poison Ivy as well, and she ends up melting because she used a fake of herself so she could escape. The ending is honestly quite sad where Ivy wanted her own family but never could do so, and everything that she used to have she doesn't have anymore. I don't have too much to say about it besides this did the whole wanting a family thing better than Wanda in the MCU. Besides that, it's probably just below Mudslide in my opinion. Another face we haven't seen in a while. And this episode starts with him on a train being taken into prison as he's in cuffs and an officer's watching him. Killer Croc gets out by biting through his cuffs, and we see that one of the guards is Batman in disguise as he manages to catch up with Killer Croc on the top of the train. They fight for a little bit until Killer Croc falls off the train and pulls Batman down with him. Killer Croc's still awake and tries to end Batman by throwing a big rock on him, but because the tranquilizer darts take an effect, he misses and falls down the cliff and eventually keeps on walking. Batman then wakes up and starts to follow the footsteps to find out where Croc's going, but we see Croc gets to a massive cliff with a big sized gap to the other side. Croc pushes a tree down so he can cross the gap, and as he's climbing the other side he sees Batman isn't far away. Croc tries some Wile E. Coyote shit on Batman, but it seems to work as Batman falls down the cliff. As Croc's hopping across the river, he ends up slipping and falling into the river as he ends up going down the waterfall where a kid that looks like a seal saves Croc's life and takes him to the circus. Croc wakes up and wonders what the hell's going on, as two women stuck together serve him tea and everyone introduces themselves. They say that their circus days are over as they use their money to buy this shack in the middle of nowhere, as the conductor says he's welcome to stay. As Croc and Goliath pull a tractor out of the mud, the conductor asks about where he came from as Croc lies and says that he was at a freak show and got treated terribly. At dinner, Goliath then mentions 50 grand that they've had lying around, and later that night Croc goes to steal it but he eventually puts it away as Billy the Seal Kid comes to ask what he's doing. Eventually Batman catches up as Killer Croc and Goliath put Batman in a cage without his utility belt, but Batman tells them all about how Croc's an escaped convict. Eventually Killer Croc's gonna off Batman as everyone else says not to off him, and eventually Goliath stops him but Croc knocks him out with Batman's utility belt. Croc ties them all up to another carriage as Batman manages to make his carriage run over Croc and escape. Goliath then gets out as well as they both try to get Croc, but Billy shows Batman a way into the building through the water, and eventually Batman gets in and stops Croc after a fight. Croc ends up getting knocked out and eventually gets taken into custody as he's airlifted away. I really like this stuff where it feels like Croc could actually change for the better and live a peaceful life with the circus people, but of course their evil intentions get the better of them. It's a bit of a random side adventure where it's just Batman and Croc going through a place in the middle of nowhere, and eventually Croc finds a place to stay for a bit until Batman apprehends him. Goes above Page and the Crime Doctor, but below Shadow the Bat Part 2.
Hey, is this about the blue people that James Cameron directed?
Nah, it's actually an episode having to do with ancient Egypt, and this episode starts in Egypt in 1898, where we see a younger Raish going through a hole and finds ancient statues and other things until he finds a doorway lit up in green. Then up top, the rope pulls and eventually burns as they pull the rope up without Raish. Then we see Bruce and Lucius in a museum as he sees similar artifacts to what we saw in the flashback, and Bruce has to go. We later see someone in a costume sneak into the museum and steal the map Bruce and Lucius were looking at, as Batman interrupts the person stealing the map. Batman unmasks the person to see Ubu as Raish shows up and throws a snake at Batman, and he catches the snake but it bites him. Raish and Ubu get away as Batman has to use an antidote on himself whilst lying on the floor. They figure out that the poison's from an Egyptian cobra, and Batman has to find out why the map's important as Batman goes off to Gibraltar to talk to someone he knows.
When this is over, they'll all know the name Gibraltar!
Not the character, the country. Bruce arrives, and after taking out 2 guards, he runs into Talia, where Talia is surprised that Raish is alive, and he says that Raish is his strongest enemy. This is where my biggest issue comes with Raish in the series. Has he really proved that he's the strongest enemy Batman has had to face? I would argue that half the other villains in this series are stronger enemies than he is. Either way, Bruce says he has to go stop Raish, and eventually Talia comes along to try and find Raish, as even she hasn't seen him since the end of Demon's Quest Part 2. They arrive in Cairo, where Talia tries to find an old base of theirs, and eventually they find it behind a tomb where they find the map. They figure out that Raish stole the map, as Raish interrupts them and says that the prize of this map is a power that means more than his daughter. Eventually, Bruce and Talia get trapped in a glass box, as Raish and Ubu leave, and after they leave, Bruce uses a device that gets them out. Bruce and Talia end up at the site that we saw in the flashback at the start of the episode, as they go in the hole and Raish is waiting for them as he talks about the tomb lying in front of them. Raish gets Ubu to open the box and find the scrolls, but when Raish grabs them, they seem to shatter because they're so old, and then Raish's men fight Bruce and Talia. Raish finds a secret room under the tomb. What a rhyme. But he then sees a green pit, which to be honest I thought was a Lazarus pit, but turns out that it isn't. But an Egyptian woman arises from the pit called Thoth Khepera. Raish begs for the power of the gods, as she tells him to join her to get the power. He joins her and she kisses him, then sucks the life out of Raish like Shang Tsung style. Thoth sends some liquid monsters after them, and Batman tries to blow up the pit, but it does absolutely nothing to her. Eventually they end up making their escape because Batman knocks over a statue that blocks their exit. The whole building's falling on itself as Thoth perishes with the building. As Thoth perishes, we see that Raish goes back to his old self. Bruce was going to hand them all to the authorities, but of course Talia once again pulls a gun on Bruce as they all go free, but Ubu gives Bruce a bottle of water. I really don't have much at all to say about this episode. It was alright.
I kinda wish that Talia did actually side with Bruce in this episode, because her double-crossing Bruce again just gets quite predictable.
I get that she doesn't want her father to go to prison, but after Raish does all of this for his own selfish gain, she has good reason to let him get handed into authorities. With all that aside, it's still a decent episode, just above the Worryman.
You know an episode of a show is going to be good when you see Bruce Timm and Paul Dini attached to it, so let's see how good this one is.
The episode starts with Ivy in court, where she's sentenced to go back to Arkham Asylum in hopes that she'll complete a rehabilitation. She goes back into her normal cell as Harley tells them that they're all going to have a party when the Mad Hatter breaks out and takes over the guards. We then see a lawyer named Janet Van Dorn on the news as she says Batman's as bad as the rest of the criminals, and we also see her talking to Gordon in his office and says that Batman needs to stop. Batman then arrives and then absolutely owns her in this scene.
East Side Skulls are ready to declare war on the other gangs.
Old news. My department's already planning a sting to catch the Skull's leader.
Don't bother.
We then see Janet having dinner with Bruce. As Bruce mentions Batman, they briefly talk about it for a moment. But after that, she goes to the toilet, and apparently she's disappeared for half an hour as Bruce is still waiting for her, and then sees the bat signal light up. Bruce obviously suits up and then meets Gordon at the bat signal, where he finds out that Janet's disappeared and a note was left behind. The note's from the Mad Hatter telling him,
Batman, come alone to where lives hang in the balance, or the law in Gotham dies.
Batman ends up arriving and runs into Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn as he ends up getting knocked out. We then see Janet in a cell at Arkham as Two-Face unlocks the door and explains that the Mad Hatters control all the guards in Arkham and that they're going to be having a trial. As they mention the trial, Killer Croc pulls Batman into the cell. So now throughout the episode, Janet has to represent Batman in his defense, but she believes that he belongs here with the rest of them anyways, but Batman tells her just to play along with it. Honestly, this episode is executed so well, and we see Two-Face as the prosecutor, and we even see that the judge is the fucking Joker, where straight up, as soon as he comes in, he says, "Guilty!" This is fantastic. But they go through the court case as Two-Face starts to prosecute Batman, and then eventually Janet gets a chance to defend Batman by bringing up witnesses such as Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, and the Mad Hatter. Whilst all this is going on, we find out that the GCPD are on their tail, finding out exactly where they are. Then Janet, throughout the trial, realizes with Batman or not, all of these villains would still be the exact same way, even if he wasn't around. We see that the Joker's about to give his verdicts, and surprisingly the Mad Hatter says that they come to the conclusion of the defendant being not guilty. Janet's obviously surprised by this, but obviously the Joker being Joker, he straight up says he's guilty anyway. So they go to execute them both anyways, but as Batman's strapped into a table, Janet manages to destroy the light with a batarang as Batman ends up kicking the villains' asses. As Janet and Batman are making their escape, they manage to grapple out of the building as the GCPD arrive to take out the rest of the villains. But on the rooftop, we see Batman face off with the Joker as Batman manages to defeat the Joker. The episode ends with Janet explaining to Batman that she sees why he does what he does, but still wants to work towards a Gotham that doesn't need Batman, with Batman agreeing. This is one of the best episodes in the show. I love this episode so much. Such a random and silly idea done so well. Having all of Batman's rogues gallery take Batman to court where they force a lawyer that wants to lock him up to defend him is so good. It also really shows how different each of the villains are from one another, and it really highlights their own personalities in this one episode. And I could blabber on for days about how good this episode really is. Top of the list.
Baldini's back again, and this episode's all about Harley Quinn.
The episode starts with men blabbling on about an atom bomb as the Joker interrupts them by saying he'll bet nothing. All the men pull guns on him as the Joker ends up infecting them all with laughing gas and steals the bomb. We then see Gordon as he says that everyone needs to evacuate the city as Joker has the bomb, but Batman shows up saying they have to recruit someone who thinks just like him. So Batman then goes to Arkham to get Harley's help to stop the Joker. To bribe Harley to go against the Joker, he says that if he doesn't double cross him, they'll reduce her sentence. Also, I absolutely love this moment where Batman just lashes out at Harley Quinn after she messes with the Batmobile.
Oops.
Listen and listen good. You don't touch anything, say anything, or do anything unless I tell you. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So they make a quick stop at their old hideout as Harley suits up to go find out where the Joker is. They end up walking into this jazz club, and honestly, this whole scene really shows how good Arlene Sorkin was as Harley Quinn. But after that whole scene, Batman's trying to ask Robin if he's heard anything about Joker's whereabouts, but Harley's laughing this whole time. So Batman manages to get her to talk, where Harley admits that Joker's holding the mayor hostage with the atom bomb. So then Batman, Robin, and Harley Quinn arrive as we see the Joker's holding the Mayor Hill hostage at his pool as the Joker's diving in the pool. But as Batman and Robin are trying to stop the Joker, Harley comes in and double crosses them both, as the Joker really didn't expect her to show up. We then see the Joker's going to escape in the plane, where Harley finally realizes that the Joker doesn't really care about her and wasn't thinking of her. We then see that the Joker's about to get in the plane, as Batman explains that it wouldn't be any time to possibly go and get Harley if she was still in Arkham. So Harley sees through the Joker's shit and manages to free Batman and Robin, as the Joker ended up getting them stuck onto a tree. So as the Joker's flying the plane and trying to set the atom bomb off, Robin manages to deactivate the bomb, and Harley ends up knocking him out in the plane. So as the Joker's knocked out, he ends up shooting the gun all around it and ends up making the plane crash. The Joker walks out of the plane all dizzy as Harley's going to shoot him, but it's a fake gun and Harley goes back to the Joker after this and says that he's the greatest. Damn, this is another really good episode as well. Not as good as Trial, but seeing Harley Quinn team up with Batman for the first time is really cool and well done. Not like that terrible animated Batman and Harley Quinn movie, which we will never mention again. Also, I feel like this episode really shows how good Arlene Sorkin is as Harley Quinn. They really let her shine in this episode. And to me, she's the definitive Harley Quinn. Like, I'm not even a big fan of Tara Strong's Harley Quinn, so. Still upsetting that she retired as the character after Arkham Asylum, but this episode in particular shows her talents as she's the one singing the song in the episode. To be fair though, this is the most you see of the character in any episode of the show so far. This episode goes just below Trial, and let's just recap Season 2. I'm happy that this season kept up the consistency of the first season. Obviously this season's only 1/6 of the length of the first one, but out of the 10 episodes they have similar quality to the first season. A couple of amazing episodes, a couple of good episodes, and a couple of alright ones. One thing I did notice in this season though is that there aren't many episodes that take themselves too seriously besides from Mudslide, which I do wish this season had more serious episodes because the more serious ones are some of my most favourite episodes out of the whole show, period. Let's hope that we get some more serious episodes in season 3, and let's see if the quality still holds up. I didn't even realise that Bane hasn't even showed up in this series yet, but better late than never, hey? So we start on an airport where a plane lands as a few thugs and Rupert's assistant Candace are waiting for someone to arrive. That someone is Bane as we see the absolute lunatic squeeze his way out of the plane. The thugs pick him up and take Bane to Rupert as he's hidden in the bag, and Rupert quickly talks business with Bane, and after that Bane punches the bag as it goes flying. Bane explains that he wants to go after Killer Croc as well, which already sets up that they have history with their wrestling days. But as he's talking about Croc, we see that he's committing a heist as he manages to easily deal with 2 security guards as his thugs break into a safe. Batman and Robin swoop in to try and deal with them as Croc drops the safe. So eventually Croc runs away and Bane catches up to him and absolutely kicks his ass. Batman and Robin see Croc passed out in the water. As they take him to the Batmobile, they see that the Batmobile's absolutely trashed by someone that done it by hand. Batman ends up interrogating Croc whilst in prison, and Croc explains that the man has pipes going into his body and has a South American accent. Batman investigates what Croc says and finds out that it's the same man that trashed the Batmobile. Batman explains Bane's backstory, and it's a project called Gilgamesh where they were trying to make super soldiers as Bane got turned into one and he became a freelance assassin. Batman quickly figures out that Rupert Thorne hired Bane as he manages to listen into a conversation Rupert and Bane are having. As Candace is leaving the building, Robin's watching. Bane approaches behind Robin and ends up knocking him out. Batman then goes to interrogate Candace as we find out that Bane's apparently obsessed with Batman as Bane rings her phone knowing that Batman will answer and that he will come to get Robin. So Batman arrives as Bane juices up and then they fight for a bit as Batman gets in a few jabs but it really doesn't do much against him. Batman gets thrown around a bit and then he ends up seeing Robin as he's about to drown in the water as he gets him and saves him. After he does that, Bane comes back as they both fight again. But as Bane's about to do his infamous backbreaker on Batman, Batman manages to cut one of his wires and defeats him. The episode ends with Batman handing Bane and Rupert into the authorities as he plays the recording of Candace saying that Gotham will be hers and Bane's as it's revealed that she was going to cheat on Rupert. Just shows that Bane's really the toughest motherfucker around and that the only way to beat him is by outsmarting him since Batman doesn't stand a chance with his strength. Bane's a good character and I do hope we get to see more of him in the future, but who knows. Second Chance starts with Two-Face as he's going to undergo a surgery to fix his face as Batman and Robin are watching and hoping that Two-Face ends up successful with the surgery. We get a quick flashback to the Two-Face two-parter that sees Harvey turn into Two-Face and Batman's hoping that the surgery is successful. So Harvey's in the surgery and as the last step's about to commence, people break in and take Harvey Dent. Batman and Robin come in to stop this, but eventually the thugs get away with Harvey. Robin figures out that the car that Harvey Dent was in is headed towards Stonegate as they're suspicious that Penguin and Rupert Thorne might be behind this. Robin ends up snooping around Rupert's home and ends up getting taken to Rupert as he admits that he had nothing to do with Harvey's disappearance, but Robin's being taken to the Gotham Gate Bridge as he's being thrown off the bridge. Robin manages to get free of his restraints and take out the thugs as Batman's interrogating the Penguin. Apparently the Penguin didn't do it either, so now the question is, who actually took Harvey Dent and kidnapped him? Batman and Robin tell each other that the Penguin and Rupert Thorne aren't responsible for Harvey's kidnapping, so Batman says that he has to deal with this alone. So as Batman gets there, he figures out that Two-Face was the one that actually kidnapped Harvey Dent, as his big bad Harv side ended up taking over and telling his thugs to kidnap him before the surgery's done. And we find out all of this after Batman and Two-Face fight for a little bit, as thugs end up surrounding him and tie him to a bomb. As Two-Face is deciding Batman's fate by flipping the coin keeps landing on its edge as Batman manages to escape and take down a few thugs as Two-Face's coin is still flipping on the side. The coin ends up rolling near the edge of a building, and as Two-Face is going to grab the coin, it falls off the edge and he starts to fall as well. Batman ends up admitting to Two-Face that it's a trick coin that will always land on its side, as he saves Two-Face. Robin also comes in as well to deal with everyone else as Two-Face is being saved from falling off the building. The episode then ends with Bruce as he sees Harvey going back to finish his surgery, where Harvey tells Bruce that Bruce never gave up on him, as Dick comes in to say this.
He's right. You're always there for him.
Yes. Just like you're always there for me.
Hey, what are friends for?
This is a really interesting episode, but really damn enjoyable. This season's 2 for 2 at the moment, and both of these episodes are good. I like the idea that Harvey's bad Harv personality set up a scheme where he would be kidnapped before that personality would be gone from Harvey and try to keep the bad Harv personality intact. Top of the list. Oh shit, the new intro. We're getting the new adventures of Batman and Robin now. Okay, this is interesting. Not nearly as iconic as the original intro, but it's basically just a clip show of the episodes of the show with different music. And also, damn, another episode with the main villain reforming? I'm keen to see how this goes, as I enjoy Birds of a Feather. The episode starts with the newspaper revealing that the Riddler's reformed, as we see Batman and Robin take down 2 of Riddler's thugs, as the Riddler's saying that he isn't planning anything evil. His business partner then walks in pissed off that Batman and Robin are there to try and stop the Riddler, where he explains that he partnered up to sell toys that are different types of puzzles and riddles. After that, we see Bruce and Dick at Wayne Manor as Dick looks at one of the puzzles and sees it's just an ordinary puzzle, but they see on the news that someone stole an 800-year-old antique. Bruce believes that Riddler did this and thinks of this line that the Riddler said before.
Those were things of the past, Batman. Ancient history that's gone now. I'm a new man, but you probably won't figure that out until it's too late.
And even after that, Bruce and Dick see an advertisement for the toys the Riddler's a part of. They see a phone number, and by using a map with those numbers, they think the Riddler's gonna rob a bank. After a bit of time passes, they realize that it's actually an address for somewhere else, as they flip the number upside down to reveal the address. They turn up to the address where they see thugs robbing a jewelry store, as they apprehend the thugs, but they manage to get away after escaping the building, and get away in a getaway car. We then see the Riddler and his business partner at a party, as the Riddler makes an absolute foolery out of Batman. We then see the Riddler film a new commercial where Bruce thinks that the Riddler's at a toy fair, as Bruce thinks the Riddler is where Batman first caught the Riddler. Bruce is right as he sees a Riddler inflatable and then a giant riddle box. The box opens and it nearly squashes him as Batman sees a giant TV where the Riddler shows Batman a giant set of dynamite as Batman gets locked in. The building blows up as we see the Riddler burning his costume, and Batman shows up at his apartment as he manages to take down his thugs. Batman beats the Riddler by using the same device that the Riddler used to embarrass Batman in front of everyone at the party. Bruce then tells Dick how he managed to survive the explosion because he ended up hiding in the safe, and then the episode ends with the Riddler pissed off in Arkham wondering how he survived the explosion. Okay, so this episode was more like House and Garden, but this one was done better. It's kind of funny to see the Riddler used for marketing toys, but obviously we find out through the episode that he had to make people think that he was really reformed. But episodes like these really show that this is the best adaptation of the Riddler, as the character's a lot like how he is in the comics, and I really do love John Glover's voice for the character. I do think that it's at the bottom of the list at the moment, but all 3 of these episodes are pretty good, so it isn't that easy to choose where they all go so far. This episode really has some of the best moments in the whole show, but it isn't perfect. It starts with an actor leaving the stage as they go home and they see a child crying. They go up to them and see what's wrong, but then we see that they know who this quote-unquote child is as they get knocked out. We then see a show called Where Are They Now that shows the quote-unquote child called Mary, where they talk about the show she acted in called Love That Baby. They see that the show was beloved over 20 years ago as Batman and Robin are talking to Gordon about most of the cast of the show being recently missing. Only 2 of the actors from the show haven't gone missing yet, as apparently Mary Doll's been gone for the past few years. Batman talks about how they read something about her before and says that she has systemic hyperplasia, which is a real thing that keeps a person's body from aging, as Mary Doll's actually in her 30s. As they're talking in the office, they hear that one of the actors that aren't missing are about to get abducted as Batman and Robin come in to stop this. The thugs end up getting away with the actor as Batman and Robin aren't able to stop them. It's because Batman and Robin are stopped by a girl that walks on the road and it makes the Batmobile crash. But they find out that this child is actually Mary Doll that intentionally distracted them so they'll crash the Batmobile. We then see that Mary's plan is to actually abduct all the actors and recreate the show. As Tammy's abducted, Mary explains all of her plans as she wants to recreate the show because her life's been a living hell after she left the show. After that, Batman then explains to Dick what happened with Mary Doll, explaining that she's tried to be a serious actor and it didn't work out for her. We then go back to the studio where Mary has the actors held hostage as one of them tries to leave, but they set up that Mary's assistant Miriam absolutely kicks their ass and knows karate. Right after that, we see Mary knock out the last actor that played the character Spunky as he's playing guitar, and then he ends up seeing what's going on at the studio. We then see Mary's plan is to actually blow up Spunky as she gives Spunky a cake but puts a stick of dynamite in it, as Spunky goes and grabs the stick of dynamite and throws it behind him by biting it and letting it go. Mary's then about to shoot Spunky as Batman comes in to stop them, and then we see that Spunky was actually Robin in disguise. Miriam then comes in to give him a bit of a fight as Batman and Robin manage to take her out. Batman then goes on the chase to get Mary as Robin goes to deal with the hostages. Batman chases her for a bit and then we end up in this room of mirrors, which we get this fucking amazing scene.
That's me in there. The real me. There I am. But it's not really real, is it? Just made up and pretend like my family and my life and everything else. Why couldn't you just let me make believe?
This shit is mwah, chef's kiss. But this doesn't have any right in being as good as it is, but this is how the episode ends. Just the note that the character regretting what they've done, as all they wanted to do is make believe back to the time when they were happy.
I really do think that the ending really holds up, and if you ask me, this moment alone is in like the top 5 or top 10 moments in the whole show. As the rest of the episode goes, it's alright. Pretty interesting how this show created this character, and if you ask me, the backstory is really well done. I do find the character a bit annoying when they're putting on their baby doll character, but besides from that, I think this is the best episode so far in the season.
I didn't mean to.
The Clock King's back? Hell yeah, I'm definitely keen about that, as I find this character pretty well done in the show. But we start off in an auction where Bruce and Dick are watching expensive items being auctioned off, as Dick's bored out of his mind as the clock's being auctioned off. We don't see that the Clock King teleports in, but it's more like fast forwarding because he's like stopping time, running to where he wants to, and then stops time, so it makes it look like he's teleporting. But the Clock King comes in and steals the clock as Bruce puts a $600,000 bid on the clock. Batman and Robin are watching the security footage later on and figure out that the Clock King's behind this as they saw his hand move faster than the eye. Ah, I see what they did there. Then we see a man experiment on making things move faster and slower as we see that his servant is actually the Clock King as he steals the device the scientist was working on. The Clock King then sets eyes on the mayor as if you remember in the last episode, the Clock King lost his job because he took the mayor's advice on a day where the Clock King needed to follow his usual schedule. Batman and Robin are waiting for the Clock King at the mayor's office as he just manages to slow down time and just waltz into the mayor's office. Batman and Robin try to get the Clock King as he manages to beat Batman and Robin by using the device to slow down time and escape. As he's escaping, he ends up accidentally breaking the device that allows him to slow down and fast forward time as the security guards are chasing after him. He's about to be caught by the guards as the device starts to work again as he escapes, and Batman thinks that the Clock King didn't make the device. Batman and Robin figure out where the Clock King might be. As they're going to go find the Clock King, we find out that the Clock King put one of those devices on the Batmobile and makes them go fast forward through time. They lost 2 days while being fast forwarded, but they end up arriving to where they think the Clock King would be, where we see the scientists stuck in the exact same thing that Batman and Robin were. We then see that the Clock King's using a device to set up a bomb where the mayor's going to hit a bomb and make himself explode. Batman and Robin come in just in the nick of time and manage to make the bomb explode somewhere else. So Batman and Robin have the time devices so they can actually catch up to the Clock King and end up defeating him by using those devices. The device made up in this episode where it can fast forward and slow down time is really cool. The episode itself is alright. I do enjoy the character of the Clock King, but I feel like his smarts in the first episode we saw him in are gone here. Instead, he just uses the smarts of someone else to steal a device where he intends to fulfill his plans. Definitely not a bad episode, but bottom of the list. Damn, how many episodes are there of villains reforming and trying to live a normal life? Well, this one focuses on Harley being released from Arkham as she wants to go out and live a normal life. Batman congratulates her after handing Scarecrow back into custody, but also says that he hopes that she changes her ways. We then see Harley out living life as everyone's scared of her hyenas as she's rollerblading through Gotham. We then see Harley walk into a store as she goes in to buy a dress and ends up running into Bruce Wayne. And then as she pays for the dress and is gone to walk out, they forgot to take the security tag off. So the alarm goes off, so the guard tries to take the dress from her to take the security tag off, but Harley ends up whacking the security guard. Bruce sees this going on, so he tries to walk in and ask Harley what's going on, as she walks out and she's in her normal outfit. We see that she's mad as she ends up hitting Bruce and then kidnaps Veronica as she takes her for a car drive. Harley's reckless driving causes Bullock to crash, so now Bullock's on her tail as well. And after that, we see Gordon in his office as we see Veronica's father's an army general trying to order SWAT teams after her daughter. As Gordon leaves the office for a moment, Veronica's father orders helicopters and SWAT teams after Harley so he can get his daughter back. We see that Harley's trying to get away as Batman and Robin are on her tail, and she ends up at Boxy's hideout. She gets to Boxy's hideout where she wants to try and get away, but make sure Veronica's safe as well. Batman and Robin catch up and take out Boxy's thugs as Harley and Veronica get away. They have a bit of a heart-to-heart as Veronica seems pretty happy that Harley doesn't want her to be hurt at all. As they're chatting, Veronica's father's in a fucking tank and tries to shoot them, so now Harley has Batman and Robin, Bullock, Boxy, and Veronica's father after her. Batman and Harley end up facing off on top of a rooftop, and as she's about to meet her demise, Batman ends up saving her. The episode ends with Batman taking Harley into Arkham as they talk. Just seeing how she really wanted to change her life is honestly great, but obviously it's unfortunate how this doesn't work out because of a misunderstanding. But it's still good how the episode leaves you with some hope that maybe Harley will actually reform after getting out of Arkham again. It really does show you that even with one really bad day that you should still push through and achieve what you want in life. Top of the list. Make him laugh, hey? Does that mean the Joker's in this episode? Let's find out. The episode starts at the restaurant as the Condiment King walks in and tells them the reservations for the king. He then sprays the waiter with ketchup and mustard as everyone looks at him and then ignores him, and honestly this shit's hilarious how no one takes him seriously. So then the Condiment King ends up spraying everyone at sauce as he demands that they hand over their wallets as they do so, but Batman comes in to stop him. Batman apprehends him, but he ends up falling off the side of the building. They identified the Condiment King as a comedian called Buddy Standler, as Dick says he's a great comedian, and he was meant to be a judge for the laugh-off competition that's on that night. We then see Alfred out as another villain comes in to rob the mall called Pack Rat. We then see that Pack Rat stealing things from all of them as Alfred tries to ring Bruce about this and Pack Rat ends up just shooting the phone box. So Batman and Robin end up coming in and easily deal with Pack Rat, and honestly this episode's so wild so far. Especially with how this episode's having random villains like Pack Rat and Condiment King in it already. After Batman and Robin deal with Pack Rat, they find out this is another comedian that was meant to be on the laugh-off competition as one of the judges. So now Batman and Robin think that the Mad Hatter's behind this, using mind control to mind control the judges to commit heists and become new villains. So Batman and Robin go to Arkham to see if the Mad Hatter's still there, and yeah, he's still there, but he's out cold as he's asleep. Batman and Robin get back to the Batcave as they find out a third judge of the laugh-off competition has been kidnapped, and that it's the lady that the Joker knocked out earlier in the episode. Batman and Robin are watching the episode of the show as they find out that the Joker was a normal person that entered the competition and lost. So we see that the Joker is trying to take over the laugh-off competition as Batman and Robin come in to stop them. We see that the Joker has Lisa under his control as Joker takes the trophy and leaves. Batman and Robin make quick work out of Lisa and then go to try and apprehend the Joker. So the Joker tries to get away in a parade balloon as Batman catches up as they fight as the Joker gets taken down when Robin swoops in. The episode ends with the Joker being taken into custody as everyone's laughing at the Joker because his pants are down and he keeps falling over as he's being taken in. I'm gonna be honest, it was funny seeing obscure Batman villains in this episode and seeing the Joker going through this whole plan just to get the title of funniest man in Gotham, but there isn't much else to it besides from that. If you ask me, it's the weakest episode of the season so far. Definitely not a bad episode, but it's pretty forgettable. Interesting. Batgirl's back, so I hope that this episode's good. We start with what's meant to be Catwoman stealing an artifact from a museum, and as Batman's coming to stop this, the Penguin zaps him with an electric umbrella. As he tries to stop the Penguin with the Batarang, the Joker stops the Batarang. We see that the Joker, Two-Face, and the Penguin have him on the roof as Batgirl comes in and stops them all. She kicks their asses pretty easily and then goes to assist Batman as he says thanks and she goes in for a kiss. But we hear Dick's voice from Batman's mouth as it's revealed to be a dream that she's having. Yeah, already, I don't like this Batgirl-Batman shipping. I've never liked it. We hear Dick call out to her in her dorm. It's Dick's asking if she wants to come and get some pizza, but she says that she can't. A newspaper gets delivered to Barbara where we see that the same artifact in a dream is stolen, so Barbara suits up to see Catwoman going to steal the artifact, but it isn't there. So Batman interrupts Catwoman as she thinks that Catwoman stole the artifact, but they figure out that it's not her that actually stole it as they see a bit of acid on the floor. Batgirl's about to fight Catwoman as Robin comes in to interrupt them and Catwoman ends up getting away as Batgirl tries to explain that Catwoman didn't steal the artifact. So after that, Catwoman wants to team up with Batgirl to find out who stole the artifact. After this happens, we find out that Bruce is in Paris, so this episode is just going to focus on Batgirl, Catwoman, and Robin. Catwoman and Batgirl go to apprehend someone that might know what type of acid this is as the man starts to run away. The other people in the bar that Batgirl and Catwoman are apprehending the man in try to fight them off, as Batgirl and Catwoman manage to escape the bar as the police are now chasing them whilst on their motorbike. They manage to lose the police as Robin hears that Batgirl's teaming up with Catwoman. But Catwoman knows who would have made the acid and traces her back to Roland Daggett. God, that's a name I could care less about. Every episode Roland is in besides from one is not good. We then find out that they stole the artifact as Catwoman tries to steal it back from Roland, as Roland has his men tie them both up. So they take Catwoman and Batgirl to be thrown into a massive vat of acid as Robin comes in to save them. They end up dealing with Roland's thugs as Catwoman approaches Roland and steals the artifact from him. So for Catwoman to escape, she knocks Roland over the railing and Robin and Batgirl manage to save him in time so she gets away. Eventually Batgirl catches up to Catwoman as she takes the artifact back and hands Catwoman into the authorities. The episode ends with Catwoman kicking the officers out of the car as she said that she'll let the police take them, but she never said how far. I don't know, but this episode was alright as well. Might just be the weakest in the season as I find I don't really care much about Batgirl and Catwoman teaming up since this is the first time they've ever met each other. It just feels like a really small scale episode as well since it just focuses on Batgirl, Catwoman, Robin and Roland Daggett. And I think you all know well and truly how I feel about Mr. Daggett. Bottom of the list. Another new villain that the show created? And this episode in particular starts with Scarecrow begging not to be taken back into Arkham as Batman and Robin are taking him in. Scarecrow begs for him not to be taken back to a security guard named Lyle Bolton as he takes Scarecrow back into Arkham. We then see that Lyle's being judged for his allegations of apparently mistreating inmates as inmates are questioned to see if he's guilty or not. We see that Gordon, Bruce Wayne, Mayor Hill, as well as a few other people are trying to find out if he's guilty or not. All the inmates such as Harley Quinn and Scarecrow and Ventriloquist say that he hasn't done anything wrong, As Bruce says that they're going to extend his contract by 18 months, they all admit all the wrongdoings that Lyle's done to them. Lyle starts to get angry and flips tables and starts to get aggressive with everyone, and eventually Bruce ends up flipping a chair in front of him and makes him trip over as he's taken out of the building. We then get a time jump of 6 months as we see Bruce taking a phone call as someone gets abducted from a car, and as Bruce tries to get out and help, the person throws a lock on the door so Bruce is stuck in the building. Bruce uses a smoke bomb so he suits up as Batman to stop this new villain. Batman gets out of the building, and then Lyle tells Batman that he deals with the criminals and that Lockup will lock the criminals away, and Batman obviously says no to this as they fight. Lockup manages to get away as Batman figures out that Lyle would be behind this. Batman and Robin try to investigate Lyle's old property but find nothing there. So Batman then sees the bat signal light up as they see Bullock in handcuffs and tells Batman that Lockup has Gordon. After Bullock's freed, Bullock then goes to tell Mayor Hill to go into hiding as Batman and Robin sneak into the building, and they tell him that if they can sneak into the building, so can Lockup. We see Lockup take Mayor Hill into a cell as Gordon tells Lyle to stop, and Lockup then electrocutes Gordon as his hands are on the bars. Batman and Robin figure out where Lockup is, so they end up arriving at his place where they have to deal with a few different security measures and ended up doing so successfully. Robin ends up dealing with all the security systems as Batman goes to fight Lockup. And as that's going on, the boat ends up crashing as it starts going down. Robin saves the hostages as the boat's going underwater faster and faster as Lockup has Batman in cuffs. And as Robin's coming in to help, Batman and Lockup fall into the water. Batman grapples out of the water whilst having Lockup with him, and the episode ends with Lyle and Arkham as they're happy that he's in captivity. Lockup's such a strange villain, but I actually enjoy the character quite a bit as you can really see him as an absolute lunatic that just wants to punish everyone against him. At first, he only treats criminals like absolute scum, and not as actual people, but as he becomes Lockup, he becomes more and more deranged and just goes after everyone that doesn't like him. To be fair though, more could have been done with this character, but it's interesting to see how even the villains that Batman faces off against can be scared shitless of someone. Goes above time out of joint, but below Riddler's reform. Mr. Freeze is back, and I'm so keen since we've only seen this character in Heart of Ice. The last episode of Season 3 starts with the robot breaking into prison as it breaks through the walls and frees Mr. Freeze. Freeze Mr. Freeze? Oh my god. The interesting thing though is, as the robot's freeing Mr. Freeze from prison, Mr. Freeze seems like he doesn't want to be freed out of prison. So Batman and Robin investigate the breakout, and they believe that Mr. Freeze wasn't taken out in his own will. Batman and Robin go to Carl Rossum to see if there's any info on who created the robot, as we greeted with Batmine? I was so confused seeing this at first, but it turns out it's a toy that Rossum made as we see other things in the room such as Crypto the Superdog and Mr. Mixaplick. The funny fact is that Gilbert Gottfried went to play that character in Superman the Animated Series. Rossum then explains that he knows that the robot's called an M9, and they made a small-scale version of it that was used for an amusement park. As they're talking about that, we see the robot has landed in some random island as we see that a man named Grant Walker made this whole place as Mr. Freeze doesn't really want to help him. So Batman and Robin arrive on the island as we find out that Walker wants to be immortal like Mr. Freeze. Freeze tries to explain that this isn't what Walker wants, but Walker insists that this is what he wants as he shows Nora in a tank. So after he sees Nora in a tank, he finally agrees to help Walker. So we then hear that Walker's actual plans is that he's going to make this place a perfect safe haven for everyone in Gotham, whilst Gotham gets frozen cold. As Batman and Robin are watching this, robots end up attacking them both and hold them captive. He manages to freeze them stuck together as an M9 robot takes them to see Walker, as he's become immortal, turning into Mr. Freeze. Walker's going to complete the process as Mr. Freeze explains why he had to do what Walker said as he shows Nora in the tank. Mr. Freeze ends up freeing Batman and Robin as Mr. Freeze goes in to stop Walker with Batman and Robin's help. They manage to stop his plans and Mr. Freeze plans to destroy the whole island as he tells the residents to evacuate. Everyone evacuates as Mr. Freeze stays with Nora and the whole island blows up and goes underwater. The episode ends with Bruce and Dick talking about how Mr. Freeze is truly immortal and we might not have seen the last of him. This episode's good. Not Heart of Ice good, but I still think it works well. Just the Walker stuff where he wants to be immortal is a bit strange, but I don't have much else to say. Goes above Second Chance but below Baby Doll. What an interesting season. Started off with great episode after great episode, then slightly fell down a bit in quality until the last episode pulled itself back up. If you were to ask me, I think this is the best season yet, even though it's only 10 episodes long. The big standouts here are Baby Doll and Harley's Holiday, as I really enjoy these episodes a lot, and I do wish that the whole season had the quality of those first few episodes all the way through, but there's bound to be a few weaker episodes anyways. I really wonder if the quality of the episodes will drop as the next season's only 5 episodes long, or will it get even better? So how about we find out? So what a way to start this season, but with an episode of a trio that no one knows besides the biggest comic book fanatics. We start season 4 with a trio of thieves stealing from a safe as they take out a guard. They're all wearing masks. One's wearing a fox mask, another a shark mask, and the last one a vulture mask. They end up stealing money from a safe as Batman and Robin come in to stop the trio as they're making their escape, and Robin always gets blown up. The next day, Bruce goes shooting as they shoot plates, and he's talking to someone named Warren. They wonder if this is the only thing that Bruce does, as this shooting is meant to be for a charity event, and Warren talks about his trio of friends that go out and do a bunch of different things. Bruce is quite suspicious about them as we see Warren slip a check to his partner, and he has a plan to get that money back from a girlfriend named Rebecca's dad. Then we see the trio back again as they barge into Rebecca's dad's place. As they're stealing the money, the dad wakes up and pulls a gun on them. They end up knocking the man out and get away with the cash, but the police arrive as the trio are leaving and Batman comes to investigate this. As the trio are driving away, Batman catches up to them in the Batmobile as they go on a big car chase, and the trio's car is basically James Bond's cars that spits out grenades. Batman's still on their tail as the Fox then decides to throw the money on the road as the people walk onto the road to grab the money, forcing Batman to lose them. We see Rebecca as she's visiting her father in hospital, and we see Bruce come in to support Rebecca as Warren comes up and walks away with Rebecca. Bruce does some snooping in Rebecca's father's room and sees that there's a triangle mark in his face as we see that Warren has a ring with a triangle on it. We see Warren and the trio trying to cheer Rebecca up, and as Warren grabs a cloth, a piece of jewelry from her father falls out. So now Rebecca knows that they're responsible as Batman talks to Dick whilst on the back computer about who the trio is. Warren's other two people in his trio explain to Rebecca that they were just bored, so they did what they did, as Warren insists on knocking her out and ending her by throwing over a cliff in a car. Batman comes in time to save Rebecca as he ends up facing the trio out in the snow. All the trio end up in prison as we see Warren poops his pants at the side of his cellmate. Just this big random guy. Not a bad episode, but honestly pretty average. I do like how the show brings in obscure characters and tries to flesh them out, but they're just boring. And if I'm going to be honest, this is worse than any of the episodes in the last season, but still not bad. Ra's is back, and it starts with the members of the League of Shadows as they break into a facility as Batman and Robin come to stop them. Ra's is there with them as he walks into another room to take a man that's sitting down near a campfire. As Batman and Robin get into the room, we see Ra's escape in a plane as the tape was left behind the room. In the Batmobile, they listen to a tape as Ra's explains the story, and where 1883 we see a man named Jonah Hex. Remember that DC character?
Probably not, because the 2010 movie starring Josh Brolin sucked ass.
But throughout the episode, we basically follow an adventure of Jonah Hex where he has to take down this certain man called Arcady Duval. But we see Jonah walk through this western town as he walks into a bar and sits down as the waiter asks what they want. Jonah says that he's after a man named Arcady Duval, as the waiter knows about him, and as the waiter's about to tell Jonah where he is as a sheriff walks in. The sheriff says he's surprised he hasn't killed anyone yet, as the waiter tells Jonah to come back at midnight so she can help him. They walk around a bit, and as the woman mentions a light, they actually see that same light. So the woman leaves Jonah to it, and Jonah goes to investigate and sees a massive blimp inside. Also, we see that Duval is actually voiced by Malcolm McDowell. I can recognize that voice anywhere, but we see the man as he's whipping out the mem when Ra's comes in to tell Duval to stop. So Jonah comes in to try and stop their plans as Jonah gets taken captive. He hides in his cell as the guard believes that he managed to escape, and as the guard walks in, Jonah knocks him out and gets out of the cell. So Jonah manages to escape and manages to get on the blimp as it's taking off. We see that the blimp's actually shooting at the western town that we started the episode off in, and then Jonah manages to face off against Duval. So Jonah manages to shoot the blimp while Duval and Jonah are fighting. We see that Ra's escaped with the flying machine, and as the blimp's about to go down, Jonah and Duval jump onto a mountain just before the blimp explodes. Jonah lets Duval live as he said he's too old for this, and oh yeah, I forgot this was an episode of Batman the Animated Series, as it felt like its own separate Jonah Hex series. Batman and Robin see Ra's at the airport as Duval's still alive but extremely old as Ubu has him in a wheelchair. Batman lets Ra's take Duval home as they'll cross paths another day, and surprisingly, this is a cool episode. There's something completely different for the show, as you can tell Paul Dini and Bruce Timm really wanted to do something with Jonah Hex, so decided to connect Ra's to it. Honestly, not a bad idea, and it really shows how cool of a character Jonah Hex can be, so yeah, this goes top of the list. Catwalk obviously has Catwoman back, and as we see Selena in a museum, and she thinks about a flashback where she sees herself as a lone cat that would roam around at night and take what she wants. She explains that things have changed ever since she's met Batman, as Batman's the only one that's defeated her. So now throughout this episode, Selena's just fighting the urges to be Catwoman again. But we see that Selena's actually at a party as Bruce approaches her, and then Selena ends up leaving after making fun of Veronica's grandfather. As Selena leaves, she thanks Bruce for inviting her, but feels like she doesn't belong in this crowd. But as she leaves, the thug picks her up in a car as we see ventriloquist and Scarface picked her up. So Scarface then proposes a plan to her as she ends up agreeing to do it. So we then see her suit up to go out and do the plan as she uses her cat Ice as a diversion to steal the goods. Catwoman goes to escape, but her escape gets ruined by a bomb Scarface set up, and she eventually escapes after knocking out a guard. Selena gets home and sees Batman as he questions her about what she was doing at the museum. Batman makes Catwoman go back to the museum as Batman knows that she isn't telling him something. As Batman figures this all out, Catwoman kicks him in the stomach as she goes to escape. Batman catches up to her and they fight on top of the giant whale until she manages to escape. But Batman put a tracker on her, so now he knows exactly where Catwoman is and figures out that she's with Ventriloquist and Scarface. So as Batman's outside of the building, we see that Rhino gets Catwoman as Scarface explains his plan, where he's stealing animals from the museum and going to sell them off to other people. So then Batman comes in to put a stop to all of this. Catwoman ends up getting the dummy as she throws it into a conveyor belt where the dummy's about to be cut up to bits. Ventriloquist ends up whacking Catwoman with one of the animals and turns the conveyor belt off, but Catwoman ends up dropping a bunch of logs on the dummy instead. Ventriloquist starts to cry as Catwoman tries to hurt him, but Batman stops her. Catwoman then gets away after giving Batman the choice of saving an animal statue or stopping her, and the episode ends with Catwoman on the rooftop. I really don't have much to say about this episode, but it's alright. I just feel like it's another typical Catwoman episode, and I really felt they could have dived into Selina's desperation to be Catwoman again until she just caves in and does it. Goes above the terrible trio, but below the showdown. An episode centered around Bullock? Alright, something different, but I'm keen, and this episode starts with the car trying to run him over, as Bullock tries to stop them by shooting the car. They get away as Bullock then pulls the bat signal, telling him that more and more people seem to be trying to off Bullock, and that it's been happening more and more recently. Batman agrees to help him, but as long as Bullock does all the right things without having to bend any rules. We then see Bullock back at his apartment as he's really skeptical about anyone trying to assassinate him, as he sees someone trying to shoot him, but it's just a bunch of cockroaches on a wall making that shape, looking like someone's holding a gun. So Batman then goes out of the Batcave to find out what's really going on as we see Bullock and Montoya trying to stop some thugs in a building. One of the thugs has a clear shot on Bullock as Batman jumps in to stop him from shooting Bullock. Bullock catches the thug and then meets up with Batman in his apartment as he questions if all the papers Batman has are all the threats that Bullock's got. Batman thinks that this person doesn't actually want to kill Bullock as a professional would have just ended them in their hotel. Batman thinks that it might be a man known as Vinny the Shark as he only did 8 years of his 10 to 20 year sentence. Bullock really thinks he shouldn't be taking orders from Batman as he gets angry and really puts Bullock in his place, and it's great. Honestly, what makes this episode good is Batman and Bullock's interactions as they really clash with each other, obviously because Bullock really doesn't like Batman. It's really entertaining to watch. But Batman finds Vinny the Shark and eventually gets to him as he orders his men to drop a car on both of them. Vinny has them surrounded as Batman throws a gas bomb and deals with the thugs as he gets to Vinny after a chase sequence. Bullock believes that all this is over as Vinny's in custody, and Bullock thanks Batman after he says that he thinks Batman's a freak. Bullock then interrogates Vinny as he seems to not know what Bullock's talking about, and Bullock really believes that it's him. But as Bullock's going back to his apartment, a man in a mask holds a gun up to Bullock saying that they really didn't want it to end this way, as Batman saves Bullock as the man's about to pull the trigger. Batman unmasks the man to say that it's Nivens, his neighbour that didn't like that Bullock was in his apartment building, who we briefly saw earlier in the episode. Bullock thanks Batman and says that he owes him one, but Batman tells him not to worry as he already has enough problems. I surprisingly enjoy this episode a lot. It's a really simple episode, but the interactions with Batman and Bullock really make this episode as we see that Bullock doesn't like Batman but needs his help. Goes above Catwalk but below Showdown. The last episode of the season already? God damn. And we start this one with Dick doing some gymnastics in the Batcave as Bruce is suiting up for the night. Batman drives off, and as Dick and Alfred go up to have some supper, Alfred's cousin named Frederick rings and tells Alfred to meet him as soon as possible. Bruce then sees the note Alfred left behind as he shows Dick and explains the matter of the note. Alfred then waits for Frederick where Frederick told him to meet him as two men approach Alfred and they try to grab him. Alfred rings Bruce the next day as the same two thugs come in and take Alfred. But after that we see that Alfred's being taken to a castle where we see that the leader is Red Claw, as she has Frederick hostage as well. Yay, I totally cared about Red Claw the first time she showed up. Batman and Robin investigate Alfred's room as the same two thugs are still watching them and try to jump them in an alleyway, where they start to run and end up taking over a red bus. Batman and Robin take them out and they find out that the thugs have the Red Claw tattoo, so they know straight away who's responsible for this. We see Red Claw talking to Frederick and Alfred as she explains that she wants to get a code for a long-range missile from Alfred. So Red Claw drugs Alfred and Frederick in an attempt to get the code so she can launch the missile. So Batman and Robin start to make their way to the castle as Red Claw sees this and sets off alarms. Batman and Robin get trapped into a room where red hot liquid is pouring out as two thugs go to check if they're gone, and they get knocked out by Batman. Red Claw makes a broadcast saying that they're going to bomb the country by hitting Trafalgar Square if they don't give him £5 billion in the next hour. Red Claw still doesn't have Alfred's code, so she slaps Alfred for the code, where he tells her that it's the lion and the unicorn. So now she has both codes as Batman and Robin manage to get in and they take down the Red Claw. But as they're taking down Red Claw, she manages to actually shoot the missile, and it almost hits Big Ben just before Batman and Robin stop the missile. But the episode ends with Alfred and Frederick saying their goodbyes to one another at the airport. Finally, a better Red Claw episode. This one isn't great, but it's alright. I wasn't bored during this one. I don't have much else to say about this episode in particular, but let's just recap the season. I'll be honest, this season was very average. There weren't any amazing episodes. Best episode in this season's about an 8 out of 10, and it doesn't even have Batman in most of the episode, and most of the episode takes place 110 years before this episode aired. So the quality has dropped a bit, but I really hope they can manage to come back together and make some great episodes again. I still find it strange that this is the one season with only 5 episodes, but after this season the show becomes the new Batman Adventures, so let's see how that goes. Before I dive into the episodes, the whole show got a redesign in this season with every character getting new designs, some more subtle and some big changes. Big design changes that I think are good are Bane, Mad Hatter and Scarecrow. Like, holy shit, the Scarecrow looks horrifying now and I love it. But some of the bad big changes are Catwoman and the Joker. What was their idea with the Joker? To make him look more like Mickey Mouse? Either way, the show is going through a big change, and let's see how the show handles that change by finding out how good Season 5 is. Another Christmas episode. Okay, I'm keen to see how this goes. We start with Ivy as Harley wants to celebrate Christmas by getting a Christmas tree, where Ivy says no to the tree, but has a different plan instead. Ivy decides to hypnotize Bruce whilst he's at a party, as Ivy kisses Bruce with a certain type of lipstick that makes him do what Ivy and Harley want. So throughout the episode, Ivy and Harley go on a massive shopping spree, but you know what? I'm already not the biggest fan of the redesigns of the female characters. They all have the exact same facial structure with nothing to differentiate one another besides the hair, eye color, and clothing. Eventually the lipstick starts to wear off as Harley goes to give Bruce some more, he falls down an elevator shaft and eventually suits up to take down Harley and Ivy. Batman deals with the two, and then eventually we cut to Christmas Eve where we see Barbara shopping for Gordon. In the same store we see Bullock as a mall Santa with Montoya being the elf, and this is hilarious.
You're not the real Santa Claus.
Sure I am. Want to see my gun? Ow!
But eventually Barbara sees a kid stealing from the store, as they see that there's 4 kids running around it and it's actually Clayface. So Barbara suits up to deal with Clayface as they fight on an icing rink, and Clayface falls through the ice and gets electrocuted, as Bullock and Montoya shoot the Christmas lights into the water he's standing in. Now there's a third story on New Year's Eve where the Joker broadcasts on TV saying that he wouldn't end anyone next year, but he's going to work double time today to get as many people as possible. Also, this is the first episode where we see Tim Drake as Robin, since we find out later that Dick has become Nightwing. Batman finds out where the Joker's going to wreak havoc as he's in Gotham Square, going to send out a sound that would be fatal. The Joker gives everyone in attendance Joker masks, so it's harder for Batman to find him, but obviously Batman and Robin catch up and take down the Joker right on New Year's. I find it strange how we just have 3 short episodes in this one episode, and to be honest, I do like this episode quite a bit because it's just different for the show. Nothing amazing, but I also forgot to mention how nice the ending is with Batman and Gordon having some tea on New Year's, as Batman pays for the check and gets out before Gordon does. I find the first story with Ivy and Harley is the best, as they're just messing around and having fun, whilst also hypnotizing Bruce Wayne. Okay, so this episode makes it official that Tim Drake is Robin. Even though we saw Robin in the last episode, it wasn't shown or stated in the last episode who Robin is. We see Tim as he takes down some old guard? I don't know, but he then gets back to his apartment and his Two-Face's men are waiting for him since they don't know where his father is. Two-Face gets Tim as he steals a note from Tim that his father wrote for him, saying that he had to leave town, and as Two-Face orders his men to end Tim, Batman comes in to stop them. Two-Face and his men leave as a fire starts as oil barrels are shot by one of Two-Face's goons, and as Tim and Batman fall into the water, Tim pulls them out. They escape by going into the Batboat as it autopilots back to the Batcave, as we also get a new look at Alfred. Tim ends up leaving the Batcave to walk into Wayne Manor and finds out that Batman's Bruce Wayne after walking into the office as Batgirl takes him back down. They read the note that Tim had and they find out that Tim's father was hiding something in Gotham Airport as Two-Face's men takes the items from the airport. Batman comes in to stop them, but eventually Two-Face gets away. As Batman and Batgirl then decide to find out who Tim's father is, Tim walks in to find out that his father's gone to Metropolis and became a John Doe. So they're setting up Metropolis in this bitch too. Alright. Two-Face then broadcasts a message saying they'll release a chemical compound on Gotham if he doesn't get 22 million by 2 AM. Batman and Batgirl go to confront Two-Face and his men, and as they do that, Tim ends up suiting up as Robin to go help and ends up getting held hostage. Tim gets out by a batarang as Batman deals with Two-Face and Batgirl stops the machine. The episode ends with Dick walking in to talk to Tim as they all seem surprised that he came back as he mentions that he can't be a boy wonder forever. This episode's alright, but I really don't have much else to say about it, and honestly, it's funny to see Batman be annoyed as Tim suited up as Robin. I think they could have made it a bit more emotional that Tim's father left him. Aside from that, I really can't think of anything else to say about this episode. Just above the last one. Interesting. So this episode continues the story from the Batman animated movie, Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, and it starts with Mr. Freeze and his henchwoman breaking into a museum. But Mr. Freeze freezes a statue of a dinosaur's bones as one of the people working there gets upset about this. So throughout the episode, Mr. Freeze and his henchwoman target different places as he goes around destroying passion projects or things with meaning towards rich people. Batman tries to find out why he's doing this because usually his motive is because of Nora, and now it just seems like he's doing things without any rhyme or reason. I really like this little scene where Bruce turns up the difficulty of the draining simulator right after Barbara needs more practice. It's quite funny. But Mr. Freeze then goes to target Bruce Wayne as he thinks that he has the most to lose, and he decides to get Bruce by breaking into Wayne Manor. Mr. Freeze ends up freezing Alfred as Batgirl then comes in to stop Mr. Freeze, as Bruce and Tim make quick work of the henchwoman. The two henchwomen manage to get a jump on Batgirl and Tim, as their attention's focused on Mr. Freeze, as Mr. Freeze and his goons leave. Batgirl puts a tracker on Mr. Freeze's getaway truck as Batman and Batgirl go after Mr. Freeze, and they find out that he was holding 3 doctors hostage as his henchwomen walk in and hold him at gunpoint. Mr. Freeze then comes out as we see him as just a head with legs, as he says that he can't return to Nora and that there's no hope for anyone. He then quickly suits up and tells Batman he's planned to freeze Gotham with a bomb that will freeze in a 10-mile radius, and Mr. Freeze wants Batman to be kept alive to see it happen. So Batman and Batgirl manage to deal with the thugs as Batman goes and stops Mr. Freeze, and eventually does that by sending the plane out far enough where it doesn't affect Gotham, as Mr. Freeze is stuck in the bomb. The episode ends with Mr. Freeze's suit frozen in the iceberg as we don't see his head there, and to be honest, I actually miss seeing Mr. Freeze's motivation being Nora. I feel like it gives him an actual reason to do what he does instead of just, fuck it, I want to see people losing everything because I'm now only a head with spider legs. Definitely not a bad episode, but kinda disappointing since I really think the other episode with Mr. Freeze is better. Bottom of the list. Fuck yes, here's our look at the brand spanking new Scarecrow. The episode starts with a random man swinging around Gotham as he almost accidentally ends himself by crashing into a sign. The sign's about to fall as Batman and Robin save everyone from the sign falling, and apparently this man has no fears, he isn't even scared. We then get our look at Scarecrow and his awesome voice. Instead of Henry Pollock II voicing the character, which I already like the voice for, we now have Jeffrey Combs voicing the character, which holy shit, it fits the new design so well and it really makes Scarecrow threatening. We see Bruce at Wayne Manor as Tim's messing around the office, and then there's a man named Seymour Grey comes in, acting really angry as he quits, and then assaults Bruce's assistant by kissing her as Seymour leaves his wallet behind, and sees a card for a thing called Never Fear. Bruce snoops around a Never Fear press conference where he finds a lot of tanks as Scarecrow knocks him out. Bruce wakes up in a random place behind the fence as he sees an alligator try to jump at him on the other side of the fence. Scarecrow pops up and shoots Bruce with a toxin that's making people not scared as he jumps in with the alligators, and we see blood in the water as Bruce gets out. Batman then obviously knows that Scarecrow's behind all of this as he goes to stop his plans, and he's still suffering with the effects of the gas as he has a lot of close calls while flying the Batwing. Batman interrogates Scarecrow's business partner as he tells him where Scarecrow's going to be. Tim turns on Batman as he isn't afraid to end people. So Robin goes on his own to deal with Scarecrow as Robin leaves Batman tied up, as he might end up ending people, but Robin goes to confront Scarecrow and ends up getting knocked out by one of his goons. Batman comes in. Batman takes out the goons, and as Batman's choking Scarecrow, Robin uses the antidote on Batman that makes him snap out of it as they have to jump off the train. They all get out just in time, and the episode ends with Batman saying to Robin that he did a good thing tying him up. And this is a good episode. I like how the toxin that makes people fearless can affect them with every fear that they have, and that really comes full swing with Bruce as he isn't scared to end people now. I reckon they could have taken it a step further with more than one person in Gotham dealing with the effects, but besides from that, it was a fun little episode with some quite interesting stuff where Bruce deals with the toxin. Top of the list. So this is the first episode with Nightwing, as the last episode teased his arrival with Dick meeting up with Bruce and Barbara. Also, Dick has a massive mullet now, and I don't know what to think about this since everyone has a mullet down here in Australia. But as Nightwing's watching some thugs, Batman and Batgirl approach him. But Nightwing takes out some thugs after Batman and Batgirl approach him whilst he was watching the thugs to see what they're up to. As Nightwing's about to take out the rest of the thugs, Catwoman interrupts by tying up the last goon and leaving after saying it was a gift for Nightwing. We see that Barbara and Dick are dating as after that scene they're chatting before Dick has to go on his nightly patrol. Throughout the episode, Catwoman decides to help Dick by tagging along with him as he's trying to find out what a certain group of thugs are up to. Whilst this is going on, Batman's trying to get Selena to leave Nightwing alone as Batman has trust issues with Selena and thinks that she'll double cross him. Catwoman ends up revealing that she played him for a cat's eye emerald, and as she tangles Nightwing up, he reveals that he actually set her up by having Batman and Batgirl follow him to where Catwoman was going to find the emerald. They fight it out as the thugs come in and fight as well, as all the heroes make quick work of all of them, and the episode ends with Nightwing saving Catwoman as she was about to meet her demise. I really don't know what I think about this episode. I'm not the biggest fan because it just seems weird that Nightwing let Selena flirt with him for so long. I guess it makes sense in the end with Nightwing setting her up. Still very mixed about this episode, but it goes above Cold Comfort but below Holiday Nights. One thing I'm really noticing is how much I'm really missing the title cards. They were all just so unique, and now they're just the title of the episode with an establishing shot of where the first scene's taking place. But we start with Ventriloquist in a dream sequence where he's running away from Scarface in a chest as it's chasing him. The nightmare sequence ends with Scarface shooting him as he wakes up in Arkham to read his rehabilitation certificate from Arkham. Honestly, this is so sweet to see Ventriloquist happy and that he has a second chance, as Batman's listening to him talk about how he has an apartment and a job at Wayne Enterprises. As Ventriloquist is trying to catch a bus, Muggsy and Rhino approach him asking where Scarface is as Batman comes in to deal with Muggsy and Rhino. Ventriloquist runs away, and as he gets back to his apartment, Scarface starts to come back as he panics about his return. Throughout the episode, he starts to see Scarface around, and eventually Batman chases around Scarface, which seems to be moving on its own. But eventually those tricks he's been playing on Ventriloquist worked, as we see him take control of Scarface. But the person that got Ventriloquist to control Scarface is a man named Hips McManus, where he dressed up as Scarface as he was hired by Muggsy and Rhino to get Scarface back. Scarface then breaks into Wayne Enterprises and forces Lucius to open up a safe as Batman and Batgirl come to stop them. The episode ends with Scarface double-crossing Muggsy and Rhino as Batman manages to get through to Ventriloquist as he shoots Scarface and ends up getting grinded up into a million pieces as we see Ventriloquist happy in his apartment. Yeah, as I said before, seeing Ventriloquist happy that he beat his multiple personality disorder and looking forward to living a normal life is really good stuff. Not enough people talk about this episode in my opinion because you finally get to see a character succeed after suffering and it's satisfying. Top of the list. Okay, I do think the title of this episode's text is well done here, where they have the title of the episode and the writers and directors on a massive computer screen at a science convention? I think it's a science convention, but honestly, the title text is a really cool touch. But we follow Batman as he's trying to take down Joker and Harley Quinn as they're causing havoc at a science convention, as they manage to get away. But as they're getting away, they run out of gas as the Joker uses an ejector seat to get away, but Harley gets caught by Batman as she doesn't have an ejector seat. We see that Joker really doesn't have much money as he's in a cheap apartment and can't even afford rent, where he gets $250 million from a man named King Barlow, as he passed away and gave the Joker his money. The Joker pays to clear his criminal history and uses his newfound wealth for his own gain. Throughout the episode, Batman decides to find out what the Joker's up to as Bruce is suspicious that Joker's up to something and even gets Deacon Barbara to have dinner at the Iceberg Lounge to see if the Joker's up to anything. We find out that King Barlow actually got the last laugh on the Joker after the Joker plays the tape that he left for him, as King Barlow explains that he only left him $10 million. He also explains that the rest was all fake money as the rest of it has his face on it and he knows that the Joker would have blown the $10 million already. So the Joker decides to rob the Gotham Mint to pay their IRS as Batman comes in and stops the Joker as the episode ends with the Joker going back to Arkham as the security guard is Harley in disguise and she beats the Joker with a club. The stuff with the Joker messing around and having fun with his newfound fortune is great, and honestly quite funny. Also, when Bruce talks to the Joker, well, actually someone disguised as the Joker, it's hilarious, especially this bit.
The last time we met, you tried to throw me off a building.
I did? Well, that was so long ago.
It was last month.
Either way, this is a fun little episode that doesn't take itself seriously, and I enjoy that quite a bit sometimes. Goes above Never Fear, but below Double Talk. Ooh, Clayface is back. And this episode in particular starts with a young girl as she's being chased by a few bikers, and honestly, it's made to look like the bikers are... But Robin comes in and takes out the bikers, and then she runs away as the police arrive, and Robin catches up to her to help her. But apparently there are robberies going on with a new figure committing these robberies as Robin is thinking of the girl that he ran into. Robin explains to Batman what happened as Batman tells him to keep his head clear and that one slip can be too many. Robin runs into the girl again as he ends up saving her from a car, and she explains to Robin that there's a man after her, and since she doesn't remember her name, Robin calls her Annie. Annie, you okay? You okay? You okay, Annie? We see that the man after her is the same figure committing these new robberies, as Robin tries to fight him and Batman comes in to help. The man eventually gets away after Batman and Robin were chasing him, and Robin decides to go out for himself to try and help Annie, whilst Batman studies some particles left over from a bench the man destroyed. Robin sees Annie again as Batman finds out who the man is, and we cut back to Robin where they find out that it's Clayface, and Annie's just a part of Clayface that has become sentient as Clayface used it to see if it was safe. Clayface is then defeated after Annie jumps back into Clayface to give Robin the chance to escape as the place explodes after Robin let a flammable liquid get on Clayface. Honestly, I think the episode develops Robin and Annie's relationship really well, but I think they could have done a little more with making a sacrifice have a bit more of an emotional impact. It's a good episode, but in that regard, I feel like a little more could have been done. It goes below Double Talk. This episode starts with a fashion show as a new villain called Calendar Girl causes havoc at the show with her magic mic henchman. She takes the announcer and then bounces from the fashion show. And also, is this just the Calendar Man but gender swapped and got a completely different outfit? Who knows, but let's find out. So throughout the episode, Calendar Girl targets different conventions and shows as she takes announcers at each show or convention. Batman comes in to stop her as she gets away. Batman's given the date of August 7th. Batman goes back to the Batcave and finds out that Calendar Girl's a woman named Paige Monroe, as she's targeting Gotham Motors and Donna Day after they both dropped her. Throughout the episode, Batman tries to find out her whereabouts as she then attacks the Gotham World Broadcasting as they're giving a presentation. Batman and Batgirl try to stop Calendar Girl as she then leads him into a giant robot T-Rex and they're left with the final date of October 27th. Batgirl then finds out that she's hiding out in an old abandoned nightclub as Batman and Batgirl take down Calendar Girl as the episode ends with her seeing her own face and being disgusted by her appearance. A solid episode, and I actually quite like the new villain in the show. I should also mention that the plain white mask is actually pretty cool, and how she changes the color of her outfit is pretty neat, and to be honest, I think the black in the final confrontation looks the best. Just above Joker's millions. This episode starts with Tim as he's bored in a museum approaching someone that looks like a child, but they reveal that they're on their own. We find out that this bloke's name is Carrion as he bids on an item worth $100,000 as he goes back and forth in a bidding war with a man named Mr. Blood. Bruce beats them both by betting $1 million on the item as Clarion seems like an asshole to Mr. Blood, and after that Bruce talks to Mr. Blood. Bruce actually placed the bet so Mr. Blood can get the item, and apparently Clarion turned his parents into mice, which is messed up since his partner in crime is a cat. I guess we can assume that his cat ate his parents? But Clarion's cat comes in to steal the item and turns into an anthropomorphic cat as we see Mr. Blood transforms into Etrigan, basically turning into a demon. Now throughout the episode, Batman and Robin have to stop Clarion's plans as we find out that the item in the museum has some kind of magic. We see that the item actually splits Mr. Blood from Etrigan as Etrigan goes to Clarion as his new master. Clarion causes havoc across Gotham, basically getting Etrigan to do whatever the hell he wants him to do, such as getting rid of a train and destroying buildings. As Batman tries to confront Clarion, Batman has Mr. Blood's help with trying to get rid of Clarion's spells. Etrigan then goes to end Mr. Blood as Batman manages to get the item that pulls Etrigan back into Mr. Blood as Etrigan comes and stops Clarion. A really cool episode that just tries a bunch of different shit with the whole magic thing. Also find it cool that they're just using an obscure character from the 70s in this episode to make him an interesting character, with how Etrigan's attached to Mr. Blood, and that's the reason that Mr. Blood barely ages. I know a lot more people know who Etrigan is now, but back then not many people did. Just something completely different for the show and I really enjoy it for that. Goes above never fear. Hot damn, this episode's action-packed. It doesn't mess around as the episode starts with GCPD chasing after Batman and Robin in the Batcave. All of Gotham police are hunting Batman and Robin as the chase even goes to water as Batman and Robin get into the Batboat and eventually get away by hiding in a cave. But now we get more context for how the hell things ended up this way as Batman explains the whole thing. One night, Scarecrow took control of the city hall as Scarecrow ends up knocking Batgirl off the side of a skyscraper as she lands onto a police car Gordon is in below. Gordon sees that Batgirl's actually Barbara as Batman approaches Gordon where Gordon's mad at Batman for not telling him who she was. Bullock pulls a gun on Batman after this and then all of GCPD start to chase Batman and Robin. Gordon quickly finds out that Bruce is Batman then decides to try and break into Wayne Manor. We go back to where we left off where Dick is arrested as he tries to get supplies from his loft, and Tim tries to find another way out as Bruce tells him to leave him behind because no one will blame Tim for what's happened. I find it quite funny that a few of Batman's villains decide to use the situation for their own gain as they say Batman's traumatized them and are suing him for $1 billion. Gordon's desperate to get Batman and decides to hire Bane to take him down before the mayor can let go of Gordon. So Bane ends up attacking Batman as Batman's watching Barbara's funeral from afar. We then find out that all these events are taking place in a dream that Barbara is having as Bane knocks both Batman and Gordon off the side of the building. We find out that Scarecrow got Barbara with his fear toxin as she got knocked out from that night before with fear toxin. The episode ends with Barbara talking to Gordon, trying to apply that she's Batgirl when Gordon gives this amazing speech.
Barbara, please. Sweetheart, you're capable of making your own decisions. You don't need me to approve or even acknowledge them. And in this case, I can't. All you need to know is I love you. All of you.
This is so wholesome. Also, on that note, this episode's amazing. I know it's all a dream sequence, but it really is just a massive what-if situation where what if Barbara passed as Batgirl and Gordon found out that she was Batgirl? What if GCPD chased down Batman? And honestly, this episode does it so damn well. And I think the whole episode being a dream sequence makes sense here, as it would be insane for the episode to actually take place in the normal timeline. This is one of the best episodes in the show. It's fantastic. This episode starts with Bruce taking a woman to a performance of a singer named Cassidy when she also runs into Barbara at the show. We see that Cassidy has someone named Garfield working for her and says that he's gone after this show, as we hear that they used to date. Garfield then gets shitty and accidentally turns up the fire too much on the stage as Cassidy's stuck in the middle of the fire. Garfield goes nuts and just turns the controls up all the way on purpose as Batgirl comes in and saves Cassidy. We see that Garfield has a plan to do something against Cassidy as he makes his own villain suit and becomes Firefly by attacking her next show. Batman and Batgirl come in to stop Firefly as they manage to get Cassidy out of the burning building as Firefly gets away. I honestly fuck with the Firefly outfit. Even though it's all just silver, I think it's pretty neat. Batman talks to Cassidy to find out where Firefly is, but all he gets from her is that they dated for a while, so obviously he wants revenge. Batman and Batgirl investigate Garfield's hideout as Batgirl accidentally flips a switch that blows the place up. Eventually Firefly gets Cassidy after taking her from a recording session, as Batman goes to take out Firefly with a fresh new suit that helps him against Firefly's fire weapons. Why does this suit just look like a Mr. Freeze suit but as a bat suit instead? It's honestly quite strange. They fight it out, and as Firefly is going through his plan of burning all of Gotham, Batman manages to stop his plans after the gel that's meant to help burn all of Gotham doesn't go through Gotham. The episode ends with Cassidy out at dinner with her assistant as she has a fear of fire because someone's cooking something behind them. I don't have much of an opinion on this episode. It's alright, and I do like how Firefly looks, but it seems weird that he became a villain after being a pyrotechnics expert with concerts as he was in a relationship with who he did pyrotech work for. I know the character's a pyrotechnics expert, but I feel like it could have been done in a more convincing way with a better motive. Goes above You Scratch My Back, but below Holiday Nights. The last episode of Season 5, and it has both Killer Croc and Baby Doll in this episode, with the theme of Baby Doll's show playing at the start of the episode. We see that Mary's working as a hotel attendant, and she goes back to her room and sees Croc being prosecuted on TV, and also both Croc and Baby Doll have different voice actors playing their characters, which aren't bad, but I do think they aren't as good as the original voices. So Croc escapes as he's about to be prosecuted, and Mary ends up going into where Croc is, where she sees Batman take him down. Mary ends up breaking Croc out as he's being transferred into a prison, as Croc ends up teaming up with Baby Doll as they commit heist throughout Gotham, and they seem to be a thing. Also, this line cracks me up, and it's honestly a very valid response.
What do you suppose they do on a date?
I don't want to think about it.
So throughout the episode, Croc ends up going to see other women as Mary finds out what he's doing and decides to blow up all of Gotham to take him down with her and Gotham. As Baby Doll's going through with their plan, Batman and Batgirl end up stopping them both and stopping the reactor that was going to blow up all of Gotham. This episode really doesn't do much for me. Also, Croc oddly feels a bit out of character here, as I would have thought that he would have tried to end up eating Baby Doll similar to Sideshow, where he decides to rob the people that took him in. Also feel like Baby Doll shouldn't have come back, as her story was already complete in her own episode, and I really thought that the episode told its own singular story really damn well, so to me this episode just feels pointless. Not bad, but probably the worst of the season. I'm pleasantly surprised with the quality of this season because of all the redesigns and all that stuff. The quality still holds up. Some of the redesigns don't work in my opinion, but some of it does really work out well, as the new revamped designs make them look more menacing or just cooler. As the episodes go, there were pretty solid episodes, with the only really weak episode being Lovers at Croc, and obviously the big standout here is Over the Edge. Out of the seasons, I can say this one was pretty consistent, so I really wonder how the last season of the show goes. Damn, this season starts with introducing a new villain known as Roxy Rocket, as it starts with her robbing rich people on a blimp. She jumps out to make her escape as a rocket of hers comes to stop her fall as she easily takes out the police. She gets away after Batman tries to stop her, and now Batman has to find out who she is and how to stop her. Batman easily finds out that Roxy Rocket is a woman named Roxanne that used to be a stunt woman for Hollywood films. Now she does what she does as no insurance companies wanted to help her after she kept trying to one-up her stunts. We see that Roxy's working for the Penguin as she's stealing items for the Penguin, and eventually Batman and Batgirl find out that she's working for the Penguin. Batman then goes to interrogate the Penguin as he holds him over the edge of his apartment and tells him off screen where she is. Batman then takes Roxy down as he finds her hideout as the Penguin's henchwoman failed to take her down, and eventually Batman manages to take Roxy down after she tries to make her escape. The ending where Batman takes her down is kind of funny as she just challenges her to see if she'll really be as daring as she acts when a rocket's about to go into a canyon wall, where Batman just waits until they need to get off the cliff or they'll perish. It's a fun little episode with a new villain, but to be honest, I don't find this villain that interesting, as they're basically just a stunt woman that commits crimes and that's it. Another new original character. Alright, okay, let's see how this goes. This episode starts with an agricultural expo where Farmer Brown shows off growth hormones he's invented by showing this massive cow thing. It breaks out and starts to wreak havoc, and after Bruce manages to stop the cow, Farmer Brown's sentenced to stop his experiments, and we skip a year into the future when we see giant grasshoppers wreaking havoc in Gotham. Batman comes in to stop them, and they end up falling apart as Batman thinks that the person behind this decided to make them immune to poisons and make them fall apart when he wants them to. So throughout the episode, Farmer Brown starts to send out more and more animals, as Batman, Robin, and Batgirl have to put a stop to this. Honestly, the weirdest part of this episode is when a goat breaks into Gordon's office as Batman tries to tell Gotham who's behind this, and this is quite funny.
Hey, he ate my donut!
But as Bullock gets taken into Farmer Brown's building, he's used as food for a giant pig as Batman, Batgirl, and Robin put a stop to Farmer Brown. This episode's honestly pretty average, and I just don't really care about the villain at all. It feels like the typical formula the more average episodes fall under, where the villain attacks 3 times, first time they attack and get away, second they manage to capture Batman, and third time's the final fight of the episode. Goes below the first episode. So Catwoman's back, and it starts with Catwoman being chased by a group of men with swords as she stole a cat statue from them. But these guys that are chasing after Catwoman literally have claws like Wolverine, but aren't near as cool since these guys are just thugs for someone. Catwoman then breaks into the Batmobile as Batman gets back and Batman's going to take her to jail as the same thugs in black chase after them. Batman and Catwoman get away as Catwoman agrees to hand everything in she stole back into their owners if Batman helps her. The leader of this supposed cult is a man named Thomas Blake, so now throughout the episode they have to deal with the cult and get to Thomas Blake. But Catwoman then manages to get taken in by the cult as Thomas Blake starts to tell her about the cult. Eventually he lets her get out of her restraints as she tells her story as well, as Thomas wants her to take a part of an initiation. Batman tries to rescue Catwoman, and as he's about to leave, she ends up knocking him out. But Batman then gets taken captive to be sacrificed to a giant cat. Catwoman goes in to help Batman as he's getting his ass kicked, and eventually they beat the giant cat by getting Catwoman to make the cat calm down and attack Thomas and his thugs. Eventually Thomas starts to attack them both as Batman manages to make quick work of him by letting the cat knock him out. We see that Selina fled to Paris after the episode, as she has a lot of jewelry that she stole and a lot of it being from the cult before they were taken into the authorities. This episode's alright, a little bit of an adventure, but it's nothing amazing. Thomas Blake isn't really that interesting of a character, he's just similar to Raish but more bland, but obviously the best part of this episode is seeing Bruce and Selina's relationship grow. Honestly, top of the list. Animal Act starts with Batman, Robin and Nightwing on a rooftop as they see a man climbing on a signal tower. As they go to apprehend him, he starts to walk like a gorilla as he manages to escape by jumping across rooftops. They find out that it's a gorilla named Peaches as Dick recognizes the gorilla back when he was a part of the Flying Graysons as Dick and Tim go to visit the circus he grew up at. They see Peaches as Peaches is acting more friendly in her cage as they run into a woman named Miranda, which already seems pretty suspicious. Batman quickly finds out that everywhere they visited in the last 6 months, there has been a robbery that has occurred. They then hear that a robbery is going on at the moment. As they go to apprehend who's doing this, they find 2 bears in the facility stealing stuff. They face off against the bears, but one of them suspiciously pulls off some circus moves as they manage to stop the bears. The bears go back to the circus as Dick manages to talk to Miranda, where she believes that someone's messing with the animals. That night, we then see the clown at the circus is the Mad Hatter in disguise as he uses Miranda's animals against her, and Batman and Nightwing go to stop him. They free Miranda, and as Batman and Nightwing go to apprehend the Mad Hatter, Miranda and everyone else in the circus go to stop Batman and Nightwing as they're under his control. All the members of the circus break out of their mind control after Batman breaks the Mad Hatter's hat, and eventually Mad Hatter gets taken out by Batman and Nightwing as Peaches the gorilla jumps on the Mad Hatter. Just another average episode. Just a bit of fun yet again, but I feel like this episode is very similar in quality so far, with all the other episodes being alright and just a little bit of fun. It's not bad, but it could have been better, so I would put this just below Cult of the Cat. This episode starts with Robin taking out some thugs as Nightwing then comes in to help after a thug puts him in a trash can. Nightwing talks to Robin, where Robin thinks that Nightwing acts exactly the same as Batman, and Nightwing then explains to Robin what happened. It starts with Dick graduating as Barbara and Alfred are there in attendance, but Bruce isn't there as he's out taking out thugs whilst Dick's graduation is on. Dick explains to Barbara after the graduation that he wants to be his own man, and Batman calls for his help whilst on his date, where Dick has to come up with a random excuse to go and help him. So Dick goes to help Batman as they go to stop the Joker, but he gets away as they see a man witness all of this and they go to interrogate him. but they interrogate him right in front of his family as they seem to be scared shitless, and Dick tells Batman to stop this and do it another time. Batman says no to that as Dick then leaves because he doesn't want to be a part of it. Dick goes to Barbara's apartment as he wants to talk to her about it but feels like he can't, and then Barbara goes to confront Bruce about this and then he shows her that he's Batman. Bruce knows that Barbara's Batgirl as he actually took her down to the Batcave for Dick's sake, and as this is going on, the Joker broadcasts a message where he's going to make it impossible for planes to fly safely over Gotham and he's asking for $40 million. Batman and Batgirl then go to stop the Joker's plans once again, as Dick sees that Bruce has gone in the Batmobile after he tries to ask Alfred where they are. So Dick suits up and catches up to them as Batgirl gets knocked off the roof and Dick manages to save her, and they go up to stop the Joker's plans and take him into the authorities. Dick talks to Barbara as he figures out that she's Batgirl, and after saying that she volunteered, Dick says that you'll think that you volunteered, but really all he does is pull your strings and make you think that. Batman tells Dick to wait, but he just does this. Holy shit, I really didn't expect that at all. But we get out of the flashback as Nightwing sees that the man Batman interrogated in the flashback now has a job as a security guard at Wayne Tower, which shows that maybe he really did have a change of heart. The episode ends with Nightwing tagging along with Robin to go to the Bat Signal. Finally, a really good episode. I'm glad because every episode this season has felt so similar in quality so far, and this episode's really stood out. It really develops how and why Dick decided to go on his own, and it's really damn good. Easily goes at the top of the season. So this episode's really different to everything else in the show. Mainly because the episode has kids telling different stories about how they see Batman and Robin, with the first story being based off the New Adventures of Batman. Remember that animated series from the 70s? The first story has the Joker robbing a music center, and as he's about to steal a sheet of music, Batman and Robin come in to stop the Joker. Batman and Robin get captured onto a giant piano as the Joker plays the piano trying to crush them both, but eventually they get out and stop the Joker. They say that this story is bogus, and then as they're walking, they make fun of a kid named Joel's version of Batman, and I wonder who that's making fun of. But the kids look through an abandoned building, as the girl in the group of kids actually looks like Carrie's Robin, saying that she knows what the real Batman's like, as she tells a story which is literally a bit of The Dark Knight Returns, where Batman and Robin go take out the mutant gang. Eventually, Batman faces off with the mutant leader, and the mutant leader almost drowns Batman in the mud, as Robin distracts him and Batman comes out to kick his ass. After that story, the kids decide to say that they need to go back home as they see Batman going around Gotham until they see him go into a building. They try to find him, but they see Firefly instead as they try to use their flashlight to get Batman to come in, as Firefly sees them and starts to make the place burn down, as Batman comes in to stop Firefly. Batman makes quick work with him, and the episode ends with the kids talking about Batman. And this is a good episode too. Definitely something different since they have kids telling their own stories about Batman, and they imitate different Batman media, and that's really cool. I like this episode a lot because I think they imitate those styles really damn well, and having those styles being shown through how the kids see Batman's a really smart idea. Goes below old wounds. So is this just like the episode of Harley and Ivy? I don't know, but let's find out. But we start with a new character called Livewire, where she manages to get some electrical current and make her escape from a police van. Batman's out for the next 48 hours as Batgirl's driving the Batmobile where she goes to stop Livewire. She electrifies the car as we see Kara, Superman's cousin, which is Supergirl, is chatting on the phone as Batman then rings her to tell her that Clark needs to hear that Livewire's escaped and is in Gotham. So she suits up and goes into Gotham to help Batgirl take her down. I personally find Livewire's voice quite annoying, but now throughout the episode, Batgirl and Supergirl team up to deal with Livewire, but Livewire ends up teaming up with Harley and Ivy. They decide to break into a mall where they steal a bunch of money, but Harley tries to hit everything and fails to get anywhere with it, where Livewire makes Harley into a thug. Supergirl and Batgirl try to stop them at the mall as Batgirl uses a dust on Livewire to make her not shoot out electricity, as Ivy and Harley manage to stop them and get away. So we then see Kara and Barbara form more of a relationship with one another as they plan their next move, but we see that the trio are in the Iceberg Lounge as they decide to wreak havoc there. Batgirl and Supergirl catch up to the iceberg, but the Penguin tells them where they may be hiding as they go to apprehend them. They end up beating them as the trio get electrocuted after Livewire lands in water. The episode ends with Kara and Batgirl watching TV as Bullock says they're amateurs but they show potential, with this nice little animation error where the characters are sticking out of the TV frame. This episode's okay. It's mainly an episode to show that Metropolis as well as Superman and Supergirl are a thing in this universe. I think that the Superman the Animated Series episode where Batman and Superman meet up for the first time aired first, so Superman is already developed in this universe, but since I'm doing it in airing order, it does make less sense how they would show this first instead of Batman and Superman meeting up for the first time. Above Critters but below the ultimate thrill. So this episode starts with Veronica's wedding where Bruce talks to her partner for a while. We also see that Barbara and Tim are at the wedding as Tim leaves. Bruce seems to have a woman named Susan that he met at the wedding on his mind as they're taking down thugs at a music store, and it's honestly quite sweet to see. Tim sees that his mind is elsewhere throughout the night as Bruce then meets up with Susan again and gives her a set of her favourite flowers and proposes to her. Damn, that was fast. Bruce then tells Dick, Barbara and Tim that things are changing and that Bruce isn't going to be Batman anymore. We then cut to their wedding as Dick really thinks that he'll suit up as Batman again within the next month, but we hear that Veronica's in trouble as we see Veronica's partner getting violent with them. But as Veronica traps herself in the laser-guarded room, her partner walks through the lasers to get her, and we see that he isn't human. Bruce then gets there in time to save Veronica as she's taken into the ambulance, and Bruce hires security guards to watch over her as he tells her partner all this. Bruce tells Batgirl and Robin to keep tabs on her, as we then see that her partner is actually a plant that Ivy created. Batgirl and Robin go in to stop her plans as they see all this unfold at her lair, as they even have to catch up to the cruise Bruce is on as they figure out that their partner as well as all the other partners have green eyes. He finds out that she's a plant as she manages to tangle him up in a vine as he figures out exactly what's happened. Everyone on the cruise is panicking as Ivy has destroyed the engines on the boat and ends up getting aboard to tell everyone that the boat will end up exploding and that her plants that she created will take up their company so Ivy will have control of their companies. Batman, Batgirl and Robin end up taking out Ivy and ruining her plans as they take out the plants and manage to get the people off the ship. I really do think that this episode should have dived more into the fact that it's hard for Bruce to accept happiness, and obviously a good example of that is the masterpiece Mask of the Phantasm. I still do think that the episode does touch on it a little bit and does it well, so this goes above Cult of the Cat but below Legends of the Dark Knight. This episode has a few villains and it even starts with Penguin, Killer Croc and Two-Face negotiating deals about their items they've given to the Penguin. Then a new villain called the Judge comes in to end the Penguin after he sees him guilty for jibbing Two-Face and Croc. This villain is such a freaking cool design with the all black with the Judge's wig, it is honestly threatening, especially with the opera music accompanying him. Bruce finds out about all this and now he has to find out who this person is that tried to off the Penguin, as he seems to be taking the law into his own hands. As Croc attacks a bank truck, the Judge catches up and whacks him with a hammer as he lists off the crimes Croc has committed. The Judge ends up knocking Croc off the top of the bridge as Batman comes in and saves him. We find out that Mr. Corcoran is in cahoots with the Judge as they partner up where he praises him in the press as Corcoran gets more attention. After he says that Two-Face will be next, Batman decides to watch over Two-Face as the Judge sets up a trap for him that Batman gets into as well after trying to talk to Two-Face. The Judge tries to gas them as they manage to get out after Two-Face kicks Batman, and now the Judge is going to target Batman as he can't get far without dealing with him. Batman interrogates Corcoran as he explains his motive to working with the Judge as he then leaves as Two-Face then knocks out Corcoran. So now both Batman and Two-Face are after the Judge as the Judge shows up after Two-Face holds Corcoran hostage and the Judge turns on Corcoran as he lied to him. Batman shows up and puts an end to the Judge, and holy shit, this music slaps. We find out that the Judge is actually Two-Face as Batman unmasks him in front of Corcoran as he's a third personality in Harvey's mind. This episode slaps so hard. I really do think that this is an underrated gem, and the Judge is such an awesome villain. He's a very menacing villain, and I think that the twist that it's Two-Face is honestly quite smart, because Harvey has multiple personality disorder, so who or what says that he can't have more than two personalities, even when the other personality was only created from his anger? Goes just below old wounds. Beware the Creeper has a new villain called the Creeper. Not that one, but the episode starts with Jack Ryder making a documentary about the Joker. The Joker shows up as Ryder's talking about the Joker, and he ends up pushing Ryder into a vat of chemicals as Batman shows up to stop the Joker. Ryder ends up being sucked down a drain as the chemicals get drained out into the river, and the Joker escapes, and Batman and Robin try to find Ryder, but with no luck. We see that Ryder's still alive, and he's now become the new villain, the Creeper. Honestly, this character just feels like the Mask, but not nearly as cool and without the powers of the Mask. The Joker gets pissed about how someone's stealing his routine, and this definitely awoke something in someone. Definitely not the first time that this has happened in the show. We then see the Creeper find out where the Joker is through his thugs, and is that Billy West? Holy shit, it actually is. He plays all of the Joker's thugs. But Harley ends up seeing the Creeper after seeing the commotion going on in the bar, as the Creeper seems to have the hots for Harley. Harley plays on that, so she ends up dropping a statue on him, but he seems to be unharmed as he follows her all the way back to the Joker's lair. Batman and Robin catch up as they have to deal with the Joker, Harley, and the Creeper, as the Creeper goes on a car chase to get Harley. They end up crashing as Batman takes the Joker back to Arkham and also manages to cure Ryder with a patch on his arm that Ryder takes off after they leave. I don't really think the Creeper's that interesting of a character since it really just feels like a rip-off of The Mask, especially Jim Carrey's version from the 1994 film The Mask. Besides that, I think it's quite funny that the Joker's scared by the Creeper and he thinks that he's an absolute lunatic, but it's an average episode. Above chemistry, but below Legends of the Dark Knight. the last episode of the whole show, and goddamn, let me say that this is absolutely one of the best episodes of the whole show. It starts with Harley and the Joker as they kidnap Gordon as he's going for a dental check. Batman then comes in and we really see how abusive he is to Harley. Also love this cheeky little play on May the Force be with you with
May the floss be with you.
very fitting coming from this version of the Joker. Also, this episode definitely implies that the Joker fucks, as Harley tries to get the Joker to rev up his Harley as he's planning a heist. The Joker talks about a plan he had where he would have Batman tied up as he was put into a piranha tank, as the Joker kicks Harley out and she tells the story about how her and the Joker met. We see that Harley was a psychiatrist at Arkham as the Joker manages to slowly play her like a fiddle over 3 months. Harley really feels for the Joker's story about he tried to impress his father with a joke after going to the circus, and Harley sees the Joker as a tortured soul crying for love and acceptance, and that Batman's the issue. She even explains that to the Joker, feels for the Joker, as after he escaped and ended up back in Arkham all injured, she decides to suit up as Harley Quinn to break the Joker out of Arkham. We then see that Harley decides to bait Batman by making him meet Harley on the docks where she's going to give him the Joker's plans, but Harley ends up knocking out Batman. She then sets up the trap the Joker was talking about, but hangs Batman upside down so he sees the piranhas as if they're smiling. Harley explains the whole plan to Batman, and as she says that she'll be happy with the Joker, Batman starts to laugh and gets creeped out. Batman tries to explain that he's just playing her and even explains the backstory that he uses to gain sympathy points, but Batman tells her that if she ends him without the Joker seeing it, he will never believe it. Harley rings the Joker, and as he then meets her, he gets very aggressive with her and even knocks her out of the window and lets Batman out, and even decides to try and off Batman as he ends up getting out of the restraints. Batman catches up to the Joker and he explains to the Joker that Harley came closer to offing him than he ever has as they fight on the top of the train, and the Joker gets knocked off the train. The episode ends with Harley in Arkham as she says that she won't fall for him again, but then quickly changes her mind after seeing a flower with a note from the Joker on it.
Yep, this episode's fantastic, and what a way to end the show.
It really just made an absolutely awesome and iconic backstory for a new character that the show invented, and it's really good stuff and really shows how much the Joker will use people for his own personal gain. The backstory has always consistently been the same, where the Joker messes with their mind to turn her into Harley Quinn. It's that good of a backstory. This is without a doubt the top of this list for the season. This season was honestly really mixed. It has some of the absolute best episodes of the whole series with Old Wounds and Mad Love, but also has some pretty mediocre and boring episodes like Critters and Girls Night Out.
Still, either way, it was very interesting to see how the show ended, and it definitely ended on a very high note.
So, I've finished the whole show. I'm honestly glad that I decided to go back and watch the whole show, as I really do think that there are no bad episodes of this show. Who thought that this show would be such quality, since originally Warner Bros. Greenlit the show to capitalize off the success of the '89 Tim Burton Batman film? I love how all the creators of the show really try to make sure that this show isn't the same as the Tim Burton Batman films, with messages constantly being spread around saying not to copy the movie. They really went and did something different but similar, and the show works so well because of it, since it really understands Batman and his rogues gallery inside and out. So yes, this is now the time where I rank every episode from worst to best, and honestly, this show ranges from about a 5 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10, so I definitely don't think any episode is bad. But at the bottom of the list, we have Moon of the Wolf, Prophecy of Doom, The Cat and the Claw Part 2, I've Got Batman in My Basement, The Cat and the Claw Part 1, Pretty Poison, Eternal Youth, The Cape and Cowl Conspiracy, POV, The Terrible Trio, Demon's Quest Part 1, Love is a Croc, Critters, The Underdwellers, Cat Scratch Fever, Batgirl Returns, Appointment in Crime Alley, The Lion and the Unicorn, Heart of Steel Part 1, Heart of Steel Part 2,
Tiger, Tiger,
The Forgotten, Catwalk, Off Balance, Girls Night Out, The Worrymen, The Demon's Quest Part 2, Avatar, Terror in the Sky, Zatanna, Night of the Ninja, The Ultimate Thrill, Make 'em Laugh, Blind as a Bat, Cold Comfort, Animal Act, Fear of Victory, Cult of the Cat, Be a Clown, Vendetta, Joker's Wild, The Mechanic, Paging the Crime Doctor, See No Evil, You Scratch My Back, A Bullet for Bullock, Time Out a Joint, Torch Song, Chemistry, Day of the Samurai, Sideshow, Beware the Creeper, The Clock King, Showdown, Harley and Ivy, What is Reality, Lock Up, Christmas with the Joker, Holiday Nights, It's Never Too Late, Sins of the Father, His Silicon Soul, Never Fear, Fire from Olympus, The Strange Secret of Bruce Wayne, The Demon Within, Shadow of the Bat Part 2, Shadow of the Bat Part 1, Joker's Millions, Mean Seasons, Nothing to Fear, House and Garden, Growing Pains, If You're So Smart, Why Aren't You Rich, Mad as a Hatter, Legends of the Dark Knight, Riddler's Reform, Double Talk, The Last Laugh, Bane, Read My Lips, Mudslide, Dreams in Darkness, On Leather Wings, The Laughing Fish, Second Chance, Joker's Favor, Deep Freeze, Birds of a Feather, Judgment Day, Feet of Clay Part 1, Harley Quinn, I Am the Night, Baby Doll, Old Wounds, Harley's Holiday, Feet of Clay Part 2, Robin's Reckoning Part 2, Robin's Reckoning Part 1, The Man Who Killed Batman, Trial, Over the Edge, Perchance the Dream, Mad Love, Beware the Grey Ghost, Almost Got Him, Heart of Ice, Two-Face Part 2, and lastly at the top we have Two-Face Part 1. I was honestly worried as the show started with a two-parter that I really didn't care about, and both parts ranked in the bottom 5 episodes of the show, but they really came through after that with some absolutely fantastic episodes such as Heart of Ice and the Two-Face two-parter. Obviously this show isn't the only show that takes place in the universe, as after this show, a few different shows spawned from it, such as Superman the Animated Series, which started between seasons 4 and 5, and from there came Justice League Unlimited, Static Shock, Batman Beyond, and the one no one remembers, the Zeta Project. Hey, maybe I'll end up doing another video like this where I talk about another series I grew up with, such as like Superman the Animated Series, Justice League, or Justice League Unlimited, or even stuff I started watching when I was a bit older like Static Shock or Batman Beyond. Or maybe you'll end up talking about Batman animated movies that take place in the same universe, as I mentioned, Mask of the Phantasm and Batman Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero. I'm honestly really glad that this show still managed to hold its quality even after working on the show for over 5 years, as the new Batman Adventures ended in 1999, and Batman the Animated Series started in 1992. It's just honestly amazing stuff, and obviously with this show it really defined both Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill as the definitive versions of Batman the Joker. I will always love this show, as without it, I don't think I'd be as interested in Batman as I am, since this show is a massive part of my childhood. I think there's only one way to end this video.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman!